Chapter 26. He accepted the challenge from Li Xian and agreed to duel in the training room tomorrow. Then, Li Xian left, provoking Li Xian. Only cowards would escape. As a man, he hoped that he would not break his promise. Li Xian laughed. How could he be scared by this girl? White snake spirit, right? Li Xian left the playground and went to the store to buy a bottle of Realgar wine. Li Xian put the wine into several small bottles and carried them in his waist pocket, finally gaining the confidence to fight. As a child of aristocracy, that girl was raised with tons of resources. The training she received was not comparable to that of ordinary people. In addition, she was 6 years older than himself and was also a great soul master. It makes sense for Li Xian to prepare some rice wine to boost his courage. After leaving the academy store, Li Xian did not go to the classroom to study. UXI had already helped him to ask for leave. Li Xian went directly to the grade director's office, wanting to find Director Luo, intending to take him to the training room to test his combat power. A female teacher shook her head. Director Ma is not here, he went out. Li Xian arrived at the office but found it empty. As the leader of the junior college, Director Ma is very busy and it is indeed not easy to see him. Hey, you are Li Xian, right? I recognize you. The female teacher had just met Li Xian at noon. She thought he looked familiar, so she pointed at him and chuckled. Li Xian nodded slightly embarrassedly. Now he is quite a celebrity in the Seoul Academy. Of course, the reason for his fame is very bad. The female teacher thought of something and handed a letter to Li Xian. This is what Dean Su asked Director Luo to give you. I heard him mention it today. He was curious about why you learned blacksmithing. Since you are here, I will pass it to you on his behalf. After taking the letter, Li Xian remembered Dean Su's promise yesterday. This was a letter of recommendation he wrote to an old friend in the iron shop. It was Li Xian's request to go to the iron shop to learn forging. Thank you, teacher. Li Xian left the office with the letter. He did not expect that he did not meet Director Luo on this trip, but gained other things instead. The purpose of learning blacksmithing is to make hidden weapons. However, given the current situation, the apprenticeship can only be postponed. He has to deal with the trouble with Li Xian tomorrow, so he won't have time until Sunday. After Li Xian went downstairs, he threw his teaching assistant uniform in the training room. However, he did not stay here any longer. He left the Seoul Academy directly and went to Nottingham Junior College to look for Xiao San. When the two were still in the Holy Spirit Village, they often sparred with each other, with each taking a 50-50 chance of winning or losing. However, Tang San won more often. After all, he was more proficient in the mysterious heaven skill and the Tang sect awakening. Tang San's boxing and kicking skills are top-notch. Since Director Luo was not here, Li Xian couldn't find anyone else to practice with him for the time being, so he thought of finding Xiao San to practice his boxing skills with. Oh, and the rabbit next to him, the soul beast Xiao Wu, has mastered some pretty good soft skills, you can ask for advice. He is what is known as a master teacher. Li Xian prepared for battle and learned from everyone. Moreover, he learned from Dean Su today that Li Xian is not only a soul master, but also a black belt master who is good at using judo. If he wants to fight against judo, he needs the guidance of Xiao Wu who has the same skills as him. Nottingham Primary School. After Li Xian asked for instructions from the security guard, he went in directly. It was now afternoon class time. Li Xian found the first grade classroom and stood outside waiting for a while. The bell rang for the end of get out of class, and as the teacher from Nottingham City College walked out of the classroom, Li Xian jumped straight in. Xiao San, you are still in class. Come out with me. I have something to talk to you about. The classroom was messy and noisy, but Li Xian locked onto the familiar little face at first sight. Tang San was a little surprised by Li Xian's sudden arrival. Li Xian, why are you here? Next to him, Xiao Wu, who was sleeping soundly on the desk, twitched her pink ears slightly and jumped up. Who's here? Li Xian burst out laughing, called the two out of the classroom, and explained the whole thing. Under the shade of the tree, Xiao Wu waved her fists excitedly. Great, great. I also know a little bit of judo, can you learn from me? Tang San looked embarrassed. Xiao Wu, you didn't use enough strength. Li Xian is my good friend, so let me do it. Don't be fussy. You two have similar abilities. I know what to do. Xiao Wu clapped her hands and stood in front of Li Xian excitedly. She tapped her toes lightly, put her hands behind her back, and looked expectant. That delicate pink little face, with a bright smile, seems to be glowing. Then, thank you very much. Li Xian nodded. You're welcome. The big black eyes turned cunningly, and as soon as the voice fell, Xiao Wu's heels had already passed over her head and appeared in front of Li Xian. Li Xian's pupils shrank and he subconsciously raised his arms to block, but in doing so, his chest suddenly felt empty and was grabbed by Xiao Wu's two small hands. Oops. Li Xian realized that he had fallen into a trap and tried to retreat. At this time, Xiao Wu clenched her hands tightly, and her nimble body followed up. With a backward flip, her soft thighs were already riding on Li Xian's shoulders. With his eyes wide open, Li Xian had almost anticipated the outcome. Before he could even utter the word wait, Xiao Wu pressed her head with both hands, her whole body tumbling in the air, grabbing his collar in reverse, and stepping one heel right on the center of Li Xian's waist. Li Xian's face turned pale and he quickly reached out to pull Xiao Wu. However, the soft and smooth arm was like wax, and Li Xian couldn't hold it at all. Instead, it slipped out of his palm. The scenery in front of Li Xian was spinning, and the whole person flew backwards. Xiao Wu put one foot on the ground, and the other leg dropped gracefully from the air. She put her legs together and clapped her hands. Bow, done. Xiaosan, come pick me up. Li Xian was in the air, with no point to exert force, and when he turned his body, his face was about to hit the ground. Fortunately, at the last moment, Tang San ran over from the side and caught him with his bare hands. Call. After taking a breath, Li Xian landed on the ground with his feet. His head was still dizzy. He looked back and saw Xiao Wu giggling and leaning forward to look at him. Xiao San, she's not instructing me, she's just showing off. I won't play with her anymore. Tang San's mouth was bitter. It's good that you know. I told you that she didn't hold back. You should practice with me. Li Xian found the campus, and Tang San asked for leave directly. The two spent the entire afternoon sparring with each other. Although Tang San didn't know judo, he knew Xiao Wu. After a period of contact, he figured out the key points and taught them to Li Xian. He warned that when fighting with a jiu-jitsu master, one must pay attention to the waist and must not let the opponent grab it, especially the back and neck. Once you are captured, you fall into the hands of the opponent and can basically admit defeat. Tang San deduced a set of coping methods on his own, which could just counter and prevent these situations from happening. The reason why he explored this move was to deal with Xiao Wu. Over here, Xiao Wu watched the two people fighting enthusiastically and clapped her hands. It's my turn, it's my turn. Ahem, Xiao San, let's do it again. I'm not familiar with it yet. Okay. Snort. It's not that Li Xian dislikes her age, it's just that the girl was too harsh. It's no wonder that in the world of soul beasts face life and death struggles every day. Once they take action, they will use their strongest power to defeat their opponents. Xiao Wu is used to this lifestyle, and even if she transforms into a human, it will be difficult for her to change in a short time. Secondly, Xiao Wu doesn't seem to understand human ethics. In the fight just now, Li Xian's face was lip-synced, for fear of arousing the murderous intent of his good brother. Mistress. I have no interest in your old girl. If we continue to fight, it will really be bad if it really arouses such suspicion. When it was getting dark, the two stopped practicing. After thanking Tang San, Li Xian went straight back to the Soul School. Seeing Xiao Wuxian was full of anger, he thought to himself that Tang San would not have a peaceful day today. However, Li Xian gained a lot. First of all, after being thrown by Xiao Wu once, he learned a big lesson, that is, fake moves. To perform judo, one needs to get close to the opponent. During the duel tomorrow, if Fishia wants to attack, she will definitely find his weakness, so Li Xian is alert in his heart and must not be fooled by fake moves. Secondly, once your lower back, that is, your back, is controlled by the opponent, your body will lose its counterattack and center of gravity, because it is difficult for people to launch a powerful attack on the back. This is also a place that Fishia will target. Finally, during practice with Tang San, Li Xian also learned a lot of countermeasures. As a talented disciple of the Tang sect, Xiao San has first-rate comprehension, and the methods he used against Xiao Wu made Li Xian admire him greatly. You are worthy of being like this, even your wife is on guard against you. This also made Li Xian feel that he had made a fortune, and he had indeed found the right person today. On the way back, Li Xian recalled the practice over and over again. To be honest, he was not worried about competing with Fishia using his martial spirit. With his 10,000-year spirit ring, he was not afraid to face Fishia who was higher level than him. The reason why he was afraid of close combat judo was because of the Dean's reminder. Dean Su had warned today that the only reason he lost was due to Fishia's black belt jujitsu, and he emphasized this several times. Dean Su saw more deeply, and Li Xian believed it without a doubt. In short, Li Xian tried his best in today's training. What he needs to do next is to act according to circumstances tomorrow. The next day, at daybreak, Li Xian did not bother to practice the purple demon pupil. He got up directly and began to review yesterday's exercises. Memory is best in the early morning, allowing the body to consolidate and create muscle memory. After all, just one day of training was far from what Fishia was doing day after day, and he needed to make use of some human body mechanisms. After reviewing all of Tang San's methods, Li Xian felt that they were almost there. I glanced at the clock and saw that there was not much time left, so I went out and went to the cafeteria. It was Saturday, the school was closed, and there were basically no people in the school. Li Xian brought breakfast to Yuexi. Before going to the training room, he reminded Yuexi to practice well at home and not to run around. Li Xian didn't want Yuexi to know about his duel with Fishia, otherwise the girl would think too much. Yuexi was very obedient. After hearing what Li Xian said, she immediately nodded and agreed. She also didn't want to always hold Li Xian back, and she also felt a sense of urgency about the progress of her own cultivation. Seoul Academy, Training Room. 1v1 in the field. The surroundings were closed, and Feshia was kneeling on one side of the venue. When she heard the sound of the door opening, her narrow eyes blinked, and the corner of her small mouth outlined a beautiful arc. I didn't expect you to be on time. Hiccup. Li Xian let out a long sigh and said casually, yes, I came here after eating. Feshia stood up. Today, she was wearing a loose white training suit. Her brown wavy hair was tied up high with a red ribbon. There was no makeup on her face, but her delicate and attractive features had not yet lost the girlishness. The pure cream on her face was her light makeup. In addition to Feshia's aristocratic background, She always makes people feel her noble, elegant, and graceful temperament. She was tall, with a black belt tied around her waist, which made her boneless waist look even more slender. If it weren't for the fiery aggression in her eyes today that made her overall temperament inconsistent, Li Xian really wanted to praise her, saying that she was a nice little beauty. Please. Fija raised one hand and pointed it directly at the opposite side. Li Xian walked over and took another look, and found that Fisia had taken off her shoes and socks, with her white and tender little feet sitting under her buttocks, ready for a judo duel. Nodding, Li Xian took off his 2 shoes, revealing his relatively wheat-colored and sturdier insteps. There was a gleam of confidence in her eyes, and the corners of Fisia's mouth turned up. She tightened her belt with both hands and straightened her back. Then he stood up and bent his back towards Li Xian in front of him. Li Xian raised his eyebrows slightly, guessing that this was a kind of etiquette, so he bent his back downward. At this moment, Fisia suddenly jumped up in Li Xian's sight. Her white and tender instep enlarged in front of him, and her body jumped up behind her toes. Fisia folded her arms with her elbows pointing downward, and attacked Li Xian from top to bottom at the same time. You little bch. Subconsciously, he stretched out his legs to block the foot, and Li Xian did not retreat. Instead, he suddenly leaned forward, hugged Fisia's waist, and destroyed her center of gravity. Fisia was hugged in the air, but she was not panicked. She hit Li Xian's back hard with her elbow. Then, her 2 long legs were like calipers, locking Li Xian's upper body tightly. Even though the center of gravity was destroyed, she still locked Li Xian. Li Xian threw Fisia down to the ground, causing her back to hurt. This girl didn't hit him lightly. Even though he was in the upper half, he didn't have the advantage, as Fisia locked his head tightly, preventing him from getting up and punching. Li Xian tightened his neck, then pulled out his forearm, stretched it upward, and pressed down on Fisia's neck. Humph. You've done a lot of homework. Fisia could tell at a glance that Li Xian was prepared, otherwise how could a half-grown child know so many techniques of fighting judo? You little bch, you're trying to sneak attack me. Do you dare to fight me with your soul power? Li Xian pressed his vocal cords, and his voice sounded labored. Fisia snorted coldly, I have the advantage, why would I be provoked by you? You. Just as she was about to continue speaking, Fisia's neck was pressed down by Li Xian's forearm, interrupting her. Although Li Xian was unable to exert any strength, he was able to harass. Fisia suddenly broke free from her arms, took a deep breath, and then said proudly, it's useless. Just admit defeat. On the ground, you are not my opponent, woo. Woo. Bah. You little BD, take your dirty hands away, don't touch my mouth ah. My nose. Ugh. Fexia's nose was hooked upwards, with air coming out of her mouth. Li Xian's hands were not honest and he scratched her face. As for Li Xian, he knew that Fisia was not joking. A great soul master who possessed a snake martial soul and was good at judo was absolutely overwhelming on the ground. This can be seen from the legs wrapped around his waist that were constantly tightening like a python, almost strangling Li Xian to the point of suffocation. Since he couldn't win, Li Xian could only resort to crooked tactics. Bah! You don't follow the rules, you scoundrel. Fisia bent her neck, stretched her head upwards, and took a deep breath. Then, she pressed down on Li Xian's head, stretched out her long legs, crossed her feet in the air, and exerted more and more force on her thighs, pressing on Li Xian's ribs with a crisp crackling sound. Li Xian felt the air in his lungs being compressed, breathing became difficult, and his entire face turned red. Okay, is this how we play it? Jujutsu is indeed very powerful, but it is based on rules. Li Xian made up his mind, opened his mouth, aimed at the right rib of Fisia, and bit it directly. Ah! You little brat is a dog. Are you going to let go? Li Xian roared, indistinct.jpg. You are shameless. Oh, you are allowed to attack by surprise, but I am not allowed to play dirty tricks. As he spoke, Li Xian took advantage of the opportunity and suddenly exerted force with his back. Then he took Fisia, who had locked his upper body, and smashed her heavily to the ground. For a moment, don't loosen. Bang. Li Xian continued to smash. Villain. However, before Li Xian could hit him for the 3rd time, Fisia was the first to loosen her hands, finally allowing Li Xian's head to escape from her arms. Li Xian was delighted and swung his arm to punch. However, as soon as he raised his arms, Fisia's 2 hands on the ground were already pressing on his head. A white light flashed before his eyes, and Fisia, in a strange posture, twisted her body underneath him and turned it over immediately. She clamped her legs around his body and also turned around. There was nothing in front of Li Xian, and he fell forward involuntarily. At that moment, Fisia locked his back, stood up and pressed him under her body. The warm blue breath hit the tip of his ear, and a pair of slender arms had gone around his collarbone and reached his exposed neck, and quickly passed through, looking for the other wrist at the back of his neck. Li Xian turned his head to face Fisia's gradually rising mouth corners. His heart skipped a beat, oh no. Chapter 27. A hint of pride flashed across Fisia's delicate face. She clasped her left wrist with her elbow, then tilted her head back, gathered all her strength, and locked Li Xian's neck tightly. Kicking off with both feet, Fisia pulled Li Xian up, and gently sucked on her chest. Li Xian's face instantly turned red due to the blood congestion. Using soul power, despicable. Hearing Li Xian's vague reluctance, Fisia's red lips let out a fragrant breeze, and she put the tip of her chin against Li Xian's head and tapped it hard. The rules don't allow the use of soul power. You lose. In order to be able to quickly twist her body from the ground, Fisia naturally used the soul power in her body. As a beast spirit, the white snake strengthens her toughness and speed. Therefore, the spirit can make this body burst out with gains far beyond those of ordinary people in a very short period of time. Li Xian was like a dried-up fish, his body bent into an arc. His back was pressed against Fesia's soft chest, but he was in no mood to appreciate this strange soft touch. Two slender white legs had clamped his waist like a snake, and the feet were hooked in the air. Due to excessive force, the round and plump toes were a pale blood color. Okay, unexpectedly, this little girl would do anything to win him. A judo contest was interrupted by her, and she used her soul power in the contest. Li Xian thought that Fisia was as uncultured as he was. Snort. His chest suddenly bulged, and Li Xian pressed his shoulders downward, hunching his body, in order to release his soul power. In an instant, the powerful force in the body swept out. The surging soul power filled his limbs and bones. Li Xian's expression slowly turned around, and he jumped up from the ground with a somersault. He dove down, grabbed Fisia's ankles with both hands, and suddenly jumped up, throwing Fisia, who was locked behind his back, to the ground. Cough. Li Xian's weight, plus the force of his high jump, caused Fisia to see black when he fell, and he coughed violently while gasping for breath. This kid. At this moment, she squeezed her legs tighter together, and from a closer look, her legs were deeply embedded in Li Xian's waist. Fisia could not have imagined that even after she strangled him, Li Xian was still alive and well. As for her previous opponents, she only needed to strangle them for a few moments and they would pass out due to lack of blood supply. I'll strangle you to death. A soft roar came from Fisia's little mouth. She even used her chin to press against Li Xian's head, strangling him in 5 directions. Seeing that Li Xian was struggling to get up, Fisia wanted to bite him hard on the head. Dream. After uttering 2 words, Li Xian was almost out of breath. His face was flushed and he had little strength left. Li Xian suddenly stretched out his arms, with his palms in a hugging gesture. Closing his eyes and silently reciting in his mind, Li Xian aimed his palms at his neck and tried his best to activate the Xian Tian Gong. Control the crane and capture the dragon. Swoosh. The 2 arms that were tightly strangling his neck were instantly attracted strongly. After a brief moment of daze, Fixi's hands loosened a little, and then he felt a chill on his chest, and Li Xian struggled to break free like a loach. Fisia's reaction was quick. She seized the opportunity when her opponent wanted to escape and hooked Li Xian's right shoulder with her foot. Fisia stood up and grabbed Li Xian's wrist, then held his hand behind his back, threw him out from behind, and dropped him to the ground. While the man was still in the air, the pair of long legs had locked his arms, and then the soft little hands broke and twisted Li Xian's joints in the opposite direction, and Fisia's soft and elastic thighs sat on Li Xian, pressing him down. Are you done yet? Li Xian's handsome little face was slightly distorted because of the pain in his arm. There was also a sound of anger coming from his mouth. Fisia ignored him and relied on the strength of her hips to turn Li Xian sideways. Then she twisted her tall body lightly and pressed down on Li Xian's hind legs which were exposed because he was facing downwards. Her 2 feet deliberately mocked his profile. Li Xian's arm twisted 180 degrees on the spot through her long legs. Being held in Fisia's arms. Bah. You're done. I'm angry. Bah. The so-called giving others a taste of their own medicine. Fisia was obviously responding to Li Xian for touching her with his dirty hands just now. You are quite capable, you can actually escape my naked choke. Fisia's little face was full of smugness. While she was talking, she stomped hard on Li Xian's face with her big feet. You silly girl, don't think I can't do anything to you. I have a lot of moves, I'm afraid you can't handle them. Although Li Xian was tough on the outside, he turned his face to the other side, to avoid the girl's foot attack. However, just as he turned his face away, the feet that were tightly clasping his toes came towards him again and hit him in the face. It hurts. Fisia's hands were not idle. After rotating her arms, she clasped her wrists tightly with both hands. With a little force, Li Xian felt a chill in his heart and soul. Still being stubborn, hey. Fisia frowned, very angry, and stretched out her 2 toes, hooked Li Xian's nose, and pushed forward hard. The picture is too ugly to watch. After all, that was how Li Xian treated her just now. Ghostly tracking. Li Xian shouted in a deep voice with a serious expression. He took strange steps with his feet, suddenly stepped in the air, and his body moved sideways a few inches. And with the sudden force of inertia, Li Xian swung his body in the opposite direction. After a few blows, Fisia lost her balance and fell backwards. Her hand slipped and she only grabbed Li Xian's hands. When she tried to attack him, his hands became cold and slippery and fell off her palms in an instant. Go to hell. Li Xian broke free from his arms and was able to stand up, half lying on the ground, with one foot kicking Fisia in the face, knocking her over, and she fell several times before stopping. Li Xian stood up and brushed off his clothes, his face gloomy. Have you had enough fun? As he spoke, the terrifying soul power in his body was released, and he gently spread out his palms, and the continuous martial soul grew out. Holding Kasha in his hand, Li Xian stared at Fisia who was struggling to get up. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, he narrowed his long and narrow almond-shaped eyes slightly. Li Xian's moves were too weird. He was able to break free from both of the 2 fatal locks. Forget it. I don't want to accompany you anymore. Let's finish this quickly. With her arms hanging down and her fingers clenched into blue, a white light shone in Fisia's eyes, and a veil covered her like moonlight. The shadow of a white snake coiled above her head. In the blink of an eye, her body grew, and her sickly slender waist became even more abnormal. She had a slender and light figure, her chest was slightly bulging, and her little mouth was breathing softly. Fixia moved her wrist and gracefully raised her steep chin. 200-year-old yellow soul rings floated around her body. Level 23 Agility Attack Spirit Master, Spirit White Snake, I appreciate your guidance. He stood sideways with one hand pointing at Li Xian. Hesitation. Li Xian crossed his arms and snorted with a sneer. Golden and purple light flowed in his clenched palms. His martial soul could now control its size. He took a step forward and Li Xian's black soul ring floated out, circling around him in a regular pattern, releasing terrifying pressure. 19th level Control Type Combat Soul Master, Martial Soul Kasha Grass, come on. Level 19, Kasha. When Fixia heard this strange martial spirit, she subconsciously frowned. Never heard of it. Can grass also be used as a martial spirit? But, her brows frowned again and again, always feeling that something was wrong. She looked at the halo under Li Xian's feet, thinking that she didn't see it clearly, and rubbed her eyes. This is very strange. What is Kasha grass? Your spirit ring is also wrong. Where is it? Li Xian raised his eyebrows, and the spirit ring pulled him up to the top of his head. Can't you see clearly, you sissy who is surprised by the new things you see? Black. Fixia opened her mouth and suddenly exclaimed, 10,000 years. Clam? It was like my brain had suffered a strong shock, and it was hard to believe such a scene for a moment. This is impossible. Soul masters are weak and their first soul ring will not last more than 400 years, otherwise they will explode and die. This is well known in the soul master world. How could he have a 10,000-year spirit ring? Fixia felt uncertain and looked at Li Xian, and suddenly remembered something. You said you are a level 19 soul master. Right. How old are you? 6. How can you only be 6 years old? What's wrong with 6 years old? Fixia opened her mouth and forgot to close it. If Li Xian was only 6 years old and already had a level 19 soul power, then his 10,000-year soul power was probably real. After 10,000 years, the soul beast's cultivation has reached a terrifying level, which only the soul king can challenge. Similarly, the transformation that a 10,000-year spirit ring can bring to a spirit warrior is also extremely terrifying. Fixia originally thought that Li Xian was an older child who was kept in the first grade because he entered school too late. She had not paid much attention to the fact that his soul power might exceed level 15. But now, she found that she was wrong. A boy who reached level 19 at the age of 6 and possessed a 10,000-year spirit ring, his background should not be as simple as he thought. Are you still going to fight? Don't forget our bet. Seeing her hesitating, Li Xian couldn't help but frown. Fixia reacted and her face suddenly became serious. Hit. Why not? Although Li Xian doesn't look simple, she won't back down. Everything will be discussed after the fight is over. I have a soul power level 4 levels higher than him, and I have one more soul ring. Even if Li Xian's first soul ring is 10,000 years old, facing a great soul master with 2 soul skills, I am not sure he will get much benefit. Thinking of this, Fixia left a white afterimage on the spot, the first 100-year soul ring under her feet flickered, and her body rushed towards Li Xian. First soul skill, Snake Swim. Bang. Li Xian broke all the laws with his strength, purple light lingered in his eyes, and he clenched his fist and blasted to the side. The afterimage in front of him dissipated, revealing his true form. He blocked with both arms, jumped back to relieve the force, and moved horizontally several meters away. The soul power attached to the body dissipated, and the hidden figure was revealed. A big question mark was written on Fixia's face, can you see me? Her snake swimming soul skill was taken from a 100-year-old herbivorous soul beast that was good at hiding. It is generally heard that she is a spirit master of the agility attack type. Opponents will pay attention to her active attack. The snake movement is a trick, where the real body is hidden on the side and launched in conjunction with a feint attack. This trick has been tried and tested, and Fixia has never failed when facing people of the same age. She originally wanted to use this trick to quickly get rid of Li Xian, but unexpectedly, the other party saw through her motives at the first fight. Noble students, do you like to ask questions during battle? Li Xian jumped high, leaped forward, and enlarged his fist in front of Fixia. Meeting an opponent of equal strength, Li Xian did not intend to end the battle quickly. He wanted to fight with him and use the duel to test the results of his training in the past few days, so he did not use his soul skills. With her feet sliding sideways, feeling the strong wind coming in front of her, Fixia stared slightly. She grabbed Li Xian's arm, kicked her heels back, and jumped high into the air. Li Xian saw the opportunity and tried to grab him, but Fixia dodged him in an unreasonable posture. Then she fixed Li Xian's arms and put her legs on his shoulders. Then she leaned her body and fell forward with him. Li Xian took a step forward, steadied his body, and swung his hand, throwing Fixia, who was holding his arm, to the ground. The impact did not occur. Fixia suddenly disappeared from his sight. He only felt a cold touch passing over his back. He groaned, and Fixia slapped him and escaped lightly. Call. Fixia somersaulted 3 or 2 times and widened the distance again. Li Xian's strength is too abnormal. After activating his soul power, it is very difficult to perform judo on him. In fact, judo is a martial art for mortals. It can give a certain advantage in punching and kicking when dealing with opponents of equal strength, but when it comes to competing in soul power or even a life and death duel, its effect is not obvious. Fishia adjusted her breathing, somersaulted forward, then tapped the ground with her palms and kicked Li Xian in the face with her feet. With a low sweep, Li Xian destroyed Fishia's center, and both arms were hit hard by several kicks. Li Xian dived down and was about to give Fishia a few punches when suddenly, the second 100-year soul ring under Fishia's feet flashed. Not good. Li Xian subconsciously wanted to dodge. Chapter 28. He took a step back, but his other foot was suddenly grabbed by Fishia. Li Xian urged his soul power to block it, and saw pure white soul power lingering on Fishia's body. Her glowing figure suddenly kicked upwards from the bottom, directly kicking Li Xian into the air. Triple hit. With a delicate cry, Fishia supported herself on the ground with both hands and kicked out for the second time. Li Xian raised his chin and his body accelerated in the air. This was not over yet. The fisherman left an afterimage in the air and sped up again. His third kick hit Li Xian's lower abdomen firmly, lifting him high up. Everything in front of him went dark, and Li Xian fell into a brief dizziness. He guessed that this was the effect of his century-old soul skill. When he opened his eyes again, Fishia's beautiful face standing upside down filled his pupils. His eyes widened slightly, and Fishia's body fell down, and the center of gravity made her waist reveal a glimpse of spring light. Then, the pair of white and tender feet once again strangled Li Xian's neck. With his legs held by Fishia at this moment, Li Xian lost his balance and was captured again, allowing Fishia to spin his body and smash high to the ground. Jitsu, 1,000-pound weight. A delicate cry sounded in his ears, and the scene in front of Li Xian was spinning, and the floor had enlarged in front of his eyes. His heart tightened, and the 10,000-year soul ring on his body shone brightly. A brown quagmire spread in front of him, quickly submerging the training room. With a puff sound, mud and water splashed. Half of Li Xian's body fell into the mud and he felt slightly dizzy. At this moment, he felt a light step on his back. Fishia flipped over and retreated violently. She dodged the column falling from the sky and retreated dozens of meters away. That was a close call. Li Xian let out a heavy breath. If it weren't for the mud that cushioned the gravity, he would have been knocked unconscious by Fishy. This BCH. It's so simple. Is this your first soul skill? Tisk. When Fishia saw that Li Xian was fine, she looked very unhappy. Not to mention that her infallible first soul skill was seen through by Li Xian, her proud second soul skill was invincible among her peers. Combined with her superb jutsu, once the opponent was hit, there was no way to save him. The impact force that came from the sky could knock even a level 30 soul master unconscious. What a pity. She pursed her lips and sighed softly. However, this fight was not in vain. It forced out Li Xian's first soul skill, which made her no longer afraid of Li Xian's long unrevealed trump card. Although Li Xian possessed a black soul ring, this 10,000-year soul ring could only produce one kind of soul skill, which Fishia was very clear about. Thinking of this, she looked up at the slowly falling gravity ring in the sky, and became alert. When she came into contact with the quagmire, she found that her speed slowed down and the soul power in her body weakened a lot. It has negative effects, proving that this is a control-type soul skill, but Fishia can't see the function of those yellow columns. You have reduced your speed by about half. Your spirit skills are quite good. But this puddle of mud has not disappeared yet. You are probably using your spirit power to hold on. The battle-hardened Fishia immediately saw through that Li Xian's soul skills required a large amount of soul power consumption. She patiently retreated to the corner and waited to see how long Li Xian could hold out. You are so clever. Li Xian shook his head helplessly. His method of controlling the earth was seen through by Fishia at a glance. The consumption of the soul skills from the 10,000-year soul ring was horrible. He really couldn't hold on any longer. The quagmire sank into the floor tiles, and the gravity ring in the sky also disappeared. After taking a deep breath, Li Xian sat on the ground tiredly, supporting his body with his hands, looking at Fishia who was still standing not far away. I have no strength left. You win if you come over here. Fishia said nothing and just watched quietly. The 10,000-year soul ring made her very wary, fearing that Li Xian would leave a backup plan. I don't. She said proudly. Come on. No. Staring at her, Li Xian's eyes were bloodshot. What a BCH. She was not just smart. He still had some soul power in his body, which was enough to activate the earth control for a short time. As long as he controlled the range and let Fishia hit the dense gravity ring, he could resolve the battle in just 1 second. However, no one is stupid. After turning around twice, Fishia crossed her arms and chuckled, since both of us have little soul power left, why don't we take back our martial souls, seal our soul power, and continue to fight with each other, what do you think? Li Xian looked at him dimly, I don't believe you. Fishia's face turned cold and she said, you little brat, you're really hard to deal with. Watch out. Pure white soul power covered her body surface, and Fishia's figure disappeared. In front of Li Xian, the shadow rushed towards him. Li Xian stood up and used the purple demon eye to lock onto Fishia's real body. When she was about to approach, he took a big step forward, his heart filled with ecstasy. You're gone. The earth controlling device was activated, and mud puddles appeared under Li Xian's feet. A mountain of gravity rings piled up above his head, making a clanging sound like a trumpet. Fishia bumped into the gravity ring and was slightly dazed. At this moment, Li Xian clenched his fist and hit her on the forehead. Puff. However, the Fishia in front of him disappeared, and a trace of exquisite soul power escaped into the void. On the other side, the phantom Fishia revealed her true form, flipped backwards, and flashed out of the earth-controlling range, with a cunning look on her pretty face. You little brat! My snake can split into 2 parts and can also become a virtual entity. You've been fooled. Fishia's face was full of pride. Seeing Li Xian's soul skill dissipate, she kicked her feet, leaving an afterimage on the spot. Shameless! Li Xian cursed in his heart. The phantom captured by the purple demon eye was the real body created by Fishia using her soul power, while she turned into a faint figure and hid in her own soul skills. Li Xian sighed helplessly in his heart. This BCH's first soul skill was too outstanding and perfectly matched her martial soul. The training of aristocrats for their children could not be measured from the perspective of ordinary people. The 100-year soul ring can also be used in various ways. But, you are happy too early. With a cold snort in his heart, Li Xian pretended to turn around and run away. He caught a glimpse of Fishia about to catch up with him, so he turned around suddenly, and the black soul ring under his feet flashed again. Rustle. A soul skill composed of flower petals shot out. Fexia was unable to dodge and was immediately hit by the same soul skill. In an instant, the white light lingering on her body quickly dissipated. Her face suddenly changed and her body hurriedly stopped in the air. The petals kept flying, and Fishia felt that her defense was getting reduced. The oncoming attacks made her feel more and more painful. She stared at Li Xian with a pair of narrow eyes, and anger burned in Fishia's eyes. What kind of skill is this? Why do you have one left? Fishia was puzzled. Even a 10,000-year soul ring can only allow a soul master to produce one soul skill. Why does Li Xian have 2? I'll take your life while you're weak. Li Xianke didn't bother to explain. Within a few breaths, Fishia's double defense dropped by 40. Now she was like a skin turtle, which would break into pieces if touched. Bang! After 2 punches, Fishia groaned and large pieces of silt emerged from her skin. Li Xian will not let her go, he chases her and beats her up. In the battle just now, Fishia used her soul skills several times, and her own soul power was almost consumed. Zai Lian's attack caught her off guard and put her in a passive position for a while. Knowing that she was no match for Li Xian, Fishia pushed Li Xian away with a palm and turned around to run away. You can't run away. Li Xian was like a humanoid soul beast at this moment, with his 2 legs supporting himself on the ground. He rushed forward and caught up with Fishia in 2 steps. With a grab of his hand, the black hair escaped through his fingers. Fixi's little face was alert, and she leaned forward suddenly. As she dodged, Li Xian's big hand slipped across her shoulder and missed. Li Xian sped up suddenly, not intending to let go, and reached forward with his other hand, but this time, Fishia chose to bend down to dodge, and Li Xian's fingertips stuck to Fishia's back, touching from the back of her neck all the way to her waist. Then, he hooked his 2 fingertips on a certain elastic rope inside Fishia's clothes, and with a ripping sound, he pulled it off. Bang and let go. Fishia paused and her whole body froze for a moment. Li Xian stopped and savored the elasticity of his fingertips, and suddenly felt something was wrong. Fishia turned her head away angrily, her gaze seemed to be breathing fire. Is it necessary for you to wear that when it's so small? Li Xian wanted to complain, but he also knew that now was not the time to provoke Fishia. Of course, it was also possible that Fishia was deliberately delaying time, after all, the negative effects of the purple lotus soul skill were about to expire. Li Xian just stood there, allowing Fishia's angry eyes to skin him alive. He tried his best to control the uncomfortable expression on his face, clenched his right fist, and waited for his opportunity. You are going too far. Spitting out 3 words from her mouth, Fishia's body rose on the spot, the white snake martial spirit appeared above her head, her body became slender and flexible, and then she swung her right hand violently, and 4 or 5 drops of purple liquid spilled from her fingertips. A sneak attack. It was too late to dodge. Li Xian turned his body sideways, but was still hit by a drop of liquid. The purple liquid emitted smoke when it hit his skin and penetrated into the epidermis. Li Xian frowned and felt dizzy. His feet swayed twice and he fell to his knees on the ground. In front of him, Fishia squatted on the ground, rustling around for a while, then clapped her hands and walked over with a cold snort. I told you to be rude, now you can taste the power of the green phosphorus poison. Li Xian sat down with a gloomy expression. Green phosphorus poison? Your martial soul is a white snake, how can it be poisonous? The same martial soul and soul skills can be fostered in each other's body. Didn't your teacher teach you that? I don't have the green phosphorus poison, but my friend does. So what? It counts as my soul skill, so are you convinced or not? Li Xian, who was trying hard to stay dizzy, had no ability to resist. Looking at the loser in front of her, Fishia was delighted. As long as she took action at this moment, she would win. While thinking about what Fishia said, Li Xian's brain worked rapidly. The green-scaled snake is a family martial spirit, and in this land, only the Douluo family possesses it. By the way, that is a snake-type martial spirit. In this case, this Fishia also has friends in the Douluo family. A familiar name came to his mind, but Li Xian's brain was dizzy and it was difficult for him to remember the name at the moment. You can even say it so nicely when you are playing dirty. I have a new understanding of your shamelessness. Li Xian bit his tongue hard and gave Fishia a middle finger. If you lose, you lose. No matter how much you say, it's useless. Is there a rule that prohibits using other means? Fishia looked dissatisfied. She and Li Xian dueled, and any means could be used. Duel symbolized cruelty and there were no rules. She doesn't think there's anything wrong with what she did. Yet. With his head lowered, Li Xian unscrewed a small bottle of liquid. Suddenly, he looked up and splashed the liquid in his hand directly on Fishia's face. Yua Yuroa. The soul power lingering on Fishia's body seemed to melt like ice and snow. She covered her face and let out a scream. Li Xian unscrewed a few more bottles and drank the realgar wine in one gulp. I stood up and jumped lightly, and the dizziness in my brain immediately improved a lot. The Bailan snake is very poisonous, but the two were only dueling over a trivial matter, so Fishia would not kill it. The poison can be detoxified by using realgar wine. What did you spill? Fishia staggered a few steps, then sat on the ground. After she let go of her hands, all her soul power was exhausted. Li Xian unscrewed the medicine bottle and walked over. You said that any means can be used. Drink. Pinching her little mouth, Li Xian poured realgar wine directly into her mouth. Wa Euro Fishia wanted to push Li Xian away, but her hands felt weak. Possessing a snake martial spirit, her body also possessed certain snake characteristics. After swallowing the realgar wine, the remaining soul power in her body immediately dissipated. She struggled to push Li Xian away with her head, pinching her throat, her face turning pale and blue. Fishia pointed at Li Xian. What did you do to me? Don't worry, I'll help you disinfect it, nothing will happen. After Li Xian finished drinking, he raised his sandbag-sized fist and said calmly, this is the problem. After saying that, his fists turned into raindrops and bombarded Fishia violently. You like to use poison, right? I have some too. Li Xian took advantage of the situation and pressed Fishia to the ground and hammered her. Fishia tried to break free several times, but was pulled back by his long legs. The fist left after images, all of which hit Fishia's soft body. After her soul power dissipated, Fishia was completely exhausted. Her proud judo was of no use to Li Xian. After being beaten for half a minute, she decisively admitted defeat. Well, you win. I give up. Fishia surrendered with her eyes already in heat. Hearing this, Li Xian took a deep breath, turned Fishia's body over, sat on her and said calmly, as agreed, I will take the gemstone, and I will not hold your cousin accountable for what happened. Fair fight, I will accept the loss if I lose. That's what you said. Li Xian tore off the medal on her chest and put it on, then took the trophy. Fishia's face was filled with humiliation. She had never felt so miserable in her life. She covered her face with her arms and shouted angrily, keep the things safe. I will get them back. Li Xian glanced at the little girl out of the corner of his eye, curled his lips, and kicked her before leaving. Wait until you can beat me. Leaving the 1v1 training room, there seemed to be a soft cry coming out. Li Xian curled his lips and felt extremely refreshed. Winner. It was a really exciting battle as a level 23 Great Soul Master from a noble academy. Fixia has top talent. Being able to have a smooth fight with her, Li Xian also has a clear understanding of his own strength. This was the first time he had fought with all his strength since becoming a soul master. Fixia is not weak. She has a white snake spirit of agility attack and masters first-class jutsu. Even her spirit rings are carefully selected by the family. In this duel, Li Xian also suffered a lot. Putting aside other things, if it weren't for the earth-controlling soul skill, Li Xian would have been defeated by this little BCH today. In short. Cool. After defeating Fishia, Li Xian couldn't help but feel a slight sense of pride in his heart. After Li Xian left, in the duel room, Fishia cleaned up her mess, sat on the ground with her knees hugged, and cried. After a moment, Fishia wiped away her tears and bit her red lips in anger. You little brat. This isn't over yet. Chapter 29. In the early morning, light and shadows are expressed directly in the staff building. Beams of light quietly poured onto the balcony. Tiny soul powers were visible to the naked eye. They were drawn by the morning light, gathered in the bedroom, and merged into a petite figure sitting cross-legged. Click. At some point, the door opened gently. Li Xian dragged his swollen body, grinned and sat quietly on the bed. He felt pain in many parts of his body, especially in his hand joints, which must have been twisted by that little BCH Fishia. His eyes turned to Yuexi who was practicing. On her delicate little face, her eyes were tightly closed and her lips were gently pursed. The soul power floating in the air was like a whirlpool, slowly flowing into her body. Looking closely, there was a hazy black figure behind Yuexi, attached to the surface of the body, releasing a cold aura. Li Xian frowned. The concentration of this kind of soul power is too exaggerated. The black phantom's facial features could not be seen clearly, but when he looked at it, it was like a black hole, sucking his mind. Li Xian's situation got better after he mobilized a bit of soul power to resist. It seems that Master Ma is right. Yuexi's martial spirit will become stronger as her cultivation level increases. At a certain moment, a large amount of floating soul power began to turn black and condensed above Yuexi's head. It was like a funnel, and the black soul power poured into it like a sea. Yuexi frowned slightly and a look of pain appeared on her face. A light hum came out of her mouth. Li Xian's face darkened, and he immediately activated his martial spirit to suppress this aura. The light released by the strange chrysanthemum is extremely strong and yang. In the blink of an eye, the black light and shadow behind Yuexi dissipated, and then a sound of opening and closing was heard from her body. Her soul power regained its calm, and her eyes gently opened. Li Xian put his whole face in front of Yuexi, looking at her with an examining expression. As the black curtain opened up and down, the blurry vision gradually became clear. Yuexi stared at the face in front of her, slightly stunned. Then, the breath so close to her made her pretty face turn red instantly. Li. Li Xian. Frowning, Li Xian propped up his upper body and then sat in front of her. You were practicing strangely just now. I thought you were possessed. Yuexi, you can't be in a hurry to practice. You are being too reckless. The fluctuation just now was probably caused by Uxi's eagerness to break through, causing the phantom martial soul to erode her mind. Soul power needs to be slowly refined into the body, which is like a slow process that takes time and effort. Li Xian practiced for more than a year, but only improved his soul power to level 6. Calculating the time, Uxi had been in the Soul Academy for less than a month and had advanced 4 levels in a row. What she did was really outrageous. Uxi pursed her thin lips slightly and nodded with a look of grievance in her big eyes. Looking at her beautiful appearance, Li Xian couldn't bear to say anything to her, so he smiled and said, "But congratulations, your soul power has reached level 10, and you can get your first soul ring." Clenching her 2 little fists, Uxi could feel that the soul power in her body was already full. If there was a spirit ring in front of her, she could refine it into her body at any time. "Yes, I'll give this to you as a reward." The cool sapphire was placed on Uxi's little face. Li Xian helped her hang it on her chest. It looked very beautiful with the Black Soul Academy uniform. "What is this?" Uxi blinked and looked at the exquisite sapphire on her chest, her eyes sparkling. "The spoils of war." Li Xian did not hide it. "I won it from an exchange student. It looks like something worn by a noble. I'm giving it to you." Accepting Fishia's challenge, Li Xian made a bet with her, that is, to give some good things to Uxi as a reward for her care for him during his hospitalization. "For me? Is that okay?" Uxi's eyes flashed with joy. The azure blue gemstone is slightly cool to the touch and is embroidered on an exquisite blue and white pattern. One end is folded and can be hung on the chest. "Well, that guy is willing to admit defeat. This is what he lost to me. You can take it." "Good." Uxi then noticed that Li Xian had bruises on several places on his body, his wrists were swollen, and there was a faint smell of perfume on his white training suit. Gently sniffing her nose, Uxi frowned. Just as I was about to speak, I heard Li Xian continue. "I have to go out for a while. You are free too. Let's go to Nottingham together." "Nottingham? Yeah, I have nothing to do this weekend anyway, let's go." Li Xian has to report to the iron shop. In addition, the month is almost over, and he has not yet gone to the Spirit Hall to collect the gold soul coins after becoming a soul master. The Tiandu Empire distributes cultivation resources to soul masters, which are distributed by the Spirit Hall. Each soul master can receive 1 gold soul coin per month. When it comes to Great Soul Master, the number increases to 10, and to Soul Master, the number is 100. Although Li Xian is only 1 level away from becoming a Great Soul Master, it is not easy to improve to this level. In short, he should collect this month's subsidy first. Uxi stood in front of Li Xian, biting her red lip slightly, with a look of nervousness on her face. She mustered up her courage and wanted to tell Li Xian about the fusion of her martial souls. However, after hesitating for a long time, he finally didn't say it. Thinking of what she had done to Li Xian, her face turned red. If Li Xian asked her about this, how would she answer? Li Xian naturally had no idea what Uxi was thinking. He changed his clothes and took Uxi shopping. On the way, Uxi secretly held Li Xian's palm and quietly passed the soul power in her body to Li Xian. She glanced at him with her big eyes from time to time, hoping that Li Xian would take the initiative to ask. The soul powers of the two are almost 100% compatible. Li Xian's soul power is masculine and warm, while Uxi's martial soul tends to be cold and icy. Li Xian only felt his hand was cold. He heard that girls tend to have more moisture, so he deliberately released his martial spirit to warm the little hand. "Uxi, you are too weak, you need to replenish yourself." Ah! Li Xian was so busy practicing these days that he forgot about the fusion of his martial souls. He was totally unaware of the increase in his soul power during the journey. The two first came to the Spirit Hall to receive the gold soul coin subsidy. As an internal staff of the Spirit Hall, Uxi's soul power has reached level 10. Although she does not have a soul ring, she was able to receive this month's subsidy through some back doors. "Register there, no problem. After all, we are all family." In the Tiandu Empire, the annual expenditure of an average family is only 2 or 3 gold soul coins. This amount of subsidy is like a huge sum of money to Li Xian and Uxi now, and they suddenly don't know how to spend it. You know, the expenses of the Soul Master Academy are very small. The Spirit Hall is wealthy and provides various subsidies to the students in the academy. During their life and study, Li Xian and Uxi have no need to spend money. This means that the two of them don't need to save money at all. Unlike Tang San from Notting City Junior College, who had to spend money on meals, he couldn't hold the gold soul coins in his little hands and started buying things immediately. Uxi has not had a good time since coming to Nottingham. Several times before leaving the academy, also to visit Li Xian, except to commute to the school hospital, did not go anywhere else. With Li Xian by her side, she felt bolder, like a little girl shopping, buying herself a lot of things, filling her hands with bags. "Li Xian, does this look good?" Uxi hung a pair of rabbit pendants on her ears, and with a slightly blushing face, she whispered to Li Xian. Seeing the rabbit on the pendant, Li Xian frowned. "It's a bit ugly." He immediately recalled that Xiao Wu had thrown him away. Uxi's face sank, "Then I don't want it." Having said that, he threw the pendant back. Li Xian was stunned to see her acting like a little girl. Girls, as long as they get older, they will naturally have beauty. If you want me to appreciate it, Yuexi, you are still too young. He took Yuexi for a walk and then found the iron shop recommended by Dean Su according to the address in the recommendation letter. Walking in with the letter of recommendation, Li Xian found the owner of the iron shop. Dean Su has already told me, kid, but the life of an apprentice here is very hard, you have to consider it carefully. It's okay, uncle. Looking at your small physique, you must be quite strong. Haha, come over anytime you want and help out in the store. I'll pay you by the hour. Good. Because of the relationship with Dean Su, the shop owner is very easy to talk to. In fact, apprentices in their shop are paid by the day, and the wages are very low. Coming to Li Xian's place was equivalent to doing a favor for President Su, so it could be said that the treatment was very good. Li Xian felt a little weak in his heart and secretly took note of President Su's favor. Li Xian planned to use his afternoon time every day to go to the blacksmith shop to practice his forging skills. Improvement comes day by day. Don't underestimate these few hours every afternoon. If used properly, Li Xian estimates that a semester would be enough for him to make hidden weapons. Li Xian, shall we go back now? Yuexi, with her hands full of things, followed Li Xian and asked weakly. Looking at Yuexi's expression of not having enough fun, Li Xian couldn't help laughing. Put the things in the spirit hall, we'll continue playing in the afternoon. Good. Cultivation also requires a combination of work and rest. After several days of high-pressure training, Li Xian felt a little tired. Take a day to rest and recharge your body. After all, he is still a child at heart and loves to play. After finishing their meal, the two put the things they bought in the spirit hall and wandered around Nottingham City in the afternoon. During the weekend, the commercial streets in the town are very busy. Tea, clothing, and snacks are sold on both sides of the street, and in some spacious areas, vendors of all sizes set up stalls and hawk their wares. Li Xian discovered that many of the items sold in these stalls were related to soul masters. For example, there are soul beast hair, natural crystals, rare things growing in the forest, wild herbs for healing, etc. Chapter 30. Moreover, there are soul masters who provide professional services. Li Xian went to inquire and found out that they are soul master intermediaries who can help with hunting soul beasts and forming teams in the arena. On this planet, there are many people who have awakened strange martial spirits. Li Xian even saw a martial spirit that can tell fortunes. Looking at the white soul ring floating under the feet of the fortune teller, which was as dim as the cultivation level of a 10-year soul beast, he just moved away from him. This guy is not afraid of predicting people to death. Li Xian took Yuexi for a walk. He paid attention to the vendors here, trying to find a soul guide that could be stored. It's a pity that precious items like soul guides cannot be found in ordinary stalls. Even if they are available, Li Xian does not have enough soul coins to buy them. A storage soul guide would easily cost hundreds or thousands of soul coins. Li Xian was a little envious of Xiao San. The belt soul guide the master gave him had a storage space of 24 cubic meters. A soul guide like that must be very expensive. Li Xian, look how lively it is over there, let's go take a look. Yuexi took Li Xian's hand and pointed to the left front. A group of people gathered together in a dark mass, and cheers could be heard from time to time, which made Li Xian curious. It's quite interesting. He pulled Yuexi and walked over. However, Li Xian didn't notice that two students wearing blue school uniforms who looked like soul masters were walking towards him, talking and laughing. Neither side noticed the other. They bumped into each other accidentally. Yuexi bumped into a much taller girl and fell backwards. Li Xian grabbed her hand and pulled her up before she fell to the ground. Oh, sorry. The female soul master student opposite realized that she had bumped into someone and a look of apology flashed across her face. The coldness on Li Xian's face faded slightly, and he rubbed Yuexi's head and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Yuexi blinked her big, sparkling eyes, hugged Li Xian's arm, and smiled at the girl in front of her. "Sister didn't mean it, little sister, don't be angry." The senior female student smiled softly and rubbed Yuexi lightly with her palm. However, when she noticed Yuexi's clothing, especially the medal on her chest, the smile on her face froze instantly. He exchanged a glance with the person he was traveling with, and a chill ran down his face. He tore off the medal, stared at Yuexi, and asked, "Where did you steal this medal? Is this what you are supposed to wear?" As it spoke, the big hand pushed towards Yuexi in a questioning tone. Pop. The other hand quickly stretched out and grabbed her wrist directly, squeezing it tightly, causing the senior female spirit master to feel pain and look at him angrily. But what she was met with was a cold gaze. Those eyes that were gleaming with cold light were staring at her intently. "Like to do it?" The female student, who was about 13 or 14 years old, with straight silver hair, was stared at by Li Xian. Her expression froze, as if she had fallen into an ice hole. Looking at the hand that had pinched her wrist red, she raised her eyebrows, clenched her palm, and suddenly threw her arm away. Li Xian leaned forward, and as the silver-haired girl leaned back, he grabbed her other arm and snatched the blue medal from her hand. Then he turned around abruptly and used his shoulder to push the girl back a few steps. "You." The silver-haired female student couldn't believe that someone actually laid hands on her. Next to her, a boy about 13 or 14 years old with short blonde hair immediately stepped forward and supported her. Holding the medal in his hand, Li Xian glanced at the two of them indifferently, with a cold look in his eyes. "Here." Yuexi took the medal with her little hand, hugged Li Xian's arm and hid beside him. She was obviously frightened by the sudden scene before her. You kid, you dare to hurt others, are you looking for death? Here, she was holding the blonde boy next to her and looking at Li Xian angrily. Looking for death? That's inexplicable. You were the first to do it. Li Xian crossed his arms and glanced at the two of them with raised eyebrows. These two people were wearing blue school uniforms. Judging from their attire, they should be exchange students from the Seoul Academy in the provincial city of Fasno to Nottingham Junior College. Since she attacked UXI as soon as they had a disagreement, Li Xian naturally retaliated. Why did you do that? Don't you know clearly? Tell me. Where did you steal that medal from? Notting City doesn't even have a decent soul master, so how can there be a blue noble medal? How do you explain it? The silver-haired female soul master scolded. Explain? Do I need to explain my things to you? Who do you think you are? When Li Xian heard this, he started to retort. In other words, when the silver-haired girl in front of him saw UXI wearing the sapphire medal, she was sure that she had stolen something. This kind of unreasonable and strong character was the first time Li Xian had seen it. I want him to explain. Haha, Li Xian laughed. You have obtained something yourself, why do you care how I use it? Do I need to explain to you just because of your subjective judgment? Humph, you are quite arrogant. The silver-haired woman looked Li Xian up and down. In the fight just now, she actually suffered a loss. This junior Seoul Academy student in front of her, seems to be no simple person. As far as I know, there is only one aristocratic college in Nottingham, and I, Michelle, know all the prominent people there. Judging from your school uniforms, you must be students of Seoul Academy. 2 exchange students went to Seoul Academy this time. There is a noble friend of mine there. The medal in your hand must be hers. So what? After listening to him chattering for a long time, Li Xian just raised his eyebrows. The female student named Li Xian shouted, so? Stealing is justified. If you don't hand this thing over, you two won't be able to leave today. Beside her, the blonde male student took a step forward. The soul power lingering on the bodies of both of them were actually fluctuations that could only be experienced by a great soul master. Then I'll walk one today and show you. Li Xian was too lazy to care about it. This blue medal was originally something that Fishia lost. As for how to use it, that was his business. Fishia didn't ask anything, and the two guys started barking like biting dogs. Pull UXZ and leave directly. However, just as he took a step, a gust of wind suddenly emerged and rushed straight towards Li Xian. Li Xian gently pushed UXI away, slid sideways, and dodged. The female student Mi Shan lifted up her skirt, and her long legs and white stockings dropped from the sky. Her attack missed, so she turned around abruptly and swung her right arm towards Li Xian's chest. Bang! A crisp sound like a slap was heard. Li Xian put his arms in front of him, but was pulled several meters away by the explosive force in Mission's body. Looking up, a layer of green soul power was flowing out from the body of the silver-haired girl Mission. Her figure grew taller, with a long tail growing from her waist, and 2 ears growing from her silver hair. Around the body, 2 yellow soul rings moved up and down rhythmically. Li Xian narrowed his eyes. This exchange student named Mission had a soul power that was almost the same as Fishia's, and was good at using a violent fighting technique. I've given you a chance, don't blame me for being too harsh. Humph, you really know how to flatter yourself. Shaking his numb arms, Li Xian sneered, and rushed forward. Bang! The two men fought, creating a huge wave of air. Chapter 31. Stop! Don't make trouble here. 2 scoldings came from the crowd, one after the other. 4 soldiers wearing armor symbolizing the Tiandu Empire and holding long swords squeezed in from the back of the crowd. 2 spirit masters from the spirit hall spoke out to stop them. Snort! Mission blocked with one arm, and her slender thigh wrapped in white silk was bent to 90 degrees and already in the air. As the imperial soldiers and spirit masters from the spirit hall arrived, she snorted coldly and slowly dropped to her knees in dissatisfaction. Li Xian raised his eyebrows, turned his body sideways, and kicked Mi Shan's left cheek. In the fight just now, each side won and lost. However, as the fight continued, it was obvious that Li Xian's whip kick was faster. You two, as soul masters, are causing trouble in the market. What if you hurt someone? 2 spirit masters from the spirit hall, who were around 30 years old, stepped forward and shouted at them. On the opposite side, seeing the Soul Palace taking action, the soldiers of the Tiandu Empire put away their swords and stood side by side. Look over here. As the most prosperous neighborhood in Nottingham, riots often occur, so the public security here is stricter than in other places. Looking at the school uniform that Li Xian Mission was wearing, the expressions of the staff of the Spirit Hall slowly changed. The attitude towards the two of them was also gentler. The male soul master in his early 30s looked at the older Mission, frowned and asked, "Why are you fighting?" Mi Shan's pretty face was full of arrogance, and she raised her chin. "I found out they were stealing, but they still refused to admit it." Oh. Hearing this answer, the male spirit master showed surprise on his face, and looked at Li Xian with a bit of scrutiny. "You should be a student of the Soul Academy. What did you steal? Take it out." Li Xian looked slightly angry. "She said I stole something, and you believed it. Do you have any evidence?" Mi Shan said arrogantly, "Want evidence? Good. Ask that little girl to hand over her noble medal. Tell me, who in Nottingham Junior College would have something like this? You two look so poor, where did you get this noble medal from, if not stolen?" The middle-aged male soul master thought quickly when he heard the words Medal of Nobility. He glanced at Mission and the blonde boy beside her and found that their Seoul school uniforms were embroidered with the chrysanthemum sword logo. It's a student of the Wuhan main hall. He glanced at Li Xian and Uxi behind him again. They were wearing the school uniform of the Junior Seoul Academy. With his eyes flickering slightly, the middle-aged Seoul master walked in front of Uxi. Where's the medal? Take it out now. He had a stern face and his tone sounded more like an order. Li Xian's eyes gradually turned cold. You believe what she said and think we are thieves, right? The middle-aged male spirit master was angry when he was confronted by Li Xian's gaze. If it's stolen or not, you'll know when you take it out. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Do you know that you two have caused a lot of trouble in the neighborhood? How long do you want to continue this trouble? With a gloomy look, Li Xian hugged Uxi, took the medal from her hand, hooked it with his index finger, and put it on, hanging it in front of the middle-aged male soul master. It is an exquisite blue and white ornament with a blue crystal stone inlaid on one end. It has a good appearance and must be very expensive. When the middle-aged male soul master saw the medal, he glanced at Li Xian and Uxi's attire, frowned, and reached out to snatch it. Li Xian weighed it lightly, and the medal returned to his hand, and he said indifferently. If you want to see it, then I'll show it to you. Now, can you show me the evidence that we stole the things? The middle-aged male spirit master's hands were empty, and his eyes suddenly became sinister. He said in a deep voice, I don't think this kind of thing belongs to you. No evidence is needed, return the things to them, otherwise, follow me to the spirit hall. You are unreasonable. Uxi's pretty face flushed and she retorted angrily. This medal of nobility was won by Li Xian from an exchange student, and it was also a gift from Li Xian to her. Is it wrong for them to wear this medal just because they are civilians? There was no evidence to support their claims, and they were asked to hand over their medals simply out of suspicion. This partial attitude of the staff of the Wuhan branch hall is obviously bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Although she is young, she knows everything. You dare to say that I am unreasonable? The middle-aged male soul master was repeatedly contradicted and was furious. With a fierce look in his eyes, he walked towards Uxi. I advise you not to get close. Li Xian's eyes were cold, and a breath of horror flowed out of his body. This thing's origin is unknown. Just hand it over when I tell you to. You're hesitating because you're guilty. Mission snorted coldly. I originally thought that the staff of the Wuhan branch hall would deal with the matter in a perfunctory manner, but now it seems that they are quite responsible. At least this work attitude made her feel a little better. The blonde boy crossed his arms and looked down at Li Xian and the other man coldly. The status symbolized by that noble medal is not something that ordinary people are qualified to wear. They deserve to be looked down upon by their own people. How dare you, little brat, threaten me? Just because you are wearing the clothes of the Seoul Academy, you think I won't dare to touch you, right? The middle-aged male soul master reached out his hand and grabbed forward, not taking Li Xian's warning seriously at all. Buzz. The next second, a pitch-black soul ring suddenly appeared. Li Xian waved his right hand, and the 10,000-year soul ring under his feet emitted a dazzling light. Dense gravity rings surrounded his body. The middle-aged male soul master entered the earth-controlling field. Several gravity rings suddenly hit his face. His brain crashed and he became dizzy. Li Xian took a step forward, clenched his fist and punched towards the hall. Stop. At this moment, a familiar and anxious voice was heard. Li Xian turned a deaf ear to it and punched the middle-aged soul master hard in the face. The middle-aged soul master came to his senses and a white soul ring appeared under his feet. However, when the fist touched his cheek, his eyes widened, a mouthful of blood spurted out, and his body flew to the side with a broken nose bone. Bang! His body hit the wall not far away, and he covered his face and wailed. On the other side, Li Xian and the blonde boy beside her glared in anger when they noticed the black soul ring floating under Li Xian's feet. Feeling the terrifying aura of 10,000 years, shock was written on their faces. Is that a 10,000-year soul ring? How is that possible? Su Yuntao rushed out of the crowd, but was a step too late. The staff of the branch hall was knocked out by Li Xian's punch. He was hesitant to speak. Judging from his condition, it would be difficult to heal his injury without lying down for 3 months. Su Yuntao looked at the middle-aged male spirit master's companion and said seriously, what's going on? Why are you attacking your own people? A petite female spirit master, who was nearly 30 years old and had a pale face, recounted what had happened. In fact, before he finished speaking, Su Yuntao waved his hand and said, all right, I got it. You two, you moved people without evidence, and you moved your own people. You deserve to be beaten. Go help the person up and send him to the hospital. The short female soul master immediately exclaimed oh upon hearing this. Then, Su Yuntao patted Li Xian's shoulder without saying anything, and walked to Li Xian and Duo Lan. Hello, I am Su Yuntao, the soul master of the Notting City Wuhan branch hall. Mission, this is Dolan. I already understand the situation. Let's put it this way. Li Xian's theft is still under discussion. You go back first. Once the spirit hall has thoroughly investigated the matter, I will convey the results to you. But that thing is not his. Even if she didn't steal it, she is not allowed to wear it. Mission pointed at Uxi, not trying to hide her sarcastic tone. Click. Li Xian was too lazy to say any more nonsense. After being slandered again and again, he snapped his hands and walked straight over. Fists are still the best way to deal with these people. Li Xian's pupil shrank. Thinking of the 10,000-year soul ring that had appeared under Li Xian's feet, she took a step back in fear. Su Yuntao felt a headache and immediately stood in front of the two men. Li Xian, you guys should go back first and don't cause any trouble for me. They are exchange students from the provincial capital. We are all family members, understand? Oh? So what if we are one family? We can just accuse others of stealing things? You've been yelling for a long time, but I didn't even hear an apology. Li Xian's eyes were cold. The blonde boy Dolan sneered, do you know what the status gap is, kid? Although your spirit ring is something special, I warn you that the status of a noble is not something that a commoner can mess with. Although you and I are both students of the spirit hall, our identities are very different. Even if that thing is yours, you can't wear it, understand? Wait until I push you to the ground, and then you'll know if I can wear it. After Li Xian finished speaking, he rushed out. Su Yuntao used his martial spirit and possessed himself as a lone wolf, grabbing Li Xian who was in the air. He leaned forward and almost failed to catch it. Su Yuntao's heart was pounding. It had only been a month and Li Xian had grown so fast. In front of him, Dolan faced Li Xian's fist, his golden hair pulled back and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The fist was only half an inch away from his face. If it weren't for Su Yuntao, his handsome face would have been bruised. This kid is twice as fast as before. He wasn't this agile when fighting with Mission, why? Su Yuntao picked up Li Xian and put him on the ground not far away, clasping his hands together. Li Xian, listen to your elder brother and go back first. I'll take care of this. Yuexi, come here. Li Xian raised his hand and waved lightly, and Yuexi trotted over to his side. Hanging the sapphire medal on her chest, Li Xian smiled and asked, do you like it? Yeah. Yuexi nodded, her face full of admiration. If you like it, keep wearing it. If anyone dares to gossip about it in the future, I will beat them up if I see them. Good. After the words fell, the two left holding hands. Li Xian sneered as he glanced at Duolan and the other man. Mission bit her red lips, her eyes widened, and she shivered with anger. Beside him, Dolan touched the sweat on his cheek guiltily, his throat twitched, and his face looked slightly gloomy. I opened my mouth to complain, but found that my lips were trembling slightly. Well, let's go back first, Mission, and investigate where that kid came from. I can feel, he seems to be no ordinary person. Well, you go investigate. I'm going to go to the primary Soul Academy. The blue medal should belong to Fishia. Fishia. When Dolan heard this, a proud girl suddenly appeared in his mind. Thinking of the girl's deeds, Dolan couldn't help but shudder. In the capital of Fasno province, who hasn't heard of the name of the genius Fishia? This agile attack-type combat soul master who came from judo training, overwhelmed his peers. But since the medal belongs to Fishia, how could this guy get it? Chapter 32. Nodding City, in the Wuhan Hall. Su Yuntao returned here and reported to Mashino everything that had just happened. When he learned that Li Xian had a conflict with someone from the provincial capital on the street, his old face changed with fear. Is Li Xian okay? Su Yuntao shook his head. Ma Xiaonuo was somewhat relieved, but before he could calm down, he suddenly jumped again. Are the exchange students from the provincial capital okay? Su Yuntao shook his head again. In this way, Mashino finally felt relieved. This kid is such a troublemaker. He just learned from Dean Su this morning that Li Xian beat up Fishia, an exchange student from the Soul Academy, and stole her noble medal. Originally, he wanted to interfere and find Li Xian to ask him to return the medal. This kind of thing didn't mean much to him, but it was a symbol of Fishia's status as a noble. But who knew that just as he got the news, Li Xian started to fight with others again. Matthew sighed softly. What a troublemaker. But fortunately, this time the matter did not get out of hand, so he was less worried about Li Xian getting hurt. He was just afraid that he would beat up the exchange student from the provincial capital. After all, if he could handle Fishia, how could the exchange students from the other two colleges be his match? Master Ma, because of this incident, one of our people who coordinated the Empire's security was injured. Are you not going to do anything about it? Ma Xiaonuo's face turned cold when he heard this. Don't worry about him. He can't tell the difference between the two. Let him be responsible for his actions. Also, inform all the staff of the Wuhan branch hall that Li Xian is a member of the Nodding City Wuhan Hall. Anyone who tries to be unfaithful should resign from this place. Okay, okay. Su Yuntao gave a forced smile, turned around and left the office. He participated in the entire process of the last conflict in the Soul Academy. Su Yuntao knew Li Xian's other identity. That kind of background was something that even an exchange student could not afford to offend. But then again, only those who participated in the conflict knew about this matter, and the other workers in the branch hall were not familiar with Li Xian. Notify everyone about Li Xian's matter as soon as possible. Su Yuntao didn't want to see any of his own people get hurt again. Here, as soon as he left, Li Xian brought Uxi to the door and knocked on Mashino's office. Li Xian came here not because he wanted Mashino to make the decision. After entering the door, he said directly, Grandpa Ma, Uxi's soul power has reached level 10. If you are free, accompany us to the Soul Beast Forest. Oh? So fast. Matthew stood up and glanced at Uxi. The disgust he had before was no longer in his eyes. He thought of something and then said, You two received the Soul Master subsidy at the Spirit Hall today. I remember that your soul power is level 19, right? If so, why don't you wait until you break through level 20 and get a soul ring with UXI? Li Xian frowned slightly. It's not that he hadn't thought about what Mashino said. However, the improvement of soul power requires gradual progress, so naturally, although he is only one level away, this level may be stuck for a long time. This would invisibly slow down UXI's practice pace. Although, after the soul power is full, the excess soul power will be released with the acquisition of the first soul ring. However, actual combat training after absorbing the spirit ring is also very important. This is naturally what Li Xian considered. Li Xian, why don't you wait a little longer? I'm not in a hurry. UXI gently shook Li Xian's arm. Okay. If UXI insisted, Li Xian would not say anything more. Then Grandpa Ma, we will come to see you again in a while. Let's go back now. Wait a minute, kid. Mashino called Li Xian, pulled out a drawer, took out a pair of exquisite watch-shaped decorations, and placed them on the desk. This is the gift that Dean Su and I prepared for you. You are about to break through to become a great spirit master. Congratulations in advance. What's this? While Li Xian was puzzled, the bracelet had already fallen into his hands. The bracelet was woven from metal with a two-color crystal in the middle. By activating his soul power, Li Xian's mind immediately fell into a small space. He thought of something and his face lit up with joy. This is a storage soul guide. It has a space of about 5 square meters. By activating the soul power in your body, you can store items other than living things inside. It is enough for you to use now. The bracelet is made of 1 purple and 1 gold. The metal surface is smooth, and the crystal reflects a transparent color. It feels cool to the touch, which makes Li Xian very happy. There are 2 bracelets in total. You and UXI can use them. Practice hard and don't let us down. Hey, thanks Grandpa Ma. Li Xian had been thinking about collecting the soul guide device day and night. He was excited by Matthew's gift. The bracelets were separated. Li Xian gave the purple pendant to UXI, tied it around her wrist, and explained to her how to use it. UXI opened her mouth wide, looking surprised. As long as you activate your soul power, you can put things in. It seems magical. Li Xian also found it amazing. In this way, he had space to store hidden weapons. After thanking Mashino, the two left the spirit hall. At the same time, inside the Nodding City Junior Soul Master Academy, a blue figure walked into the campus. After searching, the silver-haired girl Mission found Feshia who was recuperating in the dormitory. As both were exchange students, they hadn't seen each other for a long time and chatted for a while. Then, Mission went straight to the point and recounted what happened to Li Xian today. I guess he stole the medal. I came here this time just to ask you about it. Staring at Feshia's bruised and swollen face. At this moment, she seemed to have guessed something. The smile on Feshia's face froze, and a trace of embarrassment appeared on her face. Mission, thank you for your kindness, but you don't have to worry about the medal for me. What I lost, I will take back myself. So. Mission was surprised. Could it be that Li Xian really took the medal from Fesia? But, how is this possible? As a level 23 Great Soul Master, Mission is proficient in Judo and is one of the best masters even in the city of Fasno Province. Hearing her admit it herself was like a bolt from the blue, and Mission's heart skipped a beat. So I told you to stay out of this matter. Also, if you're here to watch my show, please leave. You're not welcome here. You. Mission bit her red lips and looked at Fesia angrily. What? She and Dolan wasted so much energy for a medal, but in the end, Fesia didn't even say thank you. And he could lose all the family medals. Pheasant, you are so inferior. Mission's face turned alternately blue and red as she clenched her fists. Since you have no ability, I have to intervene in the medal matter. By then, you, Fesia, will have to admit that you are not as good as me. With a lot of anger, Mission slammed the door and left the Primary Soul Academy directly. At this moment, Li Xian and UXI had no idea what happened between the two women. With the Space Soul Guide, I stored everything I bought today in it and then took it back to the academy. Li Xian arranged the iron shop matters for tomorrow. What happened that day made him very tired. After returning to the staff dormitory, he lay at home and didn't want to go anywhere. In the afternoon, the dormitory teacher came and gave Li Xian the canteen supply list, which included enough for the entire semester. Dean Su was concerned about Li Xian's nutrition and gave him the right to prepare his own meals. Because the unclaimed food is temporarily stored in the cafeteria, Li Xian was not in a hurry to deal with it. I lay on the bed and slept soundly until the evening. By the time Li Xian woke up, it was already past 7 in the evening. He stretched himself vigorously, as if to remove the fatigue of the past few days from his body, and a soft moan came out of his mouth. Dinner was placed on the table. Li Xian withdrew his gaze. It seems that UXI went to the cafeteria and bought his dinner. Where is this Nizai? After looking around the room, Li Xian noticed that the lights were on, but UXI was not there. He started eating without thinking too much. After a while, the bedroom door opened, and UXI walked in quietly, rubbing her wet hair, and saw Li Xian eating dinner and looking at her. UXI blushed. You're awake. After washing up, UXI, still in her pajamas, ran to the bed shyly and then got into the quilt. She stole a glance at Li Xian and found that those eyes were still looking at her. What happened? UXI asked shyly. Li Xian was eating and frowned. Why do you smell so good? UXI pursed her lips and her face turned red when she was asked. Toiletries I bought today €1 including a little perfume, which she didn't mention. Oh. Li Xian said and nodded. The smell makes me feel more energetic when eating. However, Li Xian sighed in his heart, he is still too young. It is difficult for him, a mature soul, to be interested. As a poet once said, girls should be careful about what they wear. As for why, it is very particular. Anyway, little kids can't do it. Li Xian. After a soft shout, Yuexi hid her little face in the quilt. What's wrong? You don't want to sleep? I just woke up. Li Xian was speechless. The rest of the evening time must be used for practice. As an assistant teacher, he has to practice in the training room for 2 hours every week. I've been playing all day today, and I have to squeeze these 2 hours out of tomorrow's schedule. Oh. Yuexi nodded, stopped talking, dried her hair with a towel, and buried herself in the quilt. She didn't know how to tell Li Xian about the fusion of their martial souls. If there was the situation on that day, she might have an idea. Suddenly at this moment, the cup was opened, and Li Xian, holding the cake in his mouth, looked at her curiously. Yuexi, you look weird, do you have a fever? As he spoke, Li Xian leaned forward and put his palm on her forehead, but didn't find anything. Yuexi sat up hurriedly, her face blushing. Looking at Li Xian approaching, her chest began to flutter. She boldly moved her forehead towards Li Xian's cheek. She closed her eyes gently, and a trace of slightly cool soul power flowed along her fragrant forehead and into Li Xian's body. Suddenly, Li Xian was stunned. Chapter 33. The delicate face came towards him, and Li Xian could even hear Yuexi's panicked heartbeat in his ears. His breathing was particularly rapid as he was about to fall. Strands of icy soul power flowed along his smooth pink forehead and flowed into Li Xian's brows. Moonlit evening. She whispered softly, and her arms felt warm, with a fragrant and soft figure appearing. Li Xian's mind gradually calmed down, and as the soul power continued to blend, he seemed to sink into a quiet pool of water. Forget about time, forget about yourself, flow slowly, and the soul flows away like water. The next day, a cool breeze blew, and Li Xian's consciousness woke up from the boundless ocean. The comfortable feeling of soul power filling his limbs and bones made him look radiant. He opened his eyes and felt so comfortable that he almost uttered a sound. Li Xian just felt refreshed and comfortable like never before. Just as I was about to stand up, I felt a soft touch, a chill in my arms, and a figure dodged past me. Some scenes from yesterday suddenly came to my mind. Li Xian was slightly surprised. That is to say, the first fusion of his and Yuexi's martial spirits caused their consciousness to fall into a strange space, and they spent the whole night in ecstasy and practice. What a magical feeling! In his consciousness, Li Xian felt that he fell into a golden lake. His body turned into a liquid, flowing quietly along the lake, and he even forgot himself. Li Xian clenched his fists tightly, and his strength flowed out from his muscles. His meridians in his body flowed freely, and his soul power almost doubled. It looks like I'm just a little bit away from reaching level 20. Thinking of this, Li Xian turned his gaze to the petite figure beside him who was rubbing his eyes and getting up. You're awake. Li Hyunko chuckled. He had never expected that Yuexi had already guessed the possibility that their martial spirits could be integrated. To her, Li Xian, the little boy, was actually a little hesitant. In the end, it was Yuexi who broke through the window screen. Yuexi felt comfortable inside, refreshed, and her eyes were clear. Li Xian, you're not angry, are you? As those memories flooded into her mind, Yuexi ignored her hot face and secretly glanced at Li Xian. The emotions are like a coaster. Oh my god, what you did is really bold. Yuexi couldn't believe that she could do such an outrageous thing. What are you thinking about? I won't be angry. In fact, I have always suspected that our soul powers can be integrated, but I am afraid that you will think too much, so I am embarrassed to say it. Looking at Yuexi's silly face, Li Xian put his big hands on her head and rubbed it hard. You forgot that when we were in the spirit hall, Master Ma said that your spirit attribute was more yin and needed to be suppressed by the top light attribute. At that time, he also tacitly agreed that I could help you stay and that my spirit attribute could help you practice. Therefore, the martial spirits of one light and one dark can naturally be integrated. Yuexi stared with big eyes, her heart beating fast. It turned out that Li Xian also knew about it. He didn't say it. He was taking care of his own feelings. I'm going to wash up. Her face felt hot, and Yuexi hurriedly got up from the quilt and rushed to the bathroom. Li Xian scratched his head and suddenly remembered that he had not yet asked Yuexi about her feelings about the fusion of their martial souls. What exactly would the fusion technique of their martial souls look like? Last night, in addition to the water-like memory, Li Xian seemed to remember that he seemed to have turned into a petal, dancing in the breeze. If the spirit ring can add 2 spirit skills to his martial soul, then, would the Kingxiu Stringy Moonvine and the Qirong Tongtian Chrysanthemum be 2 accompanying martial souls? So, can it produce 2 soul skills? Thinking of this possibility, Li Xian suddenly felt a surge of anticipation in his heart. After breakfast, Li Xian went to the training room. In the spacious jade training ground, Wu Qian looked at Li Xian's registration information with a strange expression on his face and frowned. You are level 19. Right. Who measured your soul power? I just took the test at the spirit hall yesterday. Okay, I'll assign you to the senior teaching assistants, is that okay? Li Xian thought for a moment and asked, Teacher Wu, what is the average level of soul power for senior students? Around level 10, and no more than level 15. Wu Jian also said a little uncomfortably. Director Luo once asked him to take care of a first-grade student named Li Xian, and reminded him that the child was a little different. Now, Wu Jian understood why Director Luo said that. A 6-year-old child had reached level 19 in spirit power. If he hadn't seen the Soul Palace registration information with his own eyes, Wu Jian would have thought he had seen a ghost. Even in the records of Spirit Hall, there is no such speed. Fortunately, the teacher's good manners prevented Wu Jian from showing his shock, and he acknowledged Li Xian's ability and assigned him to a senior grade as an assistant teacher. Level 10. On this side, Li Xian was also slightly stunned when he heard this answer. It turns out that the graduation requirements of the Soul Academy are very realistic, and one can graduate successfully if he reaches level 15. However, compared with the Fasno Provincial College, the quality of students in the Junior Soul College is too different. You know, whether it is Fishia or Mishandolan who had a conflict with me yesterday, they both have soul power of more than level 20. Although there is only a 5-level difference, it becomes increasingly difficult to improve a soul master's level as time goes by. This made Li Xian understand. Then why did Mishandolan look at him and Yuexi with such contempt? Perhaps neither of them would believe that a freshman from a junior college would be qualified to fight against them. However, Li Xian did not think about the fact that the students who came to Nottingham as exchange students were also top-notch in their respective schools. Comparing the high-quality students in the provincial capital with the overall quality of junior students is problematic in itself. After registering the information, Wu Jian gave Li Xian some basic training. Being an assistant teacher is not an easy job. You need to supervise the training of students in the Soul Academy and help them hone their practical skills. If a student is injured, you also need to provide basic treatment. The most basic requirement for being an assistant teacher is that one's soul power must be higher than that of an ordinary student. In addition, there are also high requirements for mental quality. If one is mentally unhealthy or has poor tolerance, he or she is not qualified to be an assistant teacher. Li Xian even received a medical kit of his own from Wu Jian, including not excluding, artificial respiration, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, bone setting, bandaging to stop bleeding. It is not possible to master all of these in one day. During Wu Jian's training, we only teach a little bit at a time. After all, the probability of injuries happening is very small, and there is a sense of propriety between the students and the teaching assistants. Go to the fixed waiting area to clock in, and the teaching assistant's work begins. Li Xian's teaching assistant is for senior students, and his personal information is also displayed in the hall. If a student needs a teaching assistant and calls Li Xian, he has to go out to receive them. The word reception is not good, it should be said guidance. Teaching assistants are similar to part-time students and can receive a certain amount of points based on their workload. In the Soul Academy, points are equal to soul coins, which are used to purchase cultivation resources and daily necessities. After Li Xian punched in, he began to wait boredly. He had to make sure he stayed at his post for 4 hours before his work was finished. There are not many people in the assistant teacher's room now. Those who come to train early in the morning on weekends are generally not very smart. So there was only one senior boy in the teaching assistant room where Li Xian was. The boy was quiet, had a band-aid on his face, and was wrapping one of his fists with a bandage. Li Xian was not a man of many words. With nothing to do, he took out the Xiantian Bailo he carried with him and continued to study the making of hidden weapons. The atmosphere here is noisy and not suitable for cultivation. Besides, it is better to go home and look for UXI at night than to waste time here to improve soul power. Ding dong. Suddenly, before I had been idle in the assistant classroom for long, the light above my head came on. How dare someone here to train so early in the morning? Li Xian was speechless when he realized that he was the one being pointed at. Teaching assistants need to spend points, which means they have to pay to use his resources. There will be no random selection in the teaching assistant room. Li Xian went to the reserved 1v1 hall and found a girl waiting there. When Li Xian saw the brown wavy hair and the snake-like waist, and stared at the pretty face of the girl who turned away, his face suddenly turned dark. So that idiot is you. Brain dead? What kind of brain dead? Fisia turned her eyes away and frowned. I didn't expect you to be an assistant teacher here. God is really kind. Li Xian gritted his teeth. He didn't expect that he would be approached on his first day at work. It was impossible that this Fisia was not investigating him behind his back. What do you need an assistant for? You're already level 23, I can't help you. Is this your attitude? I'm going to give you a bad review. Fisia crossed her arms and looked at Li Xian's deflated expression. For some reason, she felt secretly happy. Bad review. In this world, I hear such a rare word. If students give bad reviews, Li Xian's points will be deducted, which is equivalent to a fine. This damn Fixia is really looking for trouble. Tell me what you want me to do. Assistant, of course I need your help. Stand there and help me practice jujitsu. As she spoke, Fisia rubbed her wrist and walked over with a strange smile on her face. I'm telling you. If you dare to take revenge, I can choose to cancel this teaching position. When Li Xian heard the word judo, his head suddenly became confused. He had suffered enough yesterday. Hehe, as long as you control the strength, there's no way you can cancel it. Hurry up, get on the ground. With a bang, Li Xian was gently thrown to the ground. A foul word came out of his mouth. A cross arm bar was formed and Li Xian was strangled to the point of being unable to breathe. It seems that my jutsu has become rusty. Why? Can't use strength. Almost speaking with the belly. Fisia held one of Li Xian's hands, and her long legs like snakes passed through Li Xian's upper body from front to back, locking his head tightly. As the body stretched out, Fishia's arms tightened more and more, almost using all her strength, and her feet were stretched straight. Chapter 34. You little BCH. I'm not done with you. Li Xian was breathing out faster than he was breathing in, and he wanted to open his mouth and bite Fishia's soft calf hard. Next, Li Xian began the inhuman torture he suffered as an assistant teacher. Basic exercises in jujitsu, including throws, back control, upper suppression, submission and other techniques. Various and combined moves, throw down, sweep, leg over, riding, guillotine, triangle lock, kimura lock. Including but not limited to the self-created moves after Fishia's soft soul skills. 1,000-pound weight, shadow bone splitting technique. As a black belt jujitsu master, she is worthy of her superb jujitsu skills. Li Xian truly experienced what it meant to live a life worse than death. I call this move shrimp back, how about it? It feels good, right? Not bad, you. With her forearm passing through Li Xian's neck and her legs tightening around his waist and abdomen, Fishia bent Li Xian's body, and his upper body immediately bent into an S shape. You dare to talk back? Taking a look at the red cheeks, Fishia smiled slyly, twisted the head in the opposite direction with both hands, and pressed down, and suddenly there was a popping sound. After a while, seeing that Li Xian was only breathing his last breath, she finally let go. Call. After taking a long breath, Li Xian even wanted to kill someone. On-site teaching, right? Are you here to be my teaching assistant? But don't say it. Li Xian really learned a lot from Fishia's set of judo. Little BCH, you are not looking for me just for revenge, right? I tell you, my friend likes your medal very much, and I will not give it back to you. Shaking her head, Fishia said, I have as many medals as you want at home. Who would want to ask you for them? Oh? You seem to have gotten rid of your anger. How about we just settle our grudge? You're dreaming. I lost the medal, and that girl Mission knows about it. You've embarrassed me, don't you know that? So what? Duel. I want to challenge you to a duel again. If you don't agree, I will wait for you in the assistant room every day. Hehe. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm almost level 20 now. Once I get my second spirit ring, it will be even more impossible for you to defeat me. So fast. Fishia's expression changed. Then accept the duel quickly. Let's fight again before you reach level 20. What's the point? Li Xian frowned and said speechlessly, with your request, it's better for me to lose to you directly and admit that I am no match for you. It seems so. Fishia sighed. She did lose, there was nothing to say about it. If it weren't for that damn girl Mission, she wouldn't be so anxious. I have an idea. Li Xian had a sinister look on his face, but Fishia's face brightened when he heard that. You say. Hey, come up with an idea. Let Mission challenge me to a duel. I'll beat her up too, and then you can save your face. Humph. She's not worthy. She wasn't my opponent in Fasno. What can losing to you prove? Then you can find someone who is stronger and more prestigious than you, and I'll give her a beating, is that okay? Fishia blinked her eyes, well, yes, there is. My good sister can definitely deal with you. But, she has already entered the Royal Academy. You can only meet her when you go to college. Clapping her hands, Fishia stood up barefoot and snorted, but I am not a stingy person. Seeing that you have a good attitude today, I will forgive you. I am too lazy to argue with you about the medal. But I remind you that Mission is not as easy to talk to as I am. In order to suppress me, she will definitely continue to pester you. You better be careful. With a bang, Li Xian's upper body fell down and he let out a long sigh of relief from his chest. You finally came to your senses. Thank you. I will pay attention to it myself. Fishia's expression was serious. I'm not going to hurt you just because I want you to be careful. Her family is different from mine. As a newly promoted noble, she has a warlike title in the provincial capital of Fasno. If she wants to deal with you, she'll try any tricks. Just to beat me, that's all. Then you underestimate the competition between nobles. As the leader of the younger generation in the family, Fishia ranks among the top in all junior colleges in the provincial capital of Fasno. Compared with her, Mission is still a little bit behind. So, in order to defeat her, even cruel means can be used. Otherwise, why would that guy be willing to be an exchange student and follow me to such a remote place? Fishia left after giving a warning. Behind his head, a pair of pink cloth shoes were thrown out by Li Xian. Don't you want the shoes anymore? Oh. Try again. Fishia put on her shoes and socks, left after giving a warning. After finishing his tiring teaching assistant work, Li Xian took a break and started his lunch for the day. The joints that were broken by that little girl yesterday were swollen. With Yuxi's help, these injuries have mostly recovered. Now they are well and can be broken back into shape. Li Xian asked Yuxi for help and gave her half of the library work so that he could free up time to work as an apprentice in the iron shop. He would not use Yuxi in vain, as there would naturally be many benefits. Afternoon. Li Xian walked out of the primary Soul Academy and went directly to the iron shop. Before the assistant teacher had time to take off his clothes, he immediately put on an apron and followed the master to learn the first step of blacksmithing, forging. Xiantian Bailu includes 4 unique skills, 1 internal skill, 1 hidden weapon, and finally an additional herbal book. Hidden weapons are called Hidden Weapons 100 Solutions, which includes the various ways of making, ranking and using hidden weapons. The handwritten copy given by Xiao San naturally would not explain everything clearly, and the content he omitted was mainly in the diagrams of hidden weapons. Therefore, Li Xian could only create the shape of the hidden weapon he imagined based on the written description. Doing this, I don't know if it will be crooked. But Li Xian thought again, Xiao San could even write a whole treasure record, so if he couldn't make a hidden weapon with words, he would be too inferior. Not only do it, but do it exceptionally. Li Xian made up his mind that he would study the production of soul guides and apply the use of soul power to ordinary hidden weapons. The profession of soul guide is almost extinct now. In addition to the strict soul power conditions, it is also related to one's own strength. Most soul masters focus on cultivating their soul power and improving their physical bodies. After all, only when your physical body is strong will your foundation be solid, and your soul power will be enhanced and operated better than your peers, and your upper limit will be higher. If you think about external things all day long, the soul guide's own soul power will be delayed. What's the use of taking out a soul guide that is comparable to the soul king or soul saint? If you fail, the person will be gone. Therefore, the soul guide profession has been forgotten, and the soul guides that remain on the market are all products of the previous era. Li Xian wanted to learn some basic soul guide making skills. He did not intend to delve too deeply into it. As long as he could learn how to carve the patterns that coordinated the relationship between mortal objects and soul power, that would be enough. Therefore, there is nothing wrong with his idea. Maybe in this way, the lethality of hidden weapons will be greatly increased. After finishing his first day of apprenticeship, Li Xian returned to the Soul Academy, almost dragging his body back. When I shook my hands slightly, 3 or 2 blisters appeared on the inside of my palms. All things are difficult at the beginning. Although the work is a little hard, the fulfillment and happiness I feel cannot be described in words. Come to the cafeteria and eat with revenge. Li Xian wanted to eat all the food for a week. The body is tired, but the soul is extremely free. Thinking that after I return, Yuexi will still be waiting for me obediently, for some reason, all my tiredness seems to disappear in an instant. Go home and practice. After a few days of getting along, the two gradually got used to this kind of cohabitation life. Li Xian taught Yuexi the Tang Sect's unique internal martial arts, Xian Tiangong. In this way, the two of them practiced their soul power skills on the same line at the same time. After practicing, the degree of soul power fusion almost reached 100%. Night. Li Xian and Yuexi sat cross-legged on the big bed in the bedroom, facing each other, with their palms crossed. As the Xian Tiangong was put into practice, the soul power floated from the air. After being refined into the body, it circulated along the meridians, then merged into the danshan and flowed into the pure source of soul power in the body. At the same time, another meridian in the body started to operate, and the source of soul power flowed into each other's body through the palms of their hands, and was further purified through the complementary martial soul attributes. The speed of soul power improvement is several times faster than that of ordinary soul masters. Call. With gentle rise and fall, their breathing and heartbeats gradually became synchronized. The consciousness falls into the boundless lake, feeling the improvement of soul power, forgetting the self, and the body is polished silently along with the improvement of soul power. Some of the damaged scars on Li Xian's skin were healing visibly. At the same time, the bright aura of a top-level martial soul flowed through Li Xian's body, suppressing the phantom martial soul that was stirring behind Yuexi, allowing her consciousness to take over and not be affected by the evil martial soul. The night passed quickly. The next day, Li Xian woke up first. The breeze blows through the curtains, making the air fresh and the mind relaxed. Feeling the coolness in his meridians that had not yet faded away, Li Xian could tell that within a week, he would be able to raise his soul power to level 20. This cultivation speed is really too fast. Call. In front of him, Yuexi slowly woke up. With her smooth long hair spread out, her pretty pink face was illuminated by the morning light. She blinked her big black eyes and stared straight at Li Xian. Why are you looking at me? Although I really enjoyed the process of practicing with Li Xian. But it's always embarrassing when I wake up in the morning. I'm checking to see if you've transformed. I'm afraid you'll be possessed by a succubus and eat me. Li Xian joked. I'll go wash up. Change into sports clothes and go for a run later. Good. A new week begins, and the carefree life of primary school students is so simple and unpretentious. Apart from attending classes and eating, he would sleep and practice martial arts every day. Occasionally he would go to the assistant classroom. The rest of the time he would go to the iron shop and the library, studying the making of hidden weapons and soul guides. In a blink of an eye, a week passed. Waking up early one morning, Li Xian clenched his fists, his soul power rising to its peak. Level 20. On this day, I found Master Ma and Dean Su early in the morning and agreed to go to the Soul Beast Forest again to obtain the second soul ring. Yuexi is also looking forward to improving her soul power. You know, a soul master whose two martial souls are fused together, in addition to having close soul powers, will also have a characteristic of complementing each other. In other words, the original soul power between the two people will lean towards the one with lower soul power, complementing each other's strengths and making up for each other's weaknesses. This is also the reason why Li Xian and Yuexi practiced for dozens of days before reaching level 20. After all, the focus of soul power fusion is on Yuexi. As long as she could obtain a spirit ring of good age this time, Yuexi's level would also increase absurdly. Li Xian is looking forward to it. After breaking through to the Great Soul Master level, the number of years he can modify is 1000, and at the same time, all changes are refreshed. The 10,000-year spirit ring adds 1,000 years to the limit. If a critical hit occurs, that would be 100,000 years. 100,000-year spirit ring. Will he explode and die from that kind of cultivation? Chapter 35. Star Forest. It spans the border between the Tiandu Empire and the Xingluo Empire, and is adjacent to the Fasno province. Vast area. Almost the same size as the entire kingdom of Barak. As the largest soul beast gathering place on Douluo Continent. The terrain in the Xingdu Great Forest is complex, with wetlands, swamps, and lakes. The closer to the center of the forest, the more powerful the soul beasts will be. Even the legendary 100,000-year soul beasts are very likely to exist. This time, it took Matthew Nyo 3 days to get here from Nottingham with Li Xian and Uxi. Considering the importance of Li Xian's second spirit ring, Matthew used the order from the Martial Spirit Hall of the Barak Kingdom. The soul beasts that are hunted are no longer the common soul beasts in the wetland forest. The dangers in the Star Forest can be imagined. To be on the safe side, Mashino first registered his information in the local Wuhan Sub-Palace, and used the warrant to ask a Soul King in the Wuhan Sub-Palace to take action. In addition to Mashino, Dean Su from the Junior College also came. Together with this Soul Sect Master from the Zi Palace, they formed a strong team. It must be enough to enter the outskirts of the Star Forest to hunt soul beasts. Li Xian, Uxi, this is the Soul King Zhao Feng from the Sub-Palace. This time, I personally took action for you two little guys. Hurry up and say hello to the Soul King. Uncle. Zhao Feng was a tall, middle-aged man with a dull complexion, short white hair, clean-shaven face, and spotless clothes. He has the cultivation level of a Soul King at level 54, and his martial soul is the weapon soul White Bamboo. Compared with the Soul Martial Temple, Mashino, the head of the branch temple, is not so impressive. He did not try to conceal the envy in his eyes. By the way, Master Zhao Feng, we entered the outer area through the Spirit Hall's unique entrance, right? Zhao Feng nodded. Enter from the northwest swamp. The outer soul beasts in that area are guarded by our Wuhan Hall personnel. The soul beasts inside will not exceed 30,000 years of cultivation. Actually, even though I have the strength of a Soul King, even for me, I still need to be cautious when entering the Star Do Great Forest and only dare to move around on the periphery. Master Soul King, you are being too modest. With a smile, Matthew pulled Li Xian and followed Zhao Feng. Ahead of them, there were two teams of Spirit Hall workers clearing the way. As the person in charge of a branch hall, Mashino actually brought the tokens of two elders of the Spirit Hall, Zhu and Gui. They did not dare to underestimate it. Of course, after bringing people into the forest, these workers had to leave. After all, the soul beasts in the northwest outer area had been swept away, so there was not much danger. Li Xian, we will prioritize obtaining spirit rings for you. When you become a great spirit master, Lord Zhao Feng will be leaving. With you, me, and Dean Su here, it will be easy for us to help you Uxi find a 100-year-old spirit beast. Yes. Sorry for the trouble, Grandpa Ma. After leaving Nottingham and riding in a carriage for 3 days, Li Xian's gradually extinguished expectations were rekindled. His second spirit ring? Bet on 100 times critical hit, come on for 100,000 years. Uxi, you can actually stay in the camp. It's very dangerous to go in with us. Holding the soft little hand, Li Xian said with a smile. After accepting the fact of the fusion of martial souls, Li Xian's one-sided shamelessness has become an unspoken dislike between the two of them. After all, as long as they hold hands, the soul power of the two can be activated automatically, which is too easy for soul masters to practice. I want to follow you and see what it's like. This is my first time absorbing a spirit ring, and I've never seen anything like it. Uxi said softly. She was very nervous when she absorbed the spirit ring for the first time, but with Li Xian's demonstration, she became more confident. If you want to go, I will definitely take you. Just stay with me and don't go too far. Li Xian gave a few more instructions. This place is different from the wetland soul beast forest. In the primitive Star Do Great Forest, the competition in the food chain is cruel. Any soul beast that comes out has extremely strong combat power and wildness. Master Ma, have you decided on the soul beasts for the two little guys? If you have a target, I can take you to a designated location. Zhao Feng and Mashino walked side by side. As both were in charge of the Soul Palace, Zhao Feng was not arrogant, respected Mashino's status as an elder, and was polite. Ma Xiaonyo smiled and said, I've already thought about it. Let's find a soul beast for that kid first, preferably a plant-type soul beast with 800 years of cultivation. Li Xian's martial soul is a little special, we want to help him develop the control path, Fenji curly tail grass, Yin Shui bamboo, 100 spots green-haired beast, any of them will do. Of course, if Lord Zhao Feng has any ideas, you can also tell us. The soul beasts you chose tend to be control-oriented. It seems Master Ma is thoughtful. If it is convenient to disclose, you can tell me the boy's spirit. To be honest, before I reached level 30, I was also a weapon spirit control system combat spirit master, and I have done more in-depth research in this area. Oh. That's great, Li Xian, release your martial spirit for Lord Zhao Feng to see, and tell him what your martial spirit is. Oh. Letting go of Uxi's little hand, Li Xian took a step forward. As the soul power in the body was stimulated, a green vine with black stripes broke through the air and grew horizontally at the top, producing many small golden and purple flowers. After being controlled, the martial spirit is about the size of a palm, with a shining and beautiful surface. Weapon spirit, mutated cassia grass. Li Xian said so. As his martial soul was released, a black soul ring suddenly floated around his body. The cold and thick aura made Soul King Zhao Feng's eyelids twitch twice. Master, is that a 10,000-year soul ring on Li Xian? Zhao Feng rubbed his eyes hurriedly. Ma Shinou opened his mouth and said, As you can see, his martial spirit is very special. After absorbing the first spirit ring, an unknown situation occurred. After absorbing a nearly 200-year-old ghost water purple orchid, it turned into a 10,000-year spirit ring. In fact, we are not quite sure whether it is a 10,000-year spirit ring or not. Judging from its performance, its controllability is okay. Taking a deep breath, Zhao Feng nodded. No wonder. It's not easy to be noticed by the Elders' Hall. Zhao Feng couldn't help but stare at the martial spirit in Li Xian's palm for a few more times. Suddenly, the cassia grass released an aura that made his heart beat and he felt a little apprehensive. It seemed as if the martial soul in the body was suppressed, and the circulation of soul power became difficult. This is a top-level plant-type martial spirit. Zhao Feng's heart skipped a beat again. As a soul king of the white bamboo weapon martial soul, Zhao Feng has seen too many outstanding martial souls and the extremely outstanding younger generations of the martial soul hall. The reason why he could see through Li Xian's martial soul at a glance was that it was a top-level martial soul. Because he felt, his white bamboo martial soul was actually suppressed by the cassia grass martial soul. Natural bloodline suppression. Zhao Feng looked at Li Xian again, dignifiedly. Fortunately, I didn't neglect these guests. This kid's future achievements are limitless. Master Ma, I think Li Xian should go the path of a combat soul master. He has a top-level martial soul, and it will be difficult for him to develop in the future if he goes the control system. After examining Li Xian, Zhao Feng expressed his thoughts. The reason why he switched to the offensive system after level 30 was because the control system was too difficult to upgrade. Although the future achievements of top-level martial spirits are limitless, only those who have experienced it understand that when the potential in the body has not been fully developed and is stuck at a certain level, setting goals that are too high for yourself will ultimately hurt yourself. Everyone who embarks on the path of a soul master believes that their future achievements are limitless and that they will definitely become the titled Douluo that everyone admires. The cruelty of reality can only be understood after experiencing it. The upper limit of cultivation is greater than the upper limit of the goal. It is better to steadily improve your strength than to get stuck halfway. Hey, Master Zhao Feng, we understand what you mean, but that kid absorbed Ghost Water Aster as his first soul ring, and changing the direction of development now will only harm him. What we can do is to lead the future generations onto the right path, and trust them as we once trusted ourselves. In this life, we must fight once, right? Upon hearing this, Dean Su smiled slightly and looked up at the colorful sky above his head with a sigh. Zhao Feng also fell into deep silence. I have been silent for too long, the heat in my heart has long dissipated. Yes, having expectations in your heart and passing them on to future generations is what the person in charge of the spirit hall should do. Thank you for your advice, Master Ma. Haha. I don't dare. Li Xian took his martial soul into his body, slowed down his pace, and grabbed Yuexi's little hand. I'm back again. Looking down at her palm, which was held and squeezed by Li Xian, Yuexi's face flushed slightly. Hey, there seems to be someone nearby. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound, and Zhao Feng, who was in the lead, slowed down his pace. He looked at the accompanying staff and asked, Is there anyone else here today? Your Excellency, 2 groups of people came to Notting City today. In addition to Master Ma and his group, there is also the Dean of Notting City Junior College. However, those students are from another intermediate martial arts college and are currently exchange students. Oh. His answer instantly attracted several glances. Master Ma and Dean Su didn't think there was anything wrong. However, Li Xian immediately thought of 2 familiar names and blurted out, Mission and Duolin. Aren't they both great soul masters? Why do they need soul rings? By the way, Li Xian suddenly remembered that he sensed the aura of a cultivation level of more than level 20 from Mission that day, but as for Duolin who was traveling with him, he did not show his skills. Thinking back, Li Xian frowned slightly. It was really a rare opportunity for enemies to meet here. However, this time everyone's goal is to hunt soul beasts, and Soul King Zhao Feng is also traveling with them. Even if Mi Shan and the other 2 have a conspiracy, they would not dare to act here. Hey? It's you guys. Just at this moment, a girl's light exclamation was heard. Then, 5 figures walked out from the bushes nearby. The silver-haired woman in the lead looked at Li Xian and the other man with a flash of surprise in her eyes. Chapter 36. When those eyes full of aggression fell on Li Xian's face, a look of joy actually flashed across Mission's face. Beside her, Milan crossed his arms with a gloomy look on his face. The 2 wore blue Soul Academy uniforms and green noble medals on their chests. Accompanying them were the principal of Nottingham Junior College and 2 young men in armor. But when Mi Shan's eyes noticed Zhao Feng next to Li Xian and the Wuhan sub-hall workers who were clearing the way for their team, the surprise on her face turned into shock, and her lips opened slightly. Before entering the Xingde Great Forest, they visited the head of the Wuhan sub-palace, hoping to invite him to accompany them as a noble, but the staff of the sub-palace told them that Lord Soul King was not there. Combining the current situation, Mission suddenly realized that Zidian's Soul King was in Li Xian's team. Moreover, judging from the scale of the way cleared by the workers of the sub-palace, it was the highest honor. But this, how is this possible? Aren't Li Xian and that girl just ordinary people? Why should they Your friends. Zhao Feng glanced at the approaching team and asked Mashino curiously. Mashino looked a little embarrassed and didn't know how to answer. No fight, no acquaintance, we are friends now. Li Xian continued with a smile. Yuexi frowned slightly, and when she saw Mission, she clenched the blue medal on her chest, with displeasure written all over her face. Dean Su looked calm and composed, watching the show. Taking in all these expressions, Soul King Zhao Feng understood. Several friends, all from Nottingham, what a coincidence. I hope everyone can help each other in the forest. I don't want anything bad to happen within my jurisdiction. In the first half of the sentence, Zhao Feng's expression was gentle, but after he uttered the following words, his expression turned cold. As if giving a warning, he glanced at the crowd opposite him, his eyes moving across everyone's face. This must be Master Zhao Feng from the Junior Palace. I would like to express my greetings to you on behalf of Nottingham Junior College. These two are exchange students from the academy. One of them has just reached level 20 in spirit power. Don't worry, we are hunting spirit beasts normally and will not cause any trouble for no reason. That's fine. The principal of Nottingham Junior College and Matthew were old acquaintances and greeted each other. He was not aware of the conflict between Mission and Li Xian. This time, the exchange students asked him to help hunt soul beasts. For fear of neglecting the provincial college, he came here as an escort. As for other matters, this elder who teaches and educates people will not break the rules. After being warned by King Zhao Fenghun, Mi Shan seemed to be deflated, and the expression on her face was also very ugly. When he looked at Dolan, both of them had stern faces. Why were those two civilians able to invite the Soul King? Mission was puzzled and felt depressed. He put aside his thoughts for the moment and greeted Zhao Feng. It's really hard to chase here and get humiliated. Faint words floated out of Li Xian's mouth. With a teasing look in his eyes, he stared at Mission and Dolan and made a joke. Yuexi heard this and smiled secretly. You. Hearing this, Mission's eyes seemed to be spitting fire. Due to the Soul King's warning, he dared not to lose his temper. After bowing, he led the team away angrily. Goodbye, Master Soul King. Zhao Feng hummed softly, and glanced at Li Xian with bright eyes, but he didn't say much. Often the road to genius is filled with all kinds of mindless ridicule. In other words, if you want to verify whether you are a genius, you just need to observe whether there are enough people around you. The louder the opposition, the more confirmed he is a genius. Zhao Feng has encountered too many similar things along the way. After all, his cultivation had reached level 50, and he had once had a glorious period. Half a day later, Zhao Feng led the team to a lake in the forest. The lake here is not very large. It is called a lake, but in fact it is only the size of 2 ponds. Zhao Feng led the team alone. He said to Mashinyo, I found 100 spotted green-haired beast here that was close to 1,000 years old. It was very cunning. I was going to help my apprentice hunt it, but it ran away. In addition, there is a population of autumn leaf thornfish living in this lake. This group of carnivorous soul beasts occupy the lake and are very ferocious. I am trying to attract the 100 spotted green-haired beast, so you should be careful. Good. Protecting Li Xian and the other man, Mashino retreated several dozen steps. The outskirts of the forest they entered were occupied by spirit masters from the spirit hall, and there were no dangerous spirit beasts. Zhao Feng was the Soul King and the person in charge of this area. Therefore, with him leading the way, the group did not encounter any danger on the way. Moreover, Zhao Feng was very familiar with the geographical location. They only needed to tell him the information of the soul beast and they could lead everyone to find the soul beast. As a Soul King with full strength, Matthew Nyo felt deeply that he had found the right person this time. Once you have an identity, you can enjoy resources that ordinary people can hardly dream of. Before. The dark lake reflects the forest. In the center, a huge tree grows. The old tree is dead and half of it is immersed in water. The lake gives people a quiet and bloody atmosphere. Zhao Feng released his martial soul and held a white bamboo as long as his body in his hand. Under his feet, 2 yellow and 3 purple soul rings appeared. Looking closely, the third purple soul ring was faintly turning dark. Judging from the color, the soul ring must have come from a powerful soul beast with nearly 10,000 years of cultivation. Zhao Feng's first and third soul rings flashed twice in succession. With a light shout, the white bamboo in his hand turned into 3 pieces. With a sound of breaking through the air, the white bamboos intertwined and turned into a cage, which enlarged dozens of times in front of him. Go! With a wave of his hand, the white bamboo turned upside down towards the lake. The powerful soul power released from the surface impacted the lake surface and disturbed the soul beasts inside. Clatter! The lake water was like particles in a sieve, shaking intensively, and soon the waves spread across the entire lake. Boom! A reddish-brown soul beast with a half-meter length, a pointed head and a long mouth jumped out of the water, and fell into the water again in a graceful arc. The soul beast was extremely fast and disappeared in the blink of an eye. It was like a signal. Soon, the soul beasts and fish living in the lake jumped out of the water one after another, filling the entire surface of the lake. Once that sharp fish mouth touches the flesh, it will pierce through as expected. If a soul master was active in the lake at this moment, his life would be in danger. The white bamboo cage in Zhao Feng's hand was hit by the school of fish, and the white light on the surface gradually dissipated. Zhao Feng frowned, and the 4th purple soul ring flashed. There were 8 white bamboos lined up behind him, carrying sharp edges, and suddenly pierced towards the school of fish in front of him. The white bamboo spear carrying 8 corpses of autumn leaf thornfish fell into the water, and then its soul power dissipated, and the blood-red body fluids of the autumn leaf thornfish soaked the lake water. White or yellow soul rings floated out from the half-meter-long fish. Li Xian's eyes flickered. That is a strong attack skill. The corpse floated in the water. The blood of the autumn leaf thornfish stimulated the tribe. These soul beasts jumped into the air like crazy and had a tendency to rush to the water's edge. They are enraged. Let's go. Zhao Feng found something wrong, took back his martial spirit, and left with everyone. The 100-spotted green-haired beast could not be found. The blood will attract other soul beasts, and this place will become dangerous. His methods opened Li Xian's eyes. It turned out that weapon spirits could be used in this way. When he gets his third spirit ring, he will also have a similar effect. Absorb a soul skill similar to an aerial cage, and cooperate with the first soul skill, earth control, to go up and down, leaving the opponent with no way to escape. Are those all spirit rings? What a pity. Uxi looked at the large and small soul rings floating on the lake and said with a frown. Those that don't suit you, let's find the right ones. Rubbing her head, Li Xian said comforting words. After all, girls will always feel some sympathy when they see soul beasts being hunted. However, soul beasts need to transform into humans before they can have human emotions. They are more brutal than ordinary wild beasts, and killing is their nature. Humans hunt soul beasts, and waves of beasts attack the city. From their respective standpoints, no one is wrong. Zhao Feng's first attack was ineffective, which seemed to make him lose face. Then, he led a group of people deeper into the forest, passing the outskirts of the star forest and arriving at an ancient and quiet forest area. We don't have much time left. We have to get back before sunset. Next, let's go look for the phoenix wing curly tail grass. Don't worry, these soul beasts like to gather in groups, so they are easy to find. Zhao Feng patted his chest as if to make a promise. If he couldn't help the child get the second soul ring, he would be unworthy of the title of Soul King. Master Zhao Feng, don't worry. With 2 children, we will try our best to prioritize safety. Don't worry, I know my limits. Another hour of walking. The ancient trees blocked out the sky, and the vision became dim. Li Xian carried Yuexi on his back and held a pair of small shoes. Because she was wearing a school uniform, the shoes were very uncomfortable and Yuexi's heels were rubbed raw. Li Xian, I can actually walk by myself. Yuexi was leaning on him, and as she spoke, her hot breath gently hit Li Xian's skin. It's okay. I'll carry you on my back. If a soul beast attacks me from behind, I'll have a shield. You are so bad. Yuexi curled her lips and put her head on his back, gently bumping his forehead a few times. Li Xian laughed, haha, that's it. The fight between the two fell into Zhao Feng's ears. Glancing at the girl whose feet were rubbed raw from walking for half a day, he felt embarrassed. As a soul king leading the way, it would be a shame if we don't find the soul beast. Swoosh. Just as he thought of it, a red light flashed through the dense forest not far away. Zhao Feng's eyes lit up with joy and he chased in that direction. It's the phoenix wing drooping grass, follow me. After he finished speaking, 5 spirit rings appeared on his body, and the 5th spirit ring emitted light. Li Xian only felt a gust of wind dissipate in front of him, and Zhao Feng disappeared. Machino and Dinsu looked at each other, and with Machino following beside them, Dinsu spread his wings, possessed by the stone sparrow spirit, and went to help. By displaying his martial spirit, Li Xian was also ready for battle. 10 minutes later. Follow Machino to an open area. There were vine fragments all around and traces of fighting on the tree trunks. On a mound not far away, Zhao Feng held a white bamboo with both hands and pinned down a struggling 2-meter-long soul beast. Li Xian, come quickly. Hear the shout. Li Xian put Yuexi down and ran over. Just watch from the side. Li Xian activated his martial soul and rushed to the nearby area. Zhao Feng had already reserved a spot on the soul beast for the final blow. Attaching his soul power to his fist and using his hand as a knife, Li Xian's palm pierced through the weak root of the phoenix-winged drongo and penetrated into the brain. Then, with a stir, the life of the phoenix-winged drongo ended. It looks like a pheasant, with a gorgeous fiery red tail, however, its feathers are made up of strands of red grass, and its head is very pointed and hidden under its abdomen. Zhao Feng pulled his head out, and his 2-meter-long drake stretched out, looking like a fiery red pheasant. As its life ended, the soul power that escaped from its body flowed upwards and turned into a deep yellow soul ring that floated above the corpse. Call. He rubbed his hands excitedly and smeared the blood on Dinsu next to him. Li Xian focused on his martial soul, pressed the corpse under his buttocks, and used the kasha grass to pull the yellow soul ring, slowly leading it to his body. Chapter 37. Upon seeing this, Zhao Feng and others immediately stayed by Li Xian's side to prevent any danger that might occur at any time. This place is beyond the range of the spirit hall and goes deep into the Star Do Great Forest. Even though Zhao Feng possessed the cultivation level of a soul king, he did not dare to be careless. He sprinkled medicinal powder around to block the spread of the bloody smell, and quietly stayed beside Li Xian. His soul power covered the forest and spread into the deep darkness. His cautious behavior was not deliberate. You have to know that this is the forest where the most primitive soul beasts gather. The soul beasts active in the deep forests have a cultivation level of up to 100,000 years. Although the activity range of soul beasts will become smaller as the outskirts of the forest decrease, this does not include some powerful soul beasts that are looking for food and hunting, leaving their nests and entering here. It is now summer and autumn, and the number of soul beasts has increased dramatically. A large group of soul beasts have left their habitats and attacked human villages and towns. It is not uncommon for the area to be attacked by waves of beasts. Therefore, there is a reason for Zhao Feng's caution at this moment. If he really encounters a soul beast with a cultivation level of 30,000 or 40,000 years, he can only protect himself with his own strength. Are you ready? Looking back at Li Xian, who was absorbing the soul ring behind him, Zhao Feng asked softly. His high level of mental concentration also gave him the illusion that soul beasts might rush out from his surroundings at any time, and his pressure doubled. It will be soon, Master Zhao Feng. Also guarding Li Xian were Ma Xiaoyunyo, Dinsu, and Uxi, who was squatting beside him and observing carefully. At this moment, Li Xian's soul ring absorption has come to an end. This is a phoenix-winged coaltail with a cultivation level of nearly 1,000 years. The fur on the back of its corpse is made of red grass vines, which vaguely resembles a pair of phoenix wings. The way to observe its cultivation level is to count the red stripes on the wings. The darker the color, the higher the corresponding cultivation level. In fact, for Li Xian, the maximum lifespan of a soul beast that this body can withstand is no more than 800 years. Perhaps, after seeing his top-level martial soul in the dark 10,000-year soul ring, Zhao Feng's understanding of Li Xian also rose to a higher level. Regardless of the risk, he hunted down a phoenix-winged drongo that had been practicing for 1,000 years. What's even more interesting is that the rest of the team seemed to accept this fact and did not refute it out loud. Just like it was not difficult for Li Xian to absorb this soul ring from before the new year. After all, Li Xian's first spirit ring is 10,000 years old. Can't he handle a mere 1,000-year spirit beast? It was precisely this overly high expectation within the team that made it extremely difficult for Li Xian to absorb the spirit ring at this moment. He sat cross-legged on the drongo, his upper body shaking constantly. As cold sweat continued to break out on his forehead, he let out a muffled groan from his mouth from time to time. The 1,000-year soul ring contained a huge amount of energy, and even mixed with a trace of the soul beast's violent will that had not yet dissipated, which impacted Li Xian's soul and body, making absorption blocked and difficult. Fortunately, the most difficult stage of the soul ring entering the body has passed, and the absorption is now entering its final stage. Li Xian's adventurous action did not cause any unexpected situation. Although, for Li Xian, who was sure that he had this ability, it was also incredible. But the soul ring was indeed absorbed. The level of cultivation has broken through to that of a great soul master, and the lifespan has been increased by 1,000 years. Wow! As a barrier in the body was broken open by the pure soul power, a huge amount of power suddenly surged into his limbs and bones. While washing this body, a deep yellow soul ring appeared under Li Xian's feet. Almost subconsciously, Li Xian modified the new spirit ring. Changed successfully, no critical hit, but this time, my luck was a little bad. 2 soul rings, one black and one yellow, floated out around Li Xian's body. When the soul rings had not yet fully expanded, something strange happened suddenly. The color of the soul rings changed visibly. Under the astonished gazes of Machino and others, the surface quickly changed from dark yellow to light purple. A manic force spread out in all directions, and the soul of the phoenix wing curl grass seemed to roar in the soul ring, generating a strong momentum. It has changed. It has changed again. Look. Master Zhao Feng, this is what I told you about. The soul ring mutated during the absorption process, and this time it turned into a purple soul ring. Machino pulled her sleeves and shook her. At this moment, Zhao Feng was slightly stunned, and was suddenly shocked that such a thing actually happened. The soul beast was hunted by him personally. It was a 900-year-old phoenix-winged curly-tailed grass. Now the soul ring had become a 1,000-year-old one. He rubbed his eyes as if he had seen a ghost. This is unprecedented in the history of the spirit hall. Zhao Feng said in a lost voice. The strength of a soul master is measured by the soul rings he absorbs. The older the spirit ring is, the more suitable the match is, the stronger the spirit master's power will naturally be, and the upper limit in the future will also be high. Therefore, the optimal spirit ring age has become the pursuit of all spirit masters. However, the lifespan of spirit rings has a maximum limit for spirit masters of different levels, 400 years for spirit warriors and 800 years for spirit masters. If the power exceeds this range, it will be too strong and will cause the soul master to explode and die, just like the saying goes, greed is insatiable and the snake swallows the elephant. This means that no matter how hard a soul master works, or how many resources he has, he cannot escape this rule. The number of years it takes to absorb soul rings is fixed. And now, Li Xian's existence completely broke Zhao Feng's cognition. It's incredible. Euro. Li Xian, tell us quickly, what is the new soul skill like? Is it a control skill? Din Su asked with a smile. It takes a certain amount of time for the soul ring to mutate after being absorbed into the body, and this time varies from person to person. Even at the fastest, it will take at least half an hour. Li Xian, who had only been absorbing spirit rings for 5 minutes, was already asking about spirit skills. Din Su obviously regarded Li Xian as an oddball. Din, wait a moment, I haven't noticed it yet. Li Xian comprehended it carefully and was somewhat speechless. At the same time, clench your fists, feel the explosive power in your body, and feel happy. In front of him, Yuexi was holding her chin with her 2 small hands, staring at him blankly with her big eyes full of admiration. How's it going? Did you learn it? The hand stained with the blood of the phoenix-winged drongo reached out and poked Yuexi's cheek. A red blood mark remained on her face, and Yuexi nodded. Well, Li Xian, you are awesome. That's natural. As he spoke, he drew another line on Yuexi's right cheek, making the 2 sides symmetrical and perfect. Don't just show off. Get up and move around to activate the surging soul power in your body. Machino reminded from the side. Okay, Master Ma. Li Xian suddenly stood up and jumped in the air, and he clearly realized that this body had grown taller. Looking at Yuexi squatting on the ground, it seemed that this girl was like a carrot. So high. Yuexi also noticed this and stood up with her hands in her pockets. Now she had to crane her neck to see the top of Li Xian's head. Buzz. The unique rhythmic sound of the soul ring sounded. Li Xian released his martial soul, revealing 2 soul rings, one black and one purple, under his feet. He closed his eyes, but things kept moving under his eyelids. At a certain moment, those eyes opened, and the second soul ring under Li Xian's feet shone brightly. As his arm was raised, a red vine shot out from his arm. Spider-Man. After a brief moment of surprise, Li Xian had already received the perception from the soul ring. The second soul skill, Kingsyu Crescent Vine, shoots a curled grass. After hitting the target, the soul skill turns into leaves that curl inward and restrain the enemy's movement. For enemies with the same level of cultivation, it will restrain them for 2 seconds. Produces a paralyzing effect on the enemy hit. As he spoke, the soul skill that was launched from Li Xian's palm was caught by Soul King Zhao Feng. Immediately suddenly, the scarlet vines transformed into petals shaped like a pitcher plant, opening and closing, swallowing up half of Soul King Zhao Feng's body. They contracted and quickly wrapped around him, quickly binding him into a human pig. Bang! Clenching his arms tightly, Zhao Feng shattered the shrinking leaves, turning them into powder and scattering them all over the ground. Zhao Feng raised his eyebrows slightly, feeling a numbing pain on his skin, and nodded. Yes, it is a control-type soul skill. The leaves are poisonous and can also affect my body. Thank you for your hard work, Lord Zhao Feng. Matthew was overjoyed. His and Dean Su's efforts were not in vain. After their research, Li Xian successfully mastered the second control-type soul skill. Moreover, it is an actively released skill, which is different from his earth control and has more combat capabilities. Li Xian, how do you feel? Is your soul power depleted seriously? Does this soul skill have any other effects? Dean Su said with concern. Seeing his soul skill being shattered by Zhao Feng, Li Xian was actually disappointed. The 2-second binding effect did not occur. The reason was that the gap between his cultivation and Zhao Feng's was too great. The soul power consumption is very small. If used continuously, I can attack about 10 times. The physical strength consumption is even less. If there is an auxiliary soul master beside me to help me, it will be no problem to release it continuously. Li Xian expressed his feelings. 10 times. Machino was shocked. Wow, that's incredible. We'll help you test the actual combat effectiveness after we go back, and you can continue to adjust it. Nodding, Li Xianpan sat down. Adjust your breathing, control the flow of soul power in your body, and let the rapidly increasing cultivation level sink to the bottom. Here, Ma Xiaonyo and Dean Su looked at each other, and there was joy in their eyes. Li Xian's first soul skill requires touch to take effect, which means that although he has a 10,000-year soul ring, he performs very weakly in actual combat. Now, with this skill of active release, they no longer have to worry about it. When facing a genius like Fishia who comes from the provincial capital, Li Xian will be able to handle it with ease. 5 minutes later, Li Xian stood up, his body almost adjusted. Zhao Feng withdrew his soul power perception, and as a feeling of tiredness came over him, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Being in the depths of the star forest, he, as a leader, was under too much pressure. Master Zhao Feng, you are tired too. Let's go back first. We will handle the matter of Uxi's martial spirit ourselves tomorrow. Zhao Feng pinched his chin as he listened to Machino's proposal. I'm fine. Li Xian's soul ring has been absorbed smoothly. There's still a lot of time. Since you're already here, I'll help her on the way back to save you another trip. Okay. Then I'll have to trouble Master Zhao Feng. In the middle of the crowd, Li Xian carried Uxi on his back, turned his head and asked with a smile, did you feel anything? Through the contact of skin, the flow of soul power in Li Xian's body became much faster than before. Uxi blushed slightly, I feel like you've become more powerful. This kind of answer also made Li Xian laugh. Of course not. He is also great in more ways than just this. However, at this time Li Xian was shocked by another thing. During the contact just now, Li Xian quietly modified a loose hair of Uxi. He was surprised to find that Uxi's hair had become visibly old. It seemed that over the past 1,000 years, it had lost its beautiful hair. Color. Chapter 38. This discovery surprised Li Xian greatly. Just a few days ago, he had done the same test on Fishia during a fight with her. But his ability to stabilize failed that time. Even the reminder in my heart did not appear. However, this time the change of Uxi was unexpectedly successful, which made Li Xian excited. Could it be that because of the closeness of their soul powers, he is more likely to acknowledge that Uxi is one of his own? Interesting. Li Xian came up with this answer in his mind. Otherwise, there is no way to explain the same behavior, different results between the two. In short, Li Xian felt that he had gained something by being able to use certain abilities on Uxi, and he was very happy. Uxi's martial soul can merge with his, so as long as Uxi is by his side, she becomes stronger, and Li Xian will become stronger accordingly. This ability is also reflected in daily practice. Uxi's soul power increased, and when she practiced with him, her efficiency would naturally increase. This is a good thing. Li Xian has already made plans in his mind. When Uxi becomes a great soul master, his certain abilities can be used by this girl. Now, Uxi cannot bear the 1,000 years yet, she needs to wait until she grows up. Li Xian was looking forward to seeing how powerful their combined strength would be after his and Uxi's martial spirits were fixed. I am also looking forward to what the martial soul fusion technique will look like. Of course, the answer to the question is very close. As long as I help Uxi get a spirit ring, I can take this girl to test it after I go home. Li Xian gets excited just thinking about it. Ahead. The return journey was led by Ma Shenyo, while Soul King Zhaofeng was responsible for covering the rear. On the way, the three of them discussed with Li Xian and Uxi. The two little guys have a very good relationship. From the beginning, we thought that Uxi could become Li Xian's helper and let her develop into a strong attack type. But we rejected this idea yesterday. Really? The best partner for the control type is the offensive type. You're right. But the compatibility of the martial souls is equally important. So, we asked the little ones for their opinions. Li Xian wanted Uxi to follow the path of agile attack. As elders, we can't force them to accept our ideas, so we just went along with them. Haha, Master Zhaofeng, you don't know how affectionate these two little guys are. Li Xian asked Uxi to go for the sensitive attack system, and we didn't dare to refute it. As he spoke, Din Su glanced at the two of them jokingly. Uxi's face turned red, and she hugged Li Xian's neck tightly and buried her face in it. Li Xian said casually, Master Din, you also know the importance of choosing a martial soul. You let the phantom martial soul go for the strong attack system, isn't that harming Uxi? Haha, I'm just kidding. Zhao Feng frowned and took over the conversation. From what I know, phantom seems to be a mutated martial spirit. Different from the possession of a beast martial spirit and the control of a weapon martial spirit, it has two forms, which can assist the main body in attacking and can also enhance its own abilities. The strong attack system is more suitable. Well, actually, those were just jokes. Din Su didn't expect that Zhao Feng knew so much about phantom. He could fight outside the body? This was the first time he heard of it. As for Ma Shenyo, he was even more shocked. He had always regarded phantom as an evil martial soul, but in the mouth of Lord Zhao Feng, it became a good mutant martial soul. Zhao Feng continued to analyze, but you have to let this little girl be careful. The martial soul can assist the main body. You also understand that this is the effect of the martial soul's self-awareness. Therefore, her situation is extremely special. The path of cultivation will be a little more difficult than that of ordinary people. Every time you absorb a soul ring, you may be attacked by the will of your martial soul. It is best for you to find a soul master who can suppress phantom and practice with her. Ma Xiaoyunyo glanced at Li Xian and said, Master Zhao Feng, the soul master you mentioned is actually right in front of you. Zhao Feng looked down and saw that besides the shy girl, there was only Li Xian. Could it be? That's right. Although Li Xian's martial soul is a plant, it is a mutated immortal product. The power it contains is just enough to suppress the phantom martial soul. Zhao Feng smiled, I see. No wonder you two have such a good relationship. Li Xian laughed and said, actually, there is another reason. Uxi is my neighbor. We are from the same place. Zhao Feng touched Li Xian's head, and his eyes lit up as he thought of something. Hey, you two have been together for so long, have you ever tried to merge your soul powers? As far as I know, the two elders of our spirit hall are in a similar situation to you. They have two opposite attributes that can be integrated. Have you tried it? As soon as these words were spoken, Ma Xiaoyunyo and Din Su's eyes met with shock. Yes. They had never thought about this matter. After all, Li Xian's martial soul was too peculiar, and only the name King Xu Xian Yutang was found. In their eyes, how do vines and phantoms merge? As for Elder Guizhou's attention, they naturally thought of it on Li Xian. As for Uxi, the two of them had always paid little attention to it. Now that Zhao Feng had revealed it, they were both stunned. So that's how it is. No wonder the Spirit Master Hall staff brought 2 tokens. Then Li Xian, have you and Uxi ever tried it? Ma Shenyo asked tentatively. Li Xian complained in his heart, Master Ma, if you don't know how to ask, then don't ask. He was almost embarrassed by the questions. Li Xian could even notice that Uxi's body was getting hot behind him. I tried it, it's okay. Give the answer directly. After all, there is no need to hide it. As soon as these words came out, Ma Shenyo took a breath of cold air, and the air temperature dropped sharply. He turned his gaze and saw Din Su also had a look of horror on his face. Compared to the two of them, Zhao Feng's eyes lit up and he said gently, you are so lucky. Soul fusion is what all soul masters dream of. You can find your partner at such a young age. I really envy you. Li Xian, you must treat her well in the future. Do you agree with what Lord Zhao Feng said? Li Xian asked in confusion. Zhao Feng coughed, do you hope that the partner who can merge with your martial soul will be snatched away by others? Li Xian thought for a moment and said, that's Uxi's business. I can't stop it. However, I really don't want to do it. That's all. Zhao Feng winked and whispered a few words in the ear. Upon hearing this, Li Xian's face showed shock, and then turned into surprise. Are you sure you want to do this? Well, you have to respect others. Also, your voice is too loud. Zhao Feng said awkwardly. Because he noticed a clear gaze coming from that blushing face, looking at him innocently. Li Xian pinched his chin and thought carefully, it's feasible. The content of their conversation did not shy away from Uxi, who was behind Li Xian. Naturally, she heard all of Zhao Feng's whispers clearly. Whoever comes will be beaten, and the matter has been settled. Even though Uxi was young and didn't quite understand, she was not stupid and could naturally hear the meaning behind the words. There was a wisp of mist in the pair of big dark eyes, and the water vapor was surging. The blush on the cheeks spread to the neck, forming a red apple. He stared at Zhao Feng with a resentful look. Zhao Feng became more and more embarrassed, so he laughed and rubbed Uxi's head. Little girl, I really like your personality. If I had met a childhood sweetheart like you, I wouldn't have to marry a soul master I don't like. If you two are free in the future, you can come and play with me. I, Zhao Feng, don't mind having a few more elementary school student friends. Don't take what I just said to heart, it's just a joke. Uncle will help you get a more powerful soul beast later, don't be angry. Uxi nodded, but actually, she wasn't very angry. But those words made her feel uncomfortable. If she liked someone else, why would she be so close to Li Xian? She acted as if she could be easily deceived. He buried his head in Li Xian and gradually fell silent. Li Xian turned his head and blew a breath, Uxi, we were just joking, don't take it seriously. Seeing the girl nodded, Li Xian felt relieved. It's a fait accompli now. Li Xian is not that kind of person. Uxi is like a younger sister in his eyes. Li Xian would not bother to have such dirty thoughts. In front, Ma Xiaoyunyo and Dean Su were talking non-stop, their words were so heated that their necks even turned red. How can the light attribute and the dark attribute transform? You are the dean, but you have spent half your life learning theories? In my opinion, it must be a soul skill. It is a soul skill. The power of martial soul fusion lies in its mystery. Any combination of two things you don't expect can produce unpredictable results. I'm just saying it's possible. If it's based on the phantom, why can't it transform? Forget it. Don't mislead the students all day long. Just give it back to me. You are the head of the spirit hall, and you almost drove Uxi away. Do you know how big a mistake you almost made? Mashino's old face turned red and he shook his sleeves in anger. Zhao Feng looked at the two people who were still arguing at such an old age and laughed. You two, are you discussing the fusion of martial souls? I can provide some references. Master Zhao Feng, please tell me. I once heard from a senior that the two law enforcement elders of our spirit hall, His Majesty the Chrysanthemum Ghost, have a fusion skill that can stop time. It is said that even a titled Douluo trapped inside cannot escape. It is very terrifying. Ma Xiaoyunyo snorted coldly, see, I said it was a soul skill. Dean Su frowned and ignored him. Instead, he turned around and asked, Master Zhao Feng, what do you think the martial soul fusion skills of these two little guys will be like? Let me say it. Zhao Feng was stunned. Haha, even if I say it, it doesn't count. But when the darkness and light combine, they will produce the power of yin and yang. There is a strange book of gossip, which may have some records. Haha, really? I don't read much of those books. I read the spring and autumn annals. In fact, I haven't seen it either. What is the martial soul fusion skill? Wait until the two little guys try it, and then we will know. I think we will see it soon. You are right. Listen to their conversation. Li Xian fell into deep thought. The power of yin and yang? He suddenly thought of a perverted sealing skill, and felt uneasy. It can't be that kind? Chapter 39. Just at this moment, there was a rustling sound from the bushes not far away from the group, and a soul beast with a pitch-black body and white mane on its back suddenly jumped out. The agile figure leaped out of the jungle, his pair of clear yellow pupils shrank slightly, his sharp teeth opened, and he let out a low and hoarse roar. Roar. The soul beast turned around twice on the spot, and sensing the strong aura of Zhao Feng and others, it lowered its body and slowly went back to dormancy. At the same time, the team leader, Mashino, also noticed this soul beast. Is that a ghost tiger? That's right. Judging from its size, it's still 100 years old. Dean Su showed joy in his eyes. Among the soul beast targets they planned for Uxi, the ghost tiger was a good choice. This large carnivorous soul beast is sensitive to its territory, and often only one can be encountered in a large forest area. I didn't expect that the people who were preparing to return would have such luck. Leave it to me. Zhao Feng discovered that the 100-year-old ghost tiger rushed to the front of the team immediately. 5 soul rings were floating under his feet, and the first and second soul rings were flickering. Feeling the threat from his cultivation, the ghost tiger in the distance turned around and disappeared into the jungle. Want to run? Above Zhao Feng's head, a cage formed by the interweaving of white bamboo martial spirits took shape. He stretched out his fingers and the cage flew towards the fleeing ghost tiger. The cage was formed by the combination of Zhao Feng's 2 soul skills. With the soul power on the surface spinning wildly, in the blink of an eye, the cage was enlarged several times in the air. Roar. When Zhao Feng's men chased after them, an unwilling roar was heard from behind the bushes. The sound of the prison cell being knocked back was so loud that it shook the jungle and startled a group of wild birds in the distance. Let's go over there. Protecting Li Xian and Uxi in the middle, Mashino led the team to speed up. This 100-year-old soul beast was naturally captured for Uxi, and Li Xian hurriedly ran over with her on his back. Don't be afraid later, just follow what I teach you. Uxi nodded her head slightly, a hint of joy flashing across her pretty face. She was also looking forward to her first spirit ring. The 100-year-old ghost tiger collided with the prison cell, its pair of clear yellow vertical pupils shrank into a line, it growled and released a terrifying murderous intent from its body. Zhao Feng clenched his hands, and the fourth spirit ring glowed. 8 white bamboo spirits penetrated the cage and pierced into the ghost tiger's body, nailing it to the ground. Little Yuexi, go and kill this beast. Looking back, Zhao Feng shouted in a low voice. It was not difficult for him to control a 100-year-old soul beast. However, soul beasts are proud creatures, especially a tiger soul beast, and they will not allow themselves to be trapped and raised by humans. If the process continues, this 100-year-old ghost tiger, knowing that it is hopeless, will most likely choose to self-destruct. Li Xian put Yuexi down, and 2 soul rings, one black and one purple, floated out from under his feet. He tapped his hands and several curled grasses shot out, wrapping around the ghost tiger's body, leaving only its head exposed. After doing this, blow gently on your wrist. He placed his palm on Yuexi's head and said softly, go quickly. Barefoot, Yuexi held a dagger tightly in both hands, walked up to the tiger, and used her soul power to stab it at the ghost tiger's head. Roar. The beast's temporary counterattack actually broke through Li Xian's restraints, and Zhao Feng's white bamboo spear seemed to be broken. It was a predictable situation. Machino and Dinsu beside him were well prepared. They released their martial spirits and mobilized their soul power to suppress the ghost tiger. Its back, which had just been arched, fell back to the ground. Call. Yuexi was so frightened that she sat down with her face flushed. She glanced at Li Xian, quickly picked up the dagger beside her and approached Guihu. Following Li Xian's instructions, she stabbed the dagger diagonally into Guihu's head. Zhao Feng folded his hands, shook his head when he saw the scene, and said in Li Xian's ear. This girl cannot do without your care. You must protect her well in the future. Li Xian didn't care, with me here, no one can bully her. Yuexi's overly gentle and even somewhat cowardly character has been like this since she met Li Xian. Of course, for a soul master, physical and mental qualities are also a measure of potential. However, Li Xian did not have too many requirements for Yuexi in this regard. As long as she becomes stronger, will Yuexi still be bullied? Yuexi held the dagger in both hands and mobilized her soul power to stab the tip of the knife into Guihu's brain. Her violent struggle caused her arms to swing. Gritting her teeth, Yuexi held on tightly and refused to let go. The struggle caused the dagger to stir in her brain, and Guihu's breath gradually weakened. Everyone around couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when they saw this. However, not yet. Yuexi's finishing blow was very smooth. As the ghost tiger's aura weakened, the soul power in its body dissipated from the corpse and turned into a yellow soul ring. It looks like, about 150 years, if Yuexi absorbs it, it will be safe. Dinsu stroked his beard. No one's demands on Yuexi were as abnormal as Li Xian's. Yuexi's weak character leaves the same impression on everyone. The first soul ring of a soul master is considered a perfect match if it is over 100 years old. Although there is still a certain gap from 400 years, there will be no accidents when absorbing and refining such a soul ring. Just follow what I taught you. Calm down and focus on the martial spirit in your mind. When you touch the spirit ring, your body will automatically absorb it. Just follow your feelings. Li Xian followed and gave a few more instructions. Yuexi nodded slightly. She had heard Li Xian say this many times, and not long ago, she also witnessed the absorption process with her own eyes. As a result, a lot of confidence appeared on his face. She released her martial spirit, and her delicate body was covered with a layer of dark light and shadow. After she stretched out her small hand, the yellow soul ring flew along her wrist to the top of her head, and was slowly refined into her body bit by bit. With the appearance of the phantom martial spirit, Yuexi's impression on everyone also changed drastically. Looking at it, it felt like a cold touch was cutting my eyeballs. Brings a sense of swaying in the mind. Matthew was used to it and helped his old friend look away. Not simple. Soul King Zhao Feng uttered a deep voice in his heart. Yuexi's martial soul is more evil than he thought. The extreme dark aura and the phantom in her body must be extraordinary. If it continues to grow in this way, the will inevitably grow to be equal to human wisdom. At that time, this kind of martial spirit is no longer a companion to the spirit master, but a threat. You know, after each soul master absorbs the 7th martial soul, the skills produced must be the martial soul's true form. The release of the martial soul's true body requires the consumption of the soul power of the soul saint. From a certain perspective, the true body is equivalent to the martial soul coming alive and having an entity, and is no longer a kind of soul power growing in the body. When Zhao Feng thought about a conscious martial spirit body, he felt a chill down his spine. He couldn't help but glance at Li Xian in front of him. He could only look at this boy. If he couldn't suppress the growth of the phantom, maybe one day, the girl in front of him would no longer be her. Her soul and consciousness would be eroded by the phantom. Come on, Yuexi, take your time. Li Xian activated his martial soul, and the aura of the strange mushroom chrysanthemum flowed, making him completely unaffected by the influence of the phantom martial soul. Staying beside Yuexi, he used the power in his body to suppress the possessed phantom. Quietly wait for the refining of the martial soul. This is a long process. When a soul master absorbs a martial soul for the first time, he is not very familiar with the process and everyone's speed is different. Of course, if it was a soul beast that had only cultivated for 10 years, even Yuexi could absorb the soul ring in the blink of an eye. Zhao Feng glanced back, moved away for a distance, and stood guard outside the bushes. They have returned to the outskirts of the Star Forest. But, for some reason, Zhao Feng felt a cloud of fog in his heart, and he always felt that something was wrong. Based on his intuition as a Soul King, he always felt that bringing the two little guys to hunt soul beasts today was a little too smooth. According to Zidian's intelligence, half of the dozen or so soul master teams that entered and exited the Star Do Great Forest during this period were attacked by soul beasts, resulting in certain casualties. Likewise, even within the area under the jurisdiction of the Spirit Hall, a large tide of beasts occurred just a week ago. 2 great soul masters of the Spirit Hall died in the suppression of the soul beast. His eyelids twitched and Zhao Feng couldn't help but pinch the corner of his eye. Could it be that he was overthinking? It's a good thing that no accidents happened. Is he worrying about nothing? Mobilizing the soul power in his body and focusing his perception on the surroundings, Zhao Feng comforted himself slightly in his heart, hoping that he was just overthinking it. 10 minutes later. The yellow soul ring above Uxi's head has been refined for the most part. Her pretty face has her eyes closed, and she is in a state of meditation. Li Xian was not careless, and the soul energy that protected Uxi was running smoothly. He could sense that whenever Uxi phantom spirit was suppressed, the girl's complexion would become a little rosy. Boom boom. Suddenly, there was a violent vibration. Uxi's face turned pale and blood flowed from the corners of her mouth. Frowning, Li Xian suddenly stood up and looked at Zhao Feng. Of course, Machino and the other man also looked at him. Zhao Feng's face darkened. He felt the vibration coming from behind him and frowned. I'll go take a look. Be careful, Master Zhao Feng. As Zhao Feng left, Ma Xianyou looked at Din Su again. If there is a soul beast attack, try to divert the danger first and protect Uxi. The absorption of the soul ring must not be disturbed. Din Su nodded. He knew that, too. Because of the birth of spirit rings, almost all spirit ring absorption takes place in hunting grounds, which leads to many teams that successfully hunt spirit beasts eventually dying in the spirit ring absorption stage. When refining a soul ring, the soul master needs to use all his strength to fight against the rebellious will of the soul beast left in the soul ring, and naturally loses perception of the outside world. This process must not be interrupted, otherwise the soul ring will dissipate in the body, and the meridians will not be able to absorb the unrefined energy, and the soul master will die miserably. A layer of uneasiness appeared on Li Xian's face. But at this time, even if he gets into danger while absorbing the spirit ring, it's okay, Uxi, come on. Now he can only choose to trust Zhao Feng and Uxi. If the danger can be resolved or the absorption can be faster, he will feel relieved. I'll hold you back. Don't go north. Retreat eastwards. Bang, roar. At this moment, Li Xian's ears moved slightly. The operation of Xian Tiangong in his body greatly enhanced his hearing. He seemed to faintly hear Zhao Feng's voice from nearly 100 meters away. And accompanied by the roar of the soul beast. That sound was so loud that even from a long distance one could still feel the terrifying power contained in the roar. It's a 10,000-year-old soul beast. Li Xian's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 40. There were sounds of fighting in the forest in the distance. The power contained in that soul beast's roar is definitely not possessed by a 1,000-year-old soul beast. After a while of analysis, Li Xian forced himself to calm down and analyze it carefully. Apparently, Soul King Zhao Feng encountered a fleeing team and helped to hold back a 10,000-year soul beast. As for the identities of those people, as far as Li Xian knew, the soul masters who entered the area under the jurisdiction of the Spirit Hall today were only their team and Mi Shan and others who were also from Notting City. Perhaps, there were other teams entering here later, but Li Xian didn't know about them. In short, let's analyze what Zhao Feng said. Li Xian gradually understood what was going on. Let them leave. The danger must have been caused by those people. Let them go through the eastern forest so as not to disturb Uxi. Zhao Feng thought very carefully. To hold back a 10,000-year-old soul beast for a short period of time is to prevent it from affecting Uxi. At the same time, the riot of 10,000-year soul beasts will definitely affect the weak soul beasts living nearby. After being frightened, those soul beasts will also attack the soul master mindlessly. So, Zhao Feng rescued that group of people and let them escape in a different direction. Li Xian frowned, and a chill suddenly flashed through his heart. Uxi is absorbing the spirit ring, and is at a critical moment that cannot be disturbed. If those guys dare to cause trouble at this time, they will definitely not be let off easily. Now, only a small part of the yellow soul ring above Uxi's head remained. It would take about 5 minutes for it to be completely absorbed into the body. Li Xian's soul power spread out to the surroundings. The range he could summon was only 7 or 8 meters, which was also within visual range. Although he was anxious, his power was indeed limited. He stood up and released his spirit ring, ready to fight at any time. Even if Ma Xianyou and Din Su had poor hearing, they could still hear the sound of fighting in the distance. It looks like a formidable soul beast has escaped. Hold on, the other soul beasts nearby will riot, we can't let them hurt the 2 little guys. The 2 just talked here. Suddenly, 2 fleeing figures jumped out of the jungle and ran out in fear. Then, another figure coughing up blood fell to the ground. The young man was covered in wounds and spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Are those exchange students? Looking over, Matthew frowned. How could he be injured like this? What on earth happened? Mission ran in front with Dolan alone. The guard who was accompanying them fell to the ground, and he subconsciously continued to escape without caring about anything. At this moment, after entering the bushes, they found that there were people here. Their eyes swept over everyone's face and noticed Uxi who was absorbing the spirit ring. Li Xian's face flashed with ecstasy. Great! Let's go! Supporting Dolan, whose leg was stained with blood, Mission continued to run to the outside without thinking. Stop! Li Xian's eyes were completely cold. Looking at the two men, he shouted at them to stop. Humph! Li Xian, I don't want to play with you today, so you better pray for the best. Li Xian was stunned for a moment, and when she saw Li Xian, her pretty face was filled with sinisterness. Looking back again, Mission saw the young man lying on the ground behind him, not having much breath left. Fear was written on her face, and she quickly quickened her pace. Didn't Zhao Feng tell you to go east? What do you mean by coming here? Li Xian refused to give in. He took out the dagger from his waist and swung it at Li Xian and the other man, causing them to stop in their tracks again. With a whoosh sound, the dagger was nailed to the tree trunk in front of Mission. It was only a few centimeters away from her pale face. You. I felt a chill in my heart. Mission widened her eyes in fear. He was more than 100 meters away from here when he spoke just now, how could Li Xian hear him? Although there was a hint of humility, Mission's expression remained strong. I don't understand what you are saying. There are soul beasts riding behind us, who can tell the direction. If you want to survive, run away quickly. I don't want to fight with you today. Having said that, he continued to run away. I told you to stop. One more step and I'll kill you. Li Xian kicked back and rushed out. He stepped on the ghost shadow and flashed in front of Mission, then kicked the two of them with a side kick. Caught off guard, Mission and Dolan were both kicked to the ground. Mission's anger grew, and she suddenly stood up after feeling the pain, wanting to go crazy. However, she met Li Xian's extremely cold gaze, her eyes widened, and she swallowed back the words that were about to come out of her mouth. Li Xian actually exudes murderous intent. Li Xian had seen this kind of look before in the fighting spirit arena. She stammered and sat down on the ground. You, what do you want to do? You are the ones who attracted the soul beast here. Zhao Feng helped you to hold off the danger, but you two ignored the warning and wanted to cause trouble here. Are you looking for death? Dolan's lips were pale. He had lost too much blood and had no strength to speak. Mission lowered her head upon hearing this. What Li Xian said was true. During their soul beast hunting, they were attacked by a dark gold terror claw bear. That soul beast was too terrifying. It is said that Deinonychus bears have the blood of dragons, and a Deinonychus bear with 3,000 years of cultivation can even hunt down soul beasts that are 10,000 years old. What's more, the terror claw bear they encountered had at least 10,000 years of cultivation. The dean who came with Nottingham was still cleaning up the mess. One of the two guards he brought was dead and the other was injured. At the time, they were only concerned about surviving. When they heard Zhao Feng's words that there were people here, Mission naturally led the team to run over here. At the moment of life and death, of course the only person he thinks about is himself. What's more, Mission and Li Xian have some grudges against each other. She would be happy to bring danger here and let these people take the blame. However, no one expected that Li Xian would hear their conversation. Mission was silent for a moment. Call. After looking at each other, Ma Xiaoyunyo and Dean Su felt a chill in their hearts. From Li Xian's words, they also understood that the two exchange students from the provincial capital were trying to bring danger here and use them as shields. I'm so old now, but I don't have the vigor and vitality I used to have. But this feeling of being used also made the two of them angry. You two stay here. We must stand firm even if there is danger. No one is allowed to leave before Uxi absorbs the spirit ring. The person in charge of the spirit hall and the dean of the junior spirit academy spoke. Mission didn't dare to refute. Although she is a child of the nobility, her family will not go against the spirit hall for her. She bit her red lips and turned her head away. Bang! At this moment, a hunched figure with blood-stained clothes crashed into a tree trunk not far away. Old Xiao. Dean Su was startled. He knew the man flying over. He was the dean of Nottingham Junior College. Hey, I'm not dead yet, give me a hand. Walk over and help him up. Looking back, I saw a mad deer, with all four hooves running separately, rushing into the bushes, breaking the tree trunks and escaping from here. This is a frightened soul beast. No attack was launched on several people. Holding his old waist, Dean Xiao of Notting City grinned. My life almost ended here. Let's go quickly, there are 2 waves of soul beasts behind us, let's evacuate this forest quickly. Mashino was shocked when he heard this. Dean Su frowned and said in a deep voice, No, Lao Xiao, there is a child here absorbing spirit rings, we have to hold on. What did you say? Upon hearing this, Dean Xiao of Notting City looked back and saw Uxi at the critical moment. A trace of color faded from the pale face. Hey, don't worry, I'll just die here today. They brought the danger. After being rescued, he turned around and ran away. He had no chance of survival when he returned to Nottingham. Although I was seriously injured, I could still walk if I held on. What happened back there? Where is Lord Zhao Feng? Dean Su frowned and asked. What kind of danger could make their team flee like this? A dark gold terror claw bear. It's 10,000 years old. By the way, I'm afraid Zhao Feng won't be able to hold out for much longer. I say, Lao Su, let's retreat first, otherwise if that beast catches up with us, we'll all die. What? Hearing the name of the soul beast, everyone present was shocked. Dark gold terror claw bear? No wonder the nearby soul beasts rioted. Isn't that dangerous soul beast resident in the center of the Star Do forest? How did it run to the outer area? With a gloomy expression, Din Su also glanced at Li Xian and clenched his fists. Even if Zhao Feng can't hold on, he can still escape. We are the ones in danger. If Uxi doesn't hurry up, maybe no one here can leave. Several glances suddenly turned to Uxi. Facing life and death. Human nature is exposed. Li Xian's face darkened, and he stood in front of Uxi. Dean, Master Ma, I understand that you want to leave because there is danger behind, but I will not leave. Thank you for taking me to hunt soul beasts. Ma Xiaoyunyo was silent for a moment, then forced a smile. What are you talking about, Li Xian boy? How can we elders abandon you when we are in danger? As the person in charge of the spirit hall, that's too shameful. Ahem, don't get excited, Li Xian. The rioting soul beasts behind us should be catching up soon. You hold on to Uxi. We will try to delay you as much as possible. Dean Xiao of Notting City was stunned after being stabbed in the lower back, and then nodded. Haha. Of course I won't run away. Who would want to run away? I've lived for so long, this life is enough. However, in order to stop the beast tide later, everyone will be separated and can only gather outside the forest. If you stay here to take care of the girl, you have to be careful on your own. I understand. Thank you, Elder San. Li Xian bent down heavily and bowed. Then, he looked at Mission with cold eyes and pointed his finger, saying, but you two stay here. If Uxi has something to do today, you two don't have to leave. I will personally send you off. Feel the murderous aura that is as tangible as a substance from Li Xian. Mission's exposed character made her want to refute, but she just looked at each other, her heart shuddered, and she sat back on the ground with gritted teeth. Dolan, who was curled up next to him, almost fainted when he heard this. What an amazing boy. When Dean Xiao of Notting City saw this scene, a look of shock flashed across his face. At this time, these old men were not as brave as a little kid and were scared out of their wits by the dark gold terror claw bear. Besides, are you serious about what you said? The exchange students in the academy are from the provincial capital. How dare this kid attack them? Lao Xiao, Lao Ma, let's go over there and stop those two waves of rioting soul beasts outside. Not far from them, there was a series of intensive collision sounds, and the mad soul beast was approaching. After looking at each other, the three pillars of Nottingham City resolutely stepped forward. Li Xian stood tall and straight, his heart warmed when he saw this, he lowered his eyes to glance at Uxi. At this moment, the 100-year soul ring was only a little bit away from being refined into the body. Chapter 41. Roar. Not far away, the roar of a soul beast was heard, causing a noise in the forest. Mi Shan and the other person looked sinister and stared at Li Xian coldly. Don't look at me like that. You are the ones who caused this trouble. When the soul beasts get here later, you will have to do your part. Li Xian folded his arms and stayed beside Uxi. Of course, his eyes stayed on Mi Shan and the other person. If they tried to run away or do something bad, Li Xian would not let them off easily. Li Xian, you've also heard that it's a 10,000-year-old dark gold terror claw bear. Do you know what that means? Mission gritted her teeth, her face full of fear. No need to talk about this. The worst that can happen is death. Was Li Xian brought up by fear? The dark gold terror claw bear is powerful, but it can abandon its own companions in order to survive. What kind of thing is this? Of the two guards who were traveling with Mission, the other one was missing, and the one lying on the ground was already dead. Is this how the nobles treat human life? Seeing that Li Xian was unmoved, Mi Shan gritted her teeth and offered her chips. Let us go. I will pay for your training expenses for the next 6 years. What else do you need? Identity, status? Do you want to go to the Noble Academy? Mission, can help you with all these, as long as shut your mouth. I need you to stay here and resist the soul beast later. If you say one more word and disturb Uxi from refining her soul ring, I will deal with you two first. Mi Shan's eyes darkened when she heard this. Dean Su and the others are no longer here. Do you really think you can keep them here for the two of us? As she spoke, she and Dolan stood up. The spirit rings of the two also appeared under their feet. At this moment, Li Xian noticed Dolan's second soul ring. It was a white soul ring, but there was a terrifying aura flowing and released from it. White soul ring. Feeling the bloody aura inside the soul ring, Li Xian had a bad suspicion in his mind. Why did you provoke that dark gold terror claw bear? Where have you been? Li Xian frowned and asked. Is it your business? Dolan's lips were pale, his chin was raised, and he sneered coldly. Li Xian's heart skipped a beat. At this time of year, soul beasts mate and reproduce, entering a growth period. Could it be that Dolan killed a dark gold terror claw bear cub? Although it was just a guess, Li Xian had already sensed something was wrong. The disaster of the dark gold terror claw bear did not happen suddenly, but rather it was more like Mission's team took the initiative to provoke it. Well, so many people have been implicated by you, and now you are pretending nothing happened and thinking about escaping from here. Needless to say. If I don't beat you up, you'll be lucky. Li Xian snapped his fingers and released his spirit ring, then he ran out while speaking. 2 soul rings, one black and one purple, are floating. Seeing the figure rushing towards her, Mission's pupil shrank. You. Second soul skill, curly tail grass. The man was in the air, and 2 red vines shot out from the palms of his hands. The moment the soul skill touched, huge leaves stretched out, then wrapped around Li Xian and the other person, tying them up like dumplings. Mission Dolan had difficulty reacting to the sudden change. As they realized it, the binding effect of the curly grass was activated, and they lost their sense of their bodies due to a paralyzing effect. Bang! Li Xian kicked Li Xian in the face with a whip kick. The girl was caught off guard, drooling, and fell backwards, hitting the tree trunk. After solving this problem, you can walk. He suddenly turned around and looked at Dolan, who had already broken free. Curlweed. 2 more soul skills were launched, and Dolan, who was about to resist, was tied up tightly. Li Xian's fists and kicks immediately blocked the right leg in his hand, threw it over his shoulder to the ground, and kicked hard at the wound. Dolan let out a heart-wrenching wail due to the severe pain. Immediately, Li Xian lowered his center of gravity and punched the open mouth. The lips that had just roared suddenly stopped and 2 sets of front teeth flew out. Li Xian pinched his thumb, stuffed it into Dolan's mouth, and rubbed it hard on the bloody gums. Then, he pinched his cheeks with 2 fingers inside and outside, and his right fist fell on the wailing face like raindrops. Dolan didn't care about the pain in his legs or his teeth for a moment. Several black spots smashed down, and the soul power that protected his body dissipated. Bruise and redness quickly appeared on his face, and he was beaten into a pig's head by fists. Seeing that Dolan's consciousness was losing consciousness, Li Xian stood up and kicked him hard between his legs. A dull sound. Dolan's eyes rolled back and he fainted completely. Dolan, cough. Mission was kicked and hit the tree trunk to stop the dizziness in her brain. Over there, Dolan had been dealt with by Li Xian. Li Xian's cruel methods made her scalp tingle. While in college, Li Xian naturally went easy on him, taking his identity as an exchange student into consideration. At this moment, his life was threatened, so he attacked the 2 murderers without any scruples and used all kinds of sinister tricks. Jujutsu, fighting skills. None of these work. Killing skills are king. You'd better stay there and don't move. The soul beast will rush over soon. Hold on for a while and bring your friend back. Otherwise. Hearing this, Mission gave up resisting and knelt on the ground. Of course he understood what Li Xian meant. If she continues to fight, she will become Dolan in the next moment. The soul beasts all around are rioting, and we are in the Stardew Great Forest. If we faint here, it will be questionable whether we can wake up or not. Grit your teeth. Mission lowered her resentful gaze. Bang. At this moment, suddenly, the violent vibration came again, and Li Xian's feet shook. The tip of my ear moved slightly, and Zhao Feng's voice sounded 100 meters away. The powerful shout spread. Everyone here can hear it. Retreat. Escape to the north. After this shout, Zhao Feng's voice disappeared, and several echoes were heard from the forest. The earth shook violently, and the direction of the riot was right here. Oh no. Zhao Feng can't hold on, the terror claw bear is coming. Mission ignored the resentment in her head and the idea of a euro running away came to her mind again. It's so horrible. After seeing the terror claw bear take action, she was left with a severe trauma in her heart. With just 1 palm, their soul master guards were smashed to pieces. If it weren't for the family's poison powder that knocked the terror claw bear unconscious, all of them would have died there. Li Xian, I beg you, please let me go. Mission actually knelt down and banged her head. Li Xian frowned deeply, feeling uncertain about what kind of terrifying soul beast it was. Take Doran and run west. That terror claw bear must be heading for you. Don't go north. Good. Mission's face lit up with joy, and he immediately fled to the west. She moved so quickly that Li Xian didn't even have time to react. You don't want your friend anymore. He shouted towards the back. The footsteps in the western forest gradually became weaker, and Mission ran away without looking back. You ran so fast, it seems you know what you did. When Li Xian said that the terror claw bear was running towards them, Mission understood and immediately ran away, leaving Doran behind. Li Xian became more certain in his heart. There must be something wrong with Dolan's second spirit ring. A 10-year soul ring that can make a soul master absorb it regardless of the perfect combination of soul rings. Li Xian guessed that it was most likely the child of the devil's claw bear. And it's most likely a newborn cub. Li Xian walked up to the unconscious Dolan, tiptoed up his body, and with a leap, he placed him on the tree trunk. It is about 10 meters from the ground. Many carnivorous soul beasts cannot reach this height. He no longer cared about life or death. Just now, Zhao Feng's shout caused the nearby soul beasts to panic. Li Xian could sense that Master Ma, Dinsu, and the others had been scattered by the soul beasts. Lead the soul beast away from here. In other words, there are only him and Yuexi in this jungle at the moment. What's worse is that the terror claw bear is rushing towards this side. With a worried look on his face, Li Xian walked up to Yuexi, squatted down and looked at the little face that was still unconscious. The palm stretched out in the air and then retracted. No. It's almost there. If I disturb Yuexi at this time, it would be terrible if it damages her foundation. Oh. I don't know if I can handle this. Li Xian gritted his teeth, walked to the front of the bushes, and fired 2 spurs to block the entrance. Immediately, several other directions were blocked. Although this cannot stop the attack of the terror claw bear. Every second you can delay is a second. He had also read in books that the devil's claw bear had dragon blood in its body and was naturally strong, especially its hands. Even a soul sage would bleed and break bones if hit by an adult devil's claw bear. A 10,000-year-old Deinonychus bear. That's definitely adulthood. I don't know what means Zhao Feng used to delay it for so long. It seems that Zhao Feng also paid a huge price. With his level 54 soul power, he was able to do this. Li Xian admired him very much. Call. At this moment, Yuexi opened her eyes, and the blurry figure became clear before her eyes. Li Xian. After shouting, Yuexi stood up, wiped the dried blood from the corner of her mouth with some confusion, and looked down at her feet, where a yellow soul ring emerged. Yuexi, you're awake. Turning back, Li Xian was so excited that he almost shouted out. The girl finally woke up. If he really had to face that terrifying bear, Li Xian would really have no way out. He even considered carrying Doran on his back to lure away the terror claw bear, as long as Yuexi was safe here. What happened? Where are the dean and the others? Yuexi jumped off the mound barefoot. She took the soul ring into her body and was now full of energy, as if she had endless strength. Never mind, let's go, it's dangerous here. It's too late to explain so much now. He came to Yuexi, bent down and helped her put on a pair of shoes. Yuexi pressed Li Xian's head with one hand, lifted her little feet, and glanced around. Suddenly, she saw a pair of blood-red eyes and a bear-like soul beast, which stood up and walked towards her panting. The soul beast's upright body was 6 meters tall, one of its eyes was bloody and blood was oozing out of the eye socket. The hair on its neck is purple-red and looks like steel wire, each strand standing upright, and the hair on its chest is a dark golden color. As the soul beast approached, the murderous aura that was as condensed as substance had completely locked onto the two of them. Li Xian. You. What's wrong? Did you get hurt? Chapter 42. Li Xian had never worn shoes for a girl before, so he tried to tie them for a long time and finally tied a knot. Holding the other shoe in his mouth, he hurriedly grabbed Yuexi's foot and put the other foot on. No. Look, now. Even though his reaction was slow, Li Xian realized that something was wrong. Feeling a chill on his back, he threw the shoes in his hand behind him and ran away carrying Yuexi. Escape. This was Li Xian's only thought at the moment. Roar. A roar behind him shattered the Dracena, and the sound waves came so fast that they hurt his eardrums. The bloody smell coming out of the terror claw bear's mouth immediately made Li Xian feel more energetic. His body fell forward in the sound wave, goosebumps appeared on his back. Li Xian adjusted his body shape with a few big steps, and jumped forward to jump out of the bushes. Rear. The dark gold terror claw bear slapped the tree trunks outside the bushes and stomped its entire body on the ground, and chased after them using both its hands and feet. And suddenly, its nose moved slightly and its exaggerated body stood upright. Suddenly, his sharp eyes locked onto the unconscious Dolan above his head, and he bared his teeth and broke the tree trunk with one palm. Suddenly, Dolan fell to the ground uncontrollably. With a bang. Fell in front of the terror claw bear. What a terrifying soul beast. What is that thing, Li Xian? Yuexi swallowed with her little mouth, her face full of shock. That soul beast. So scary. If she counted with her little fingers, even if there were 5 of them standing up, they would still not be as tall as the giant bear. The dark gold terror claw bear, a top carnivorous soul beast, has been frightened and angered by those 2 idiots of mission. Let's go quickly. Li Xian was brief and to the point at this moment. Carrying the moon, he ran along the way he came. His left arm swung wildly at such a speed that it even left an afterimage. If you don't put me down, I'll go by myself. Yuexi was carried on his back, looking at the scenery behind her. This feeling of being protected made her heart warm. Li Xian took one look at the bare feet and was speechless. You're running away with your head. Be quiet. Oh. Yuexi stopped talking at this moment. He silently circulated his soul power to feel the soul skills generated after she merged with the soul ring, and wondered if he could help her in any way. Do you have any soul skills? Li Xian suddenly asked while running. After a moment, Yuexi opened her eyes and a bright light flashed. Yes. It's a speed-up skill. Hey, it seems to be related to my martial spirit. Li Xian understood. Yuexi meant that this soul skill required the activation of the martial soul to be released. In other words, after the phantom possesses a body, the soul skill will affect itself. Similar to beast spirit. It is estimated that before level 50, it will be difficult for your phantom to leave your body. Its release form is similar to that of a beast spirit. Oh, really? Yuexi nodded. She had learned a lot of theory, so she immediately understood after Li Xianyi explained it. In fact, she had thought that her martial soul could be used as 2 martial souls. I thought I could have 2 soul skills. Yuexi, is that terror claw bear chasing us? Not yet. Yet. After climbing up a small mound, Li Xian looked back and continued on his way. Dolan is dead. That's to be expected. The terror claw bear didn't follow immediately, it must be dealing with the soul master who killed its cub. The IQ of these top soul beasts is no lower than that of humans, and they have a very strong desire for revenge. But this is also Dolan's own fault. Perhaps they accidentally found the Deinonychus den when its mother went out to look for food. He was so greedy that he even dared to attack the Deinonychus bear cubs. I wonder if bear-like soul beasts won't leave their cubs too far away when they're foraging for food? If you kill a cub in front of others and don't get retaliated against, then there must be something fishy going on. Oh no, just as he thought of this, Li Xian looked at the blood on his palm. That's the blood from Dolan's mouth. Bears have a keener sense of smell than dogs. He beat Dolan up, and even if he wiped the blood clean, the devil's claw bear could still smell it. From this perspective, there is a high probability that I will become its next target. What's wrong? Li Xian, something terrible happened. Li Xian remained silent. Looking at the bloodstains on Yuexi's feet when he was putting shoes on her, his heart sank again. This also harmed Yuexi. That damn Doran. Why would he provoke the terror claw bear for no reason? Damn it. Li Xian cursed in his heart. Li Xian's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of boom, and he looked back at the tree trunks that kept falling behind him. The speed of his feet could not help but increase again. Sure enough, he caught up. Li Xian, it's the terror claw bear, I saw it. Uxi was startled and patted Li Xian on the back. How far is it? About 50 meters. Call. What a fast speed. In just 2 or 3 minutes, he ran more than 1,000 meters. Unexpectedly, the terror claw bear caught up in just a few steps. Li Xian quickly identified the direction, his eyes wandering in the forest, and soon turned around and ran to the west. Leaving the forest was absolutely impossible. Even without Yuexi, he couldn't match the speed of the terror claw bear, so now he could only look for the lake where he came from. That Wang Lake is not simple. Zhao Feng had previously angered a school of autumn leaf thorny fish in the lake while searching for the 100-spotted green-haired beast. At that time, he seemed to have sensed something and hurriedly led his men away. Li Xian was just guessing at the time. Later I realized that it must be a problem with the lake bottom. He placed his hope on the unknown threat underwater. If he could use it to drag out the devil's claw bear, he and Yuexi would have a chance of escaping the forest alive. Wrong direction, this is the way to the lake we came from. Turning her head, Yuexi figured out something and reminded Li Xian in his ear. Li Xian's heart moved. Does this girl have such a strong sense of direction? She marked the place because she has a good memory. If I let him come over the next day, I wouldn't know where to go. That's right, let's go there, Yuexi, give me more soul power. Li Xian pant. He ran vigorously, his chest pounding wildly. Good. Uxi turned her body sideways, placed her hands on Li Xian's back, and silently transmitted her soul power. Skin contact allows transmission at any time, and the benefits of the perfect fusion of martial souls are reflected at this moment. Well done. Li Xian was cheered up. With the combined strength of the two people, their speed suddenly increased significantly. Roar. Bang. The distance that was about to be closed was widened again by a tiny gap. The furious terror claw bear slapped the tree trunks along the way and rushed forward without caring about anything. Because Li Xian chose the rugged paths. The oversized Deinonychus needs to clear a path before it can run. Soul power interweaves. At this moment, a layer of dark luster was flowing on Li Xian's body. He could feel that the power of the strange mushroom in his body began to surge, dominating the strength of his whole body. But in the feeling of Uxi, it is another kind of understanding. Her phantom martial spirit possessed her body, and its gentle will was colliding with her consciousness, but the soul power flowed back through Li Xian's body. In an instant, my spirits were lifted a little. The phantom's will was immediately suppressed. At the same time, a strange feeling of harmony spread in my heart. It seemed that at this moment, as long as the two of them were willing, their bodies would merge, and that surging emotion was beating wildly in their hearts. Uxi, did you feel it? Li Xian's eyes lit up, his physical strength increased dramatically, and his body grew taller. Uxi's body was dissipating, showing a spirit state, her dark eyes opened and blinked gently. That is the fusion of martial souls. It happened between the two of them. Hold on, we're just ahead. Li Xian entered a state of emptiness and joy at this moment. He seemed to have, almost perfect control over his body. In his body, Uxi's soul power, no, Uxi's entire body, was merging into his body. Coolness flowed into his limbs and bones, and his 5 senses spread to the surroundings along his feet. The breeze blew through the body and brushed it back. Li Xian looked at his body. At this moment, every inch of his skin was glowing, and his internal meridians were crystal clear, and could be seen through at a glance. Soul fusion, what could it be? The voice of Uxi appeared in the soul. The two people's consciousness were also blending. However, Li Xian was the leader. Black lines ran across his body, like the marks of 100 heroes, covering his entire body. The moon on my shoulder suddenly disappeared. Looking down, Li Xian's body rose to a height that he could hardly believe. Is it a spirit? As he was thinking this, Li Xian discovered that his feet were disappearing. At the same time, his arms became illusory and his body turned into a ball of light, like 2 yin and yang fish. Floating in the air with just consciousness. I don't have any. I don't know. As they were confused, Uxi's voice rang out, and their thoughts merged. He thought it would be a spiritual state with him as the main body, but unexpectedly, Li Xian was a little disappointed. That's just a martial soul fusion technique. Roar. It was at this time that they flew into the air and entered the lake where the autumn leaf thornfish was. Behind him, there was a roar. The dark gold terror claw bear's body glowed and it soared to a height of 10 meters. With a leap, it actually flew over Li Xian's head and crashed in front of them. The exaggerated body is like a small mountain. He turned around, with murderous intent gathering and locking onto the two men. As his big hand slapped over, a sonic boom sounded in the air. Too outrageous. Moonset, when are you going to complain? Li Xian subconsciously stretched out his arms to block, but he suddenly remembered that his body had disappeared. Suddenly the dark gold terror claw bear stood upright, and when it turned around, it swung its palm with a strong wind, which passed through the light of the yin-yang fish, smashed into the ground, and dug a 2 or 3 meter deep pit. A pair of giant hands, the claws alone are nearly 1 meter long. Like a steel knife, it flashes a jet black luster. It is said that even a soul saint cannot withstand a blow from a fully grown terror claw bear. Li Xian finally understood. It can't hit us. You. I shut up. Li Xian held back the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Shouted in my heart. The power is almost gone, hurry up and activate your soul skills. Good. The fusion of their martial spirits had lasted for half a minute, and the huge consumption of spirit power caused Li Xian's soul to feel a sharp pain. Under the instructions of Li Xian, the two of them activated their soul skills at the same time. Instantly, the soul skill was manifested in another form through the body. Boom. Martial soul fusion. On the surface of Yin and Yang's glory, lightning flashed instantly, and tiny cracks appeared in the void. In the sky, a dark ball of light suddenly appeared from the void. In the blink of an eye, the black ball is enlarged by half a foot. The terrifying gravity came, even the surrounding light was absorbed. Chapter 43. Roar. The dark gold terror claw bear looked at its body in astonishment. It was flying backwards with its 2 feet also flying up. With 2 clang sounds, the sharp claws pierced into the soil. The body, like a mountain, was fixed by 2 arms, while the uncontrolled lower body flew into the sky. From a distance, it looks like a strange flag, swinging behind the arm. The scarlet eyes were fixed on the black ball attached to the top of its head, and a gleam of fear flashed in the eyes of the terror claw bear. At this moment, the surface of the lake was evaporating, and a layer of white mist was rippling. Crackling sounds came from the bottom of the water, like boiling hot water. Under the extreme gravity, small tornadoes were sucked into the sky. The soul beasts, fish, and sauri were jumping around restlessly in the water. The soul beasts swam out of the water and instantly flew into the sky without any strength. Around. The sand and gravel rolled rapidly and flew backwards into the sky. The gravitational force of the black ball in the air became stronger and stronger. In the forest, trees began to be uprooted and flew backwards. Huge rocks shook and hit the face of the adult Deinonychus, causing a low roar. Continue. Amidst the dim and dark light, there was a dazzling glow, and a shout from Li Xian was heard. Boom! The earth trembled, and the space where the lake was located was pitch black. Gravity began to roll around, engulfing all the objects that were pulled in, and gradually formed a sphere with trees, soil, lake water, and even a large number of sauri on the surface. The circular volume continued to expand, the grass on the surface disappeared, and the water level of the entire lake dropped by half. Roar. Only one arm of the dark gold terror claw was left connected to the soil. With a low roar, its body radiated the light of condensed soul power. The mountain-like body gathered its strength for a moment, then it exerted all its strength, slammed its hands on the ground, and then it pushed out with its hind legs, bursting out like a bullet. The speed is so fast that it even leaves an afterimage. The land was in ruins, and the area within 100 meters was as dark as night. The Deinonychus bear ran wildly towards the bright light in the distance. Just when it flashed for dozens of meters, its feet slipped and its body flew backwards uncontrollably. Its huge body hit the tree trunks along the way and flew back in a spin. Bang! The terror claw bear smashed onto the sphere in the sky, smashing the bodies of several sauri into pulp. It was furious and exerted all its strength to struggle and throw its hand away. The next second, the arm stuck back tightly. Sand and gravel continued to fall in front of it, piling up its body and sealing it in the cobblestone. Hold on. Uxi. Don't stop. The light composed of Li Xian and Uxi, with yin and yang fish flowing on the surface, has gradually dimmed. The huge consumption of soul power caused the spiritual power to dissipate rapidly, and faintly, the bodies of the 2 people appeared and were about to fall out. At this moment, an eardrum shaking roar was heard, and the terror claw bear pulled its head out of the giant ball and roared angrily at the 2 men. Boom boom. As it struggled to break free, the boulders continued to collapse, and its huge body also squeezed out from the rocks. Oh no. Li Xian didn't expect that this devil's claw bear was so powerful. Of course, it was also related to the unfamiliarity with the martial soul fusion technique. The soul power of the 2 men was too low, and it was nothing but a pipe dream to trap the terror claw bear that had cultivated for 10,000 years. In the lake, the water level dropped, and the scimitar fish shot out of the lake and were then sucked onto the boulders. At a certain moment, a yellow light paused under Li Xian and the others, and a powerful force exploded. Bang! The soul beast domain was activated, the ground sank, and many of the huge rocks in the sky suddenly disintegrated. Next second, a greasy figure slid across the lake bottom, and with a sound of breaking through the air, a 4-meter-long sauri suddenly jumped out of the water. With its sharp mouth, it suddenly pierced through the huge rock in the sky. This scimitar fish was covered with yellow spots, and in its pitch-black body, there were faintly growing a few gleaming dragon scales. It pierced through the boulder and swung its tail, causing the sphere to continuously disintegrate under the enormous force. In this world, a ray of light passed by, and the sudden daylight flashed for a moment. Roar! The attack of the giant sauri leaf fish also penetrated the terror claw bear sealed in the sphere. The fish's mouth passed through the sphere and pierced into the terror claw bear's abdomen, triggering the roar of the soul beast. Bang! There were 2 soft sounds from the ground. It was Li Xian and Uxi who fell to the ground. He was breathing heavily, looking at the sphere in the air disintegrating and collapsing rocks. He gritted his teeth, hugged the unconscious Uxi and ran towards the east. In the lake behind, the sky brightened, rocks fell, and waves several meters high were created. There, a giant bear beast was entangled with a giant sauri. The two of them caused huge waves on the lake surface. The sauri that was entangled all over its body, with its sharp and narrow mouth, was pried open by the two giant hands of the devil's claw bear and smashed to the ground angrily. Half of its body pierced through the Dianoclaw bear's abdomen. With every struggle, blood flowed down its abdomen, causing the Dianoclaw bear to roar in pain. Looking back, Li Xian had already left with Uxi. He carried the girl on his shoulders, opened her mouth wide, ran forward desperately, and swung his arms as vigorously as possible. Whoosh! In the dense forest, a boy without shoes flashed by quickly. The small flowers on the ground were knocked away, spinning in the air and slowly falling down. The figure was like a giant ape in the jungle, agile and swift, moving swiftly in the forest and disappearing in the blink of an eye. A quarter of an hour later, Zhao Feng led a large number of Wuhan Hall personnel into the western jurisdiction of the Soul Beast Forest. Everyone separated into a line to search for the missing Li Xian and the other person. At this moment, Ma Xiaoyunyo and Dean Su were walking in the crowd with injuries, shouting. Both of them were wrapped in bandages, and Matthew's head was wrapped like a mummy, with only one eye and a mouth exposed. At the front, Zhao Feng Chang's muscular upper body was exposed, and the blood on his chest flowed out along the bandage, forming 3 claw marks and blood. Li Xian! The sound traveled through the jungle, echoed in the depths, and then gradually became drowned out. The riot of soul beasts formed a small-scale beast tide, and Zhao Feng only dared to lead the soul masters of the spirit hall to operate on the periphery. Master Zhao Feng, how about we go back and take a look? Those two little guys might still be hiding there. Dean Su looked worried. As early as half an hour ago, they rushed out of the forest and gathered at the garrison area. The 3 elders led away low-level soul beasts. The frightened soul beasts did not actively attack, so they fled very quickly and ran out almost smoothly. However, they were all injured in the process of fighting against the soul beasts. Dean Xiao of Notting City was still lying in bed due to serious injuries. Zhao Feng frowned and took a deep breath. If anyone wants to go, I'll be the only one who can go. It's very dangerous there. We need to prevent the terror claw bear from coming out again and causing innocent casualties. Wait, you guys go back first. How can that be possible? Mathono made a sound with difficulty through his exposed mouth. Li Xian and Uxi were brought by them, and it didn't make sense to impose the search mission on Zhao Feng of Zidian. You going there won't be much of an effect. Zhao Feng turned his eyes away and shook his head. The undisguised coldness shut up Machino and the other man, leaving them unable to refute. Zhao Feng's eyes flickered. Just thinking about that ferocious adult Deinonychus bear sent chills down his spine. He used several life-saving methods to delay it for a few minutes. If they encounter it again, even Zhao Feng cannot guarantee that he can escape unscathed. Top soul beasts are very vengeful. I blinded one of its eyes. If I meet it again, won't it skin me alive? Zhao Feng has decided to search the periphery and run away immediately if he finds anything wrong. Those two little guys were lost in the forest, the chances of survival were slim. Why? Although he couldn't bear it in his heart, he had to accept this cruel reality. The matter this time has been clarified. Dean Xia revealed that 2 exchange students from Notting City killed a baby Deinonychus bear, which caused the accident. In other words, the adult terror claw bear was consciously attacking the soul master. I'm injured like this, if those 2 little guys are targeted by the terror claw bear. I'm afraid they'll be in trouble. Humanitarian. Dean Su and Ma Xiaoyunyo looked at each other, both with gloomy expressions. His fists turned purple from being clenched too hard. Mission, Dolan. If those 2 guys hadn't provoked the terror claw bear, nothing would have happened this time. What's even more hateful is that one of them has already escaped. Mission felt that she was in the wrong, so she ran away in shame without waiting for the Soul Hospital to investigate. They suffered so much and Li Xianuxi disappeared. How hateful. How infuriating. Old Ma, be optimistic. Li Xian is a lucky guy. What if they escape? Ah. I want to be optimistic, but this time, it's hard. Even if several soul Douluos are dispatched, there is no guarantee that the adult dark gold terror claw bear will be killed. It is the natural king among soul beasts, with 30,000 years of cultivation, comparable to soul beasts of 100,000 years. How could Li Xian and his companions escape from such a terrifying existence? Optimistic, optimistic. Dean Su could only comfort her at this time. Although, he knew that this was a lie that was hard to accept in his heart and it was a lie to deceive himself. Can Li Xian and his companions really escape? They have been separated for so long, I am afraid they have already. Whoosh. It was at this time. A nimble figure rushed into the crowd, ran for a distance, and turned his head to take a look. Dean, Master Ma. Li Xian was in tattered clothes at this moment, his body covered with dirt and grass. He was carrying Uxi on his back, looking as miserable as a savage. Turning his head, his eyes were clear and bright, and he grinned, revealing his white teeth. Li Xian. Matthew slipped and almost lost his balance. Dean Su's heart skipped a beat. Kids. Are you okay? We are so worried. Zhao Feng, who was passing by Li Xian at the front, turned his head and saw the 2 people were safe and sound, his pupil shrank. Escaped. When he saw this, he shouted hurriedly, Stop. Go back. Under the curious gazes of the Soul Hall staff, Zhao Feng hurriedly walked over. Li Xian. Where's that terror claw bear? Did you encounter it? The moment Li Xian put Uxi down, his body felt weak and he sat down on the ground. If I hadn't encountered it, it wouldn't have been so miserable. Ho ho. I'm running to death. Hearing this answer, Zhao Feng's eyes looked strange. He encountered it and ran away. What tricks did this kid use? Of course, now was not the time to ask these questions. The danger from the terror claw bear was still there. He quickly organized the evacuation of personnel, protecting Li Xian and the other man in the center, and returned to the garrison area outside the forest. Chapter 44. Half a day later. In the Stardo Great Forest, next to the Wuhan Sub-Palace. The Spirit Hall's specialized healing soul master was helping Li Xian recover. Next to him, Uxi also woke up and stretched out her little hand to take the banana that Li Xian had peeled. There were no wounds on Uxi's body. Next to her was a bowl of hot soup, which was Chinese medicine to help restore soul power. While quietly waiting for the Chinese medicine to cool down, Uxi was listening to the adults talking. Li Xian had many wounds on his body. While running in the woods, his legs, arms, and ribs were scraped and bleeding, and his feet were also scratched. Although they were all minor injuries, he was bandaged like a seriously ill patient. Li Xian's soul power was overconsumed. In this respect, he had the same problem as Uxi. Ma Xiaonuo and Din Su were sitting next to them, and standing here were Zhao Feng and the accompanying medical staff. Hear Li Xian's answer. At this moment, Zhao Feng nodded, having roughly figured it out. It turned out that these two little guys escaped with the help of their martial soul fusion skills. But, this is too incredible. You know, Li Xian is only at the Grand Soul Master level, and as for Uxi, she is not even a Grand Soul Master. The target they were dealing with was an adult dark gold terror claw bear. Its threat was even more dangerous than some 50,000-year-old soul beasts. Listening to Li Xian's narration, they not only trapped the Deinonychus bear, but also induced it to fight with the scimitar fish in the western lake. Listening to such fantastic words, Zhao Feng couldn't tell for a moment whether it was the powerful martial soul fusion technique or Li Xian who was bragging. After all, no one could prove it, and it wasn't illegal for him to brag. Master Ma, Uncle Zhao, didn't you see that our martial soul fusion technique was like a black hole, sucking the ground in? That terror claw bear wanted to escape, but it was sucked back after flying dozens of meters. Didn't you see how miserable it was when it was pierced by the sorry fish? Haha, I was so happy. Amidst the endless stream of words, Zhao Feng was certain of one thing. This kid is nothing. If we had met later, I'm afraid the injuries would have healed. As for whether what Li Xian said is true, we will know after a few days when the forest calms down and we go to the western lake to take a look. What kind of martial soul fusion skill can destroy terrain? That's too terrifying. Anyway, Zhao Feng didn't believe it at the moment. Din Su listened attentively, stroked his beard and laughed happily. He knew that Li Xian was a thick-skinned guy, so it was not surprising that he told lies. However, he knew that Uxi was a well-behaved person. Seeing Uxi nodding her head, he believed it directly. Li Xian definitely didn't say anything, otherwise, Uxi would be ashamed for him. In fact, no matter how exaggerated Li Xian's words were, he would believe them. After all, he had seen too many incredible things in this little guy. Ma Xiaonuo nodded, his mouth moving, and he said in a deep voice, "Little Li Xian, take a breath and stop talking. I'm not surprised at all that your martial soul fusion technique can do this. Because, in the Spirit Hall's existing research, the existence of spirit fusion itself is difficult to explain. It seems that the skills after the fusion have nothing to do with the Spirit Master himself, but in fact it is not the case. The compatibility of martial souls and the emotions of the Soul Master will affect the power of soul skills. More importantly, it is not a fixed skill form. In fact, the lower limit of the attack of martial soul fusion skills will be determined by the most powerful soul ring of the fusion soul master." Din Su has also read the research in this area, and took over the conversation. That's right, Li Xian's first soul ring is a 10,000-year soul ring, although Uxi's soul ring is 100 years old. However, under Li Xian's leadership, the martial soul fusion technique is also based on him. 10,000-year soul ring. Only Lord Zhao Feng can bear that kind of cultivation. Therefore, I think the martial soul fusion skill also released its power at a level not lower than the lower limit of Soul King. After listening to what the two elders said, Li Xian took a bite of the pear and raised his eyebrows. Yet, as expected of an elder, he knows a lot. At this moment, he doesn't quite believe that the spirit skills released together with Uxi can produce such a powerful effect. After listening to the explanation, I understood it immediately. Hey, this pear is so crisp, try it. Thinking of this, Li Xian's eyes suddenly lit up and he threw the bitten pear to Uxi. Li Xian, I can't eat any more. Uxi's bed sheet was covered with snacks and fruits that Li Xian had thrown at her. Li Xian shook his head. I can't eat any more, eat slowly. This made Uxi burst out laughing. I took the pear and took a bite, my eyes sparkled, it was really sweet. Zhao Feng walked over, sat beside Li Xian's bed, reached out and touched his forehead, feeling the fluctuations of his soul power. Zhao Feng muttered to himself, if you use that kind of fusion skill at the lower limit of a Soul King, your total soul power is too exaggerated. From what you said, the fusion skill lasted for at least a minute, and your meridians must have been drained. Zhao Feng withdrew his hand, felt Li Xian's dried up meridians, nodded, and verified his guess. Look at it this way. He really didn't lie. The body has been drained to this extent, it has exceeded the scope of self-protection. In other words, ordinary training cannot achieve this. Well, it was squeezed dry, but the terror claw bear also paid the price. Hey! Li Xian excitedly hammered the bedboard, raised his eyes, and saw the injuries on Master Ma and others. His smile disappeared and his expression became serious. However, Master Ma, Dean, Uncle Zhao, thank you for your hard work this time. You have made such a great sacrifice for both of us. I, Li Xian, will remember it in my heart. That terror claw bear. When I become strong enough, I will skin it alive. Hearing Li Xian's emotional words, Machino and others also smiled. Zhao Feng sighed, actually, our danger has nothing to do with you. Logically speaking, you are also a victim. Ma Xiaonu's eyes were gloomy, and he snorted coldly. The danger was caused by those two exchange students, but they also paid a price. I asked Lao Xiao to keep Mission who ran away after returning, and let her family give an explanation. Dean Su's eyes sparkled. Regarding this matter, Lord Zhao Feng, please produce a certificate of casualties. I think the evidence issued by the son-in-law can shut up those nobles and prevent them from being falsely accused in the future and blaming the two children for Duolin's death. Zhao Feng nodded, I have already sent someone to do it. Don't worry, I will prove it for you. If you encounter any difficult problems, remember to tell me and I will go there in person. Thank you so much. Zhao Feng thought for a moment, oh, right, the soul masters stationed in the western forest are in danger, I still need to go there, you guys just rest and recover, I'll leave first. Well, Lord Zhao Feng, be careful. Li Xian also got up and followed Dean Su and the other man to send Zhao Feng out the door. Wait until Zhao Feng leaves. The medical staff also left with medical kits. Li Xian kept throwing the pear in his hand and trying to catch it. He caught the gloomy looks of Machinyo and the other man out of the corner of his eye and asked curiously. Master Ma, what's wrong with you? What are you worried about? Machinyo took a deep breath and said, Dean Xiao has already told us about Mission Dolan's family background. As descendants of a new family in the provincial capital of Fasno, they are very powerful and their family is also thriving. So, the two families will not let this incident go. They dare not target you directly, after all, you are from our spirit hall. However, when you go to higher education in the future, you will inevitably come into contact with the descendants of these families. We are worried that this will be a hidden danger. Li Xian smiled, it doesn't matter. They are no match for me now, and they will be even less likely to be my opponents in the future. I will beat them all if they come. After looking at each other, Dean Su and the other person shook their heads. The connection between the nobles is deeper than you think. The Royal Academy today is also full of nobles. Although our Spirit Hall Academy is better, the resources there, except for the outstanding ones, are not as good as those of the Tiandu Royal Academy. Ma Xiaonyo took over and said, we hope that you two will go to Tiandu in the future. The competition pressure there will be less. At the same time, you can make friends with noble teachers and friends, which will be beneficial to your future development in the Soul Palace. Yes, there are many geniuses in the Soul Palace Academy, but at the same time, they are all children of common origin. It will not be good for the two of you to continue to stay here and fight against each other. Li Xian raised his eyebrows. So, Master Ma, what you guys mean is that when we go to Tiandu Royal Academy in the future, the nobles there will join forces to target us. Nodding, Machino sighed, that's right. We have considered letting you and UXZ graduate early. After you finish learning 3 years of theoretical knowledge, we will send you to the Royal Academy. This incident may affect you in the future. Li Xian suddenly laughed, Master Ma, Dean, what do you think, can I become a noble directly? Well. Ma Xiaonyo and the others were stunned. To become a noble, you need a soul power of level 40. Li Xian, it would be difficult for you to become a soul master within 3 years. Li Xian shook his head. How can we know if we don't try? As he spoke, he gestured to look to the side. UXZ was stunned and nodded frantically. Try it. As he said this, he raised his fist. Seeing this scene, Ma Xiaonyo and Dean Su laughed at the same time. If it's this kid, it's really possible. Then you have to work harder. I've never seen a 9-year-old first-generation noble before. Maybe it will happen to you. Yes, if you can achieve this, then I think even the families behind Mission will not dare to attack you. By then, you will make more friends. Hehe, that's right. A 9-year-old newly promoted noble, what terrifying potential would that have? Okay, you two can take a rest. Lao Su and I need to lie down for a while as well. Well, thank you for your hard work, Master Ma, Dean. Send the two away. Li Xian took 2 steps at a time and jumped back onto the bed. He rested his head under his arms, lost in thought. Reach level 40 within 3 years? If we can find the Dugu family's medicinal fields, maybe we can do it. But, those are all things for the future. Li Xian pulled his thoughts back. The martial soul fusion technique that he and UXZ released today was similar to a sealing technique. The combination of yin and yang power had an extremely terrifying effect. Just call it Tian Xing. In fact, when he was running away with UXI on his back in the afternoon, the Qirong Tongtianju in his body released its power and suppressed another violent soul power in his body. As for the latter, it came from the Kingxu Xianyu vine. Li Xian can be sure that his companion spirit ring has 2 powers and should be able to release 2 martial spirit fusion skills. This is outrageous. The power of yin and yang can summon a black hole, so what would the effect be if it were the ultimate yin? At the same time, Li Xian frowned again. He didn't know how to suppress the Qirong Tongtianju, so as to attract the King's Yuxianyuvine and create a fusion technique with the Yuexi Meiying martial spirit. When he was with Yuexi, all the soul power in his body was dominated by the Qirong Tong Tianju. Li Xian still couldn't figure out how to do this. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but turn his gaze to the side and glance at Yuexi, who was eating grapes. Pinching the grapes with her two little fingers and gently peeling off the skin, Yuexi was stunned when she felt Li Xian's gaze, and looked over with her two big watery eyes. I'm already eating it slowly, do you want to give me more? Pfft. Li Xian laughed, that's not the point. Forget about the food for now. Yuexi, accompany me to do a little experiment. As he spoke, Li Xian crossed over and flipped over to Yuexi's hospital bed, pressing the half-lying little body under him. When he moved his face closer, Yuexi's pretty face turned visibly red. What are you going to do? Li Xian certainly had no dirty thoughts. He wanted to verify the idea of a euro merging the two extremely yin forces. Release the martial soul, and this time, control the power of the Qirong Tong Tianju. Li Xian held Yuexi's hand and let the soul power dominated by the King's Yuxianyuvine flow into her body. Closing her eyes gently, Yuexi felt a cool touch, which was different from the hot and bright soul power in Li Xian's body in the past. Skin touch. The two people's soul power merged without any hindrance. A chilly feeling from the bottom of their hearts spread and expanded in both of them at the same time. Chapter 45. The soul power blended in each other's bodies, and in an instant, sleepiness swept over like a tide, and Li Xian gradually entered a state of meditation. The next day, Li Xian woke up with a frown and felt a warm tickle, scratching his face with his hands. He opened his eyes, and the rising morning light illuminated the room. In his arms, Yuexi's little head was pressed against her cheeks, and the messy hair on her forehead stuck to Li Xian's face. Look carefully. His saliva was still flowing on Yuexi's delicate pink forehead. He immediately pulled up his sleeve and wiped his fingers on her face. The slight noise woke Yuexi up from her sleep. She rubbed her eyes and propped herself up. Li Xian, it's dawn. Yet. I didn't expect to sleep all night. I wanted to verify the fusion of my martial souls, but perhaps my body was too tired, and the dried up soul power was blended, and my body instantly entered a state of self-protection. The soul power automatically warms the body, and the subconscious mind prompts the body to fall asleep. Yuexi, do you feel anything? Li Xian discovered at this time that his body was unconsciously dominated by the Qirong Tong Tianju, which flowed into the soul power in Yuexi's meridians, which was also the ultimate light attribute. I'm very curious whether Yuexi sensed anything last night. Feel. With her arms propped up on the bed, Yuexi's most body was still in Li Xian's arms, and her face suddenly turned red. It feels like, you have something hard against me. Li Xian frowned and reached into the thin quilt. Suddenly, he took out a pear that he had taken 2 bites of. Who told you to put food on the bed? Li Xian could even recognize the 2 teeth marks, one large and one small. Feel sorry. Yuexi pulled the quilt to cover her head. Li Xian pulled out the arm that Yuexi was resting on and shook it in pain. Then he stood up and tore off all the bandages on his body. With Yuexi, the mobile spring, skin injuries can be healed overnight. Change into your own clothes. Li Xian jumped in the ward. Very good, I have basically recovered, but I still feel a little empty inside and I always feel like I have no strength. It seems that the soul power was consumed too seriously yesterday, the soul power was dried up, and the foundation was damaged. If you want to recover, you have to take some time. On this side, Yuexi also climbed up from the bed, put on her school uniform, and exposed her head through the collar. Li Xian said without even turning his head, have breakfast first, I will help you test your soul power later. Good. Nodding, Yuexi glanced at Li Xian, hurriedly changed out of her hospital gown and put on a skirt. The white and tender short legs flashed by. At this time, there was a knock on the door outside the ward. Li Xian, are you two awake yet? It's time to eat. Okay, Master Ma. Li Xian got up because he smelled the fragrance. He was also hungry, and he was looking forward to going to the cafeteria in the Wuhan Temple. As a Wuhan sub-temple adjacent to the Star Do Forest, it is built on a large scale in the city. There are more than 100 soul masters working internally. Most of the workers' food, clothing, and daily life are taken care of in the spirit hall. Therefore, the cafeteria is very large. Li Xian and his companion followed Mashino here and went up to the 2nd floor along the familiar route. With the elder token of the Wuhan main hall, Mashino and others are naturally honored guests. I also had breakfast with Zhao Feng. Milk, corn, fried buns, ham, a large burrito, and some tofu pudding. Li Xian was holding an empty plate and was busy with his hands. Fill Yuexi's plate first, then prepare your own. He thought the food here would be good, but was disappointed, it was just an ordinary breakfast. Of course, this kind of food treatment is much better than what he had in the village. Rear. Dean Matthew, Dean Su, Dean Xiao and others sat next to Zhao Feng and discussed the death of exchange student Dolan. Zhao Feng said seriously, I have already issued a certificate from the sub-palace. The exchange student from Notting City crossed the outer perimeter of the Star Do Forest and privately provoked the dark gold terror claw bear cub. The death of the team members is his own responsibility. That's good. I was worried that Mission would go back and blame us for his colleague's death. Glancing at Dean Xiao, Dean Su looked strange. Old Xiao, you are so grown up, why did you allow them to go find the devil's claw bear cubs? Do you think you have lived enough? Hearing this, a look of shame appeared on his face. Dean Xiao sighed, I was also confused. I didn't distinguish the races and let them do it. When the female terror claw bear came back, it was too late to run away. 3 people died, one of whom was Dolan, a noble. Last night, our Soul Academy also suffered casualties while clearing the forest. The matter of the terror claw bear will not be let go. Looking at Zhao Feng's angry expression, Ma Xiaoyunyo asked curiously, Master Zhao, do you mean that the spirit hall should be held accountable? That's the plan. Zhao Feng nodded. But I am a little hesitant. As members of the royal family, the nobles have always had some conflicts with our spirit hall. If the Dolan family does not take the initiative to bring up this matter, I think we should just let it go. Ding Xiao shook his head and sighed, that's right, it's not good for anyone to fall out with each other. Zhao Feng's eyes flickered, and after a moment, they became gloomy. The third elder has lived a long life and has seen things clearly. If they rely solely on their own strength to confront the nobles, and if things get out of hand, it will be difficult to stop in the end. I had to grit my teeth and swallow this anger. Li Xian did not participate in the conversation. He had heard that Dolan's body had been found this morning, after the forest riot. The person is dead, what else is there to pursue? Dolan reaped the fruits of his own action. In his eyes, that's fine. However, that terror claw bear chased him and Yuexi badly enough, and he would fight with it again when he had the chance in the future. After dinner, I took Yuexi to test her soul power. The result was surprising, level 15. Under the effect of the 100-year soul ring, the improvement is significant. Of course, the most important reason comes from Li Xian's soul power nourishment. Water flows to the lowest place, and when practicing dual cultivation, the soul power also tends to the weaker side. Yuexi can be said to have taken advantage of him. Li Xian tested his soul power again, it was level 21, he was speechless. The 1000-year spirit ring only increases by 1 level? I always feel like something is not quite right. In the morning, everyone packed up and went back directly. The process of hunting the soul beast this time was thrilling, but the result was satisfactory. Li Xian's ability to stabilize reached the 1000-year level, and he awakened a good soul skill. The fusion technique of his and Yuexi's martial souls also began to show signs of improvement. Li Xian decided to spend time in the library after returning and study the control of martial spirits. The Qirong Tong Tianzhu plus the Phantom Martial Soul, the soul skill is Tian Xing. If the Qingxiu String Moonvine is the dominant one, what will it be? At the same time, Yuexi also possessed her first soul skill. Next, I could take Yuexi to the assistant classroom for training. Including the first soul ring, Li Xian now has 4 skills. The second soul skill of the second soul ring has never been used. Since Yuexi and he can achieve the fusion of their martial souls, then they will naturally become partners. The cooperation between soul masters takes time to hone. Therefore, actual combat training cannot be delayed. Nodding City, Junior Soul Master Academy. 3 days later, Li Xian, who had recovered, went directly to the assistant classroom to start his skills. Test. Chapter 46. Second soul skill, Curly Tail Grass. In the teaching assistant's room, 2 soul rings, one black and one purple, appeared under Li Xian's feet. Among them, the purple soul ring flickered, and with a flip of the wrist, a red vine shot out. When the curly grass touched the target, its huge leaves spread out, and as the leaves gathered together, they bound the dummy. Li Xian fired several drongos in succession. 2 extreme ranges were tested, closest to 1 meter and maximum to 10 meters. It consumes little soul power and can be released continuously. As the second soul skill, it is a mutated skill through the Qingxiu Crescent Moon Vine. The control type of the curly tail grass is fully pulled. As for the part of the strange chrysanthemum, Li Xian has never used it. At this moment, close your eyes gently and feel the information of the soul ring. Soon, the skill form emerged in my mind. The second soul skill, Qirong Tong Tianzhu, quickly shoots out 2 petal marks, which cause a burning effect after hitting the target. Li Xian opened his eyes and looked at the other dummy in front of him. The purple soul ring under his feet flickered, and 2 purple lights shot out rapidly from the blooming strange velvet chrysanthemum. The dummy swayed backwards, and flames ignited on its surface in an instant. The flames were a golden purple in color and were composed entirely of soul power. As the soul power in the petals was exhausted, the flames gradually went out. Li Xian walked over to check and found 2 deep scars on the dummy's neck that were deep enough to see the bones. Large areas of the burnt parts on the body were charred black and the skin was curled up. Wow, this is incredible. This soul skill is hard to defend against, and its main effect is burning. If it hits the target, it will add an additional attack. If it is combined with Purple Lotus, it will be exciting just to think about it. Although Li Xian's first soul ring is a 10,000-year soul ring, unfortunately, both of its skills are biased towards control and its attack is too weak. Let's not talk about controlling the earth. Although his Purple Lotus can cause continuous damage, it mainly reduces defense. In actual combat, opportunities are fleeting and the skills consumed are too useless. Unless, when used in a coordinated team battle, it can have a feint attack or harassment effect. However, Li Xian's second soul skill increased the aggressiveness of the Qirong Tong Tianzhu. The 2 petals attacked at an extremely fast speed. If it was mixed with the first soul skill, the Purple Lotus, it would definitely have an unexpected effect. Sit down and rest for a while. Li Xian brought out 4 or 5 dummies and began to test the consumption of soul power and the coordination of the 2 soul skills. Should I say it or not? Some ideas are simple. In actual operation, I found it difficult. Li Xian named his second soul skill, the Qirong Tong Tianzhu, Fire Lotus. I underestimated the soul power consumption of this soul summoning skill. After using it only twice, his soul power was exhausted. When he wanted to release the Purple Lotus, it was extremely difficult to activate this attack. This is because when two soul skills are used at the same time, the consumption is doubled. It's like a gas car with the accelerator pedal pushed to the floor. The body needs to withstand the soul power of two attacks at the same time. Furthermore, when releasing the Purple Lotus, one needs to concentrate. Once the mind becomes unstable, the skill will dissipate. Li Xian's first attempt can be described as a failure. It seems that the combination of soul skills is not something that can be achieved just by thinking about it. Practice is important. Li Xian realized this. No matter how powerful the soul skills are, they are of no use if you don't have good control over your body and can't exert their power. Hey, you are practicing so hard, isn't it time for class now? At this time, a voice came. Li Xian immediately turned his gaze away. A familiar figure in white came to the door. Li Xian was quite surprised to see Fixia coming to him. What brings you here? He has basically been lying at home for the past 3 days since he came back. Until today, I felt that my soul power had almost recovered, so I took advantage of Yuxi's nap and ran out to train for a while. Unexpectedly, Fixia came over after smelling the scent. She took off her shoes out of habit, walked to Li Xian's training ground, looked around, and smacked her lips in amazement. Your assistant coach's training environment is so good, it's almost as good as a 1v1 training room. If you like it, go find the dean. You're an exchange student, so you can have whatever you want. Fixia smiled proudly, that's true. But I'm not here to talk to you about this today, Li Xian. I heard that you had an accident while hunting soul beasts this time, right? Li Xian frowned, who told you that? Except for Dean Su and Machinyo, almost no one knew that he had gone to the Star Forest. As for Mission, she had left Nottingham long ago and ran back to the provincial capital in fear. Li Xian discovered that this guy, Fixia, was good at intelligence. Titling her hair with her fingers, Fixia looked proud, there is no news I cannot find out. Moreover, the story of the Mission family has spread throughout the capital of Fasno province. The heir of their allied family, Dolan, died in the Star Forest. This is no small matter. Li Xian thought of something and suddenly asked curiously, do you know much about Mission and Dolan's family? Fixia sat down and said proudly, before asking this question, you have to understand the status of our Fasno province in the Principality of Barak. First of all, the Principality of Barak belongs to the Tiandu Empire and is also the strongest gate of the Tiandu Empire with extremely strong military strength. Our king is also the younger brother of the current emperor of the Tiandu Empire. As the second largest province, the dignitaries living in Fasno are all related to the Tiandu royal family. The family that Mission Dolan belongs to is an emerging family that has gained momentum in recent decades. Although they only have the title of Viscount, if the two families join forces, even my family will not be their opponent. Li Xian smiled and said, so, your family is more powerful, right? Fixia rolled her eyes and said, you took away my blue noble medal, but you still don't understand my family's status. Red, purple, blue, yellow, and green are noble medals that can only be worn by earls and grand dukes. The families of the marquises above them all have contras, and as for the duke, only King Barak's family can hold such a title. When Li Xian heard this, he immediately understood. It turns out that the division of nobles in the Tiandu Empire is so strict. The title of nobility also represents the strength of the family. Judging from this, the Fixia family has at least one soul saint. The Mission and Dolan families have soul masters at the soul emperor level. From this perspective, he is quite powerful. After all, a soul emperor can already establish a sect and become a respected leader. Fixia, you came to me just to show off these things, just say what you want to say. Walking to the side, Li Xian sat on the ground. He knew that his relationship with Fixia was more like that of friends. She came here this time, probably to explain something. Fixia's eyelids rolled up. Don't think too much. I'm not worried about you. I was just surprised to hear that Dolan was dead, so I wanted to ask you for some details. What happened to you in the forest? Li Xian did not hide anything and immediately told what had happened. For a long time. After hearing what happened, Fixia opened her eyes wide and forgot to close her mouth. A grown-up dark gold terror claw bear. And you guys managed to escape. Li Xian nodded. The battle record can be checked. It was 2v1 and it took a minute. Good dong. Fixia was still a little unconvinced at this time. Even if Li Xian and his friends possessed a martial soul fusion technique, they would not be able to suppress a 10,000-year-old terror claw bear. However, she also understood why Mission was scared and returned to her family and dared not come out. They caused such a big disaster and brought casualties to the spirit hall. If they are held accountable, their families will be disgraced. Fixia thought of something and suddenly looked at Li Xian with her eyes lighting up. Li Xian, do you want to become a noble? Li Xian raised his eyebrows. Dean Su had explained that if one wanted to gain a foothold in the Royal Academy, aristocratic status was necessary. I nodded subconsciously, I want to, can you help me? Fixia was full of confidence. Of course. As long as you acknowledge me as your sister, I can take care of you as if you were my own brother. You will take my last name and you will be a member of our Fido family in the future. Li Xian's face darkened, FKU. Do you think you are stupid if you want to take advantage of him? Who would give himself a sister for no reason? Even for the sake of noble status, you can't lose your dignity. Fisia hesitated. This request was indeed a bit unreasonable. She continued, there is another way. Be your uncle. I'm not kidding. Fisia softened her tone, if you want, you can also marry into our Fido family, become a son-in-law, and become a member of the family. Chapter 47. Li Xian raised his eyebrows and looked Fisia up and down, marry you? I am a man after all, it would be so embarrassing if you asked me to marry someone else. Fexia rolled her eyes and said, sister, I am 6 years older than you. You want to marry me, but I don't. Our Duo family has many outstanding children. I have a younger sister who has awakened another martial spirit of the family, the green ghost snake. She is beautiful and talented. If you are interested, I can introduce you to her. No need. Li Xian put his hands behind his head and lay down. Why do you suddenly bring this up, Fisia? You wanted to beat me up a few days ago. Lying down beside him, Fexia pouted, Fexia, speak frankly. Seeing that you are a good kid, as a child of a noble, of course I have to win you over. Besides, that mission and I don't get along well. If you are willing to join my family, they won't dare to touch you. Touch me. Li Xian grasped the key point and his heart skipped a beat. Dolan's death was caused by Mission and others themselves. He did not want to pursue the matter because the person was dead. Judging from the tone of Fexia, would Mission and the Dolan family still deal with him? What do you think? You are just a commoner, and you indirectly killed their noble heir. It would be strange if they didn't cause trouble for you. For the sake of face, the Dolan and Mission families will definitely do this, so you have to be careful. The competition for the godson of the Spirit Hall is about to begin. According to my information, they should take action against you at that time. Wait a minute. What do you mean by Wuhan Hall's godson, what and what? Li Xian heard too much news and was unable to react for a while. Fisia explained, every 10 years, the Spirit Hall will hold a competition to honor their children. Anyone in the Spirit Hall can participate. The requirement is that you must be under 25 years old and be a great spirit master. Aren't you from the Spirit Hall? Are you not going? Li Xian looked tentative, what will happen if I don't go? Not going? Well, it won't matter. There won't be any rewards or honors, such as the purple record medal, soul bone, etc. The godsons are also called the Golden Generation. 3 of them appear every 10 years, and the resources they enjoy are outrageous. Soul bone. With his eyes flickering, Li Xian understood that it was a rare treasure, and his certain ability could be used as a soul bone. What else do you know about the competition for godchildren? Fisia jumped up in boredom, you are so boring, how could I know so much? Get up and let me practice it, my hands are itching. Li Xian. Just as I was about to speak, there was a knock on the door outside the classroom. Who? Fexia looked over and the door opened inward, revealing a head. Uxi stared at him with big eyes, Li Xian, you are here as expected. Moonlit evening. Fisia's eyes moved back and forth, looking at the two of them, with a faint flicker in her eyes. Oh, Uxi, you're here. I saw you were sleeping just now, so I didn't call you. Yeah, that's okay. Standing aside, Fisia felt like a mistress. At this moment, her eyes fell on Uxi's chest, where a blue noble medal embroidered with white and blue stripes was prominently worn. Oh, immediately, an expression of understanding flashed across Fisia's face. Looking at Uxi's delicate and pretty face, her facial features are not absolutely beautiful, but her eyes are clear and innocent, and she will not be bad-looking when she grows up. Fisia said jokingly, Li Xian, is she the sister you mentioned? You are so lucky to be able to fuse your spirit with her. Li Xian stood up, waved his hand, and Uxi trotted over. Then, introduce each other. Uxi, she is my defeated opponent, Fexia. She, you guessed it, my good friend, Uxi. After rolling her eyes, Fisia reached out and held Uxi's hand, smiling slightly, hello. Uxi nodded, hello, sister. Good boy. He rubbed Uxi's head with his palm and looked at Li Xian with contempt, you are much more polite than some people. Li Xianchuan pretended not to hear, stretched one hand towards the sky, bent his shoulders and stretched in the opposite direction. It just so happens that Uxi is here too, Fexia, she will practice with us for a while, she hasn't used her first soul skill yet. Humph, for sister Uxi's sake, I won't bother with you. Come on. As she spoke, 200-year soul rings appeared under Fisia's feet. Possessed by the white snake spirit, his flexible and slender body instantly grew several centimeters taller. Strands of soul power ribbons floated on top of his head, condensing into a snake head that stretched out its core. White snake martial spirit, spirit power level 23, agility attack spirit master. Uxi was a little nervous. After a moment of distraction, she quickly mobilized her martial spirit. As the phantom took possession of the body, a black sand-like substance covered the body, the eyes were like 2 black hole whirlpools, and the body grew a lot taller. Phantom martial soul, soul power level 16, agility attack type combat soul master. Uxi said softly, imitating Fisia's tone. Staring at the pair of dark pupils, Fisia was distracted for a moment, and quickly shook her head to regain consciousness. Such a cult classic. Uxi, try to activate your spirit skills. Fisia has thick skin, so there's no need to worry about her getting hurt. When Fisia heard this, her eyes narrowed as if she was going to bite someone. Okay, wait for me. 100-year soul ring appeared under his feet. Uxi followed the guidance in his heart, nodded slightly, crossed his arms in front of him, suddenly sped up, and disappeared from the spot. The first soul skill of the 100-year ghost tiger. Rub. Appearing again, Yuexi walked behind Fisia, turned her body twice, and staggered. Fishia's body moved backwards, and the soul power covering her arm was shattered at this moment, and 2 deep scratches appeared on her arm. What a fast speed, Sister Yuexi. Fisia was surprised. What a quick attack soul master cares most about is speed. She doesn't think about the strength of the soul skill. As long as the speed is enough, the soul skill attack will naturally be higher when the level is upgraded in the future. Standing by. Li Xian watched the fight just now. He discovered that Yuexi did not rush directly past Fixia. After slowing down Yuexi's movements through the purple demon pupil, he discovered that she was wrapped in soul power and rushed sideways towards Fixia. When she got close, she used her hand as a knife to spin twice, and using this inertia, she crossed her body and flashed to the back. It's similar to the action of a soul beast ghost tiger pouncing on its prey. It cuts its tail and bites the target, then twists its body and throws the prey away. However, Yuexi softened her attack. She attacked with her elbow, stopped when she had struck hard, and then moved away. Call. The black sand entered her body, and Yuexi's clear big eyes were revealed, with a gleam in her eyes, as if saying what was going on. It's a pretty good soul skill. Have you given it a name? Li Xian walked over with a smile and left Fixia aside. Well. I call it Charm Walk. Sure, you can call it anything you want. It's fine if you want to call it Carrot. Looking at the moonlight that was almost level with my eyes, I could still touch the little head by stretching out my hand. Uxi was slightly dissatisfied. I am very tall now. As he spoke, he gestured with his hands. Li Xian laughed. He didn't refute it. On the side, an angry symbol appeared on Fishia's forehead. Did these 2 guys treat her as a punching bag? Li Xian, I haven't seen your spirit skills yet. Don't you want me to practice with you? Snapping her fingers, Fishia's eyes were filled with a fiery fighting spirit. If there is anyone in the Nodding City Primary Soul Academy who is worthy of her effort, it is only Li Xian. If you want to fight, come on. Li Xian was not at all weak. When he was level 19, he fought back and forth with Fixia, not to mention that he had 2 more soul skills. Wait. Fixia felt something was wrong and raised her eyebrows. You know both of my soul skills. You have tried both of my jutsu, but I still don't know your soul skills. Why don't you tell me about them? Li Xian was speechless. Why don't you reflect on why you used so many jutsu techniques to deal with me? As he spoke, he stretched out his palm, and Kasha grass, shining with light, grew out. After absorbing the Millennium Soul Ring, red spots appeared on the surface of the Kingseo Crescent Moon Vine, but they were not as deep as the black lines. As for the horizontally growing chrysanthemum at the top, the raised flower core is also darker in color. Li Xian explained, 2 soul skills. You have seen the earth controlling soul skill. The second soul skill I call it the curly tail grass. It launches a grass vine that will bind the target after it touches it. You have to be careful. Li Xian is not going to reveal the secret of having a companion martial spirit. Besides, the offensive power of the second soul skill, Fire Lotus, was too strong. He and Fixia were just sparring with each other, and using that soul skill was too dangerous. You kid, when I came in just now, the soul skill I saw was clearly a group of flower petals. How come it has turned into curly grass now? Fixia was a little skeptical, wondering if she was blind and couldn't even see the skills clearly. Stop wasting time. Why are you talking so much nonsense? As Li Xian spoke, he exerted force with his legs and rushed towards Fixia. Bang! Then, the fist collided with the arm, and Fixia bounced away and rubbed her arm. His strength has also increased a lot. It seems that I am really no match for him. First soul skill, Swimming Snake. The so-called early bird catches the worm. If you are short of strength, use your soul skills to fight. His body transformed into 3 phantoms, rushing towards Li Xian at the same time. Those figures moved simultaneously in the training room, making it dizzying to watch. Li Xian frowned and subconsciously took a few steps back. Even he couldn't tell which of Fishia's clones was the real one. Crocuta. Shoot her. Rustle. Li Xian somersaulted backwards and 2 balls of red vines shot out from his palms. As for why he rolled over, he didn't know why, he just watched too much TV. Bang. The figure on the far left turned into a ball of dissipated air, and the face belonging to Fixia expanded and disappeared in the air. At this moment, the figure in the middle dodged the attack and rushed straight towards Li Xian. Control the earth. Li Xian kicked backwards along the ground, and a pool of brown mud appeared on the ground with him as the center. Running on the swamp, the 2 figures of Fixia slowed down at the same time. Gravity rings dropped from the sky, becoming denser as they got closer to Li Xian's position. Deftly avoiding the floating circular beam of light, Fixia's other 2 figures leaped up, breaking free from the deceleration imposed by the earth controlling technique. She had already arrived in front of Li Xian, the second soul ring beneath her body glowed, and she was actually stepping on the air, speeding towards Li Xian. That trick again. Chapter 48. Li Xian immediately recalled Fixia's second soul skill. It can change the body's inertia and launch 3 attacks in a short period of time, with the third attack being the most powerful. He still couldn't figure out Fixia's true identity at this moment. However, when the soul ring flickered, the purple demon eye caught the flaw, and the light of the clone in the middle was obviously dimmer. You're gone. Li Xian curled his lips and fired 3 consecutive rounds of coal-tail grass at the figure on the far right. 3 vines shot out, blocking the left and right sides. Fishia frowned and had to stop. Then she burst out with the second part, twisting her body and leaping upwards. At the same time, the second figure lost control, hit the gravity ring, and turned into air and dissipated. Drink. Her body jumped high, and Fishia's long ponytail swung up. The way she stepped on the air to generate power really stunned Li Xian. However, he still had a lot of bullets, and fired 3 more attacks upwards, also blocking the left and right sides. You little brat. Before she could steady herself in the air, Fishia felt Li Xian's second attack. It doesn't hurt, go on. Li Xian comforted. Dream. She would rather use up her third and most powerful attack than escape. The biggest taboo for agile attack spirit masters roaming the battlefield is getting hurt. They don't have the exaggerated physique of strong attack spirit masters and need to move around and pull. Rub. Stepping on the air, this time, Fishia jumped high directly and broke free from Li Xian's earth-controlling range. At the same time, this height also exceeds the maximum range of Li Xian's second soul skill, Curly Tail Grass. Looking at Fishia above his head, Li Xian frowned. What other moves does she have? Can she still perform the 1,000-pound drop jutsu without anything in her arms? Just as I thought of this, I saw Fishia using 3 clones, holding me and smashing to the ground. Li Xian was stunned for a moment, his earth-controlling soul skill disappeared, and he ran quickly on the ground. Fishia's snake soul skill summons a phantom. Why does she do this? Moreover, after releasing the snake twice in a row, her soul power should have run out. As long as she can dodge this attack, she will lose. 1,000-pound weight. 2 voices were heard simultaneously in the air. Fishia was hidden in the phantom, and it was unclear whether she was being hugged or rushed down. 3 phantoms plus the real body released 2 heavy weights. Seeing Li Xian running wildly on the ground and about to escape from her attack range, Fishia's face changed. She tried to use her second soul skill, but unfortunately she didn't have much soul power left. Whoosh! The flexible waist seemed to be swaying in the water, adding a bit of speed to the falling body. In the blink of an eye, he caught up with Li Xian and was less than 3 meters away from him. This distance can be touched in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Li Xian turned around and flipped backwards, his eyes fixed on Fishia in the air. If she used the earth-controlling technique once, she would definitely be dead. But if it's just a fight between friends, there's no need to do that. At the same time, Li Xian was also curious about how Fishia launched her attack. Kinjinzui was a jutsu in which the opponent was held and thrown to the ground, and it was not a soul skill. The clone summoned by the snake has no entity, so what is she going to do? Watch this. While I was lost in thought, the Fiazians had already arrived. Li Xian used his arms to block the impact. After all, Fishia's body landing alone was not enough to pose a threat. However, just at this moment, there were 2 figures diving in the air. One of the groups suddenly broke apart, and in the other group, Fishia hugged the figure in her arms and threw herself out suddenly. After doing all this, the figure behind him disappeared. She can touch herself. When Li Xian discovered this, his heart skipped a beat. This little girl really held back. Fishia was thrown out, and with the speed of falling, she dodged and kicked Li Xian's arm with her foot. This force immediately made Li Xian's body sink. It's a loss, but that's all. Li Xian suddenly pushed his body up and reached forward, trying to grab Fishia's ankle. Yet, with a sneer, Fishia suddenly spun in the air while flying backwards and broke free from Li Xian's arms. At this moment, another group of figures that had just disappeared appeared again. Fishia hugged Fishia and suddenly threw herself out, and when Li Xian was able to escape, her head hit his left rib. Li Xian couldn't catch his breath and flew backwards. You can still play like this. While flying backwards, Li Xian's brain was working rapidly. It turns out that what the snake summoned was not a clone, but the soul power that Fishia transformed into her own appearance. She controlled the shape of the soul power at will, and her body could switch between the phantoms. The so-called swimming snake has nothing to do with it. Something. Li Xian rolled a distance, grabbed the ground with his hands, and stopped. After taking a breath, I couldn't help but give a thumbs up. That's great, but it's my turn next. As he spoke, his eyes turned fierce and he accelerated and rushed forward. Wait. I give up. When Fishia saw the second soul skill glowing under Li Xian's feet, she raised her hands and surrendered. Li Xian braked and took 2 steps forward in silence. Hey, you're taking advantage and then you call it quits. Don't you have any shame? Fishia panted, with her hands on her hips and a proud look on her face. You have seen through my moves, who is the one who suffered the loss? My first soul skill has never been fully demonstrated in Fast-No College. Who wants to see through you? Li Xian was speechless. Fexia is also a friend. What's the point of seeing through her first soul skill? However, it did give Li Xian a new insight. Sister Yuexi, am I handsome? Turning her head to look at Yuexi, Fishia smiled slightly. Yuexi was stunned for a moment, but didn't say anything. She ran to Li Xian and helped to dust him off with her little hands. You are not hurt, are you? Fishia's smile froze on her face. At this moment, she felt like a redundant light bulb. Li Xian shook his head and rubbed Yuexi's head, but his eyes looked at Fixia. What soul beast did you hunt with your first soul skill? With a cold snort, Fishia had had enough. You see, you are asking this to your girlfriend. I don't want to be a light bulb. I'm leaving. Tell me something, a man should be magnanimous. To become a great man. After hearing the last sentence, Fixia laughed angrily. Li Xian pointed 2 fingers at the corners of his mouth, drawing a smile, hee. Then I'll tell you, it's a herbivorous soul beast called the phantom possum. I was too brave at the time and didn't follow the family's instructions. But I feel comfortable using this first soul skill myself. Phantom possum. After writing down the name, Li Xian nodded and said, thank you. Also, thank you for the mission family matter. Fixia sat down and put on her shoes, and waved without looking back. Yuexi was confused and didn't know what the two were talking about. Li Xian, I'm not kidding. If you're interested, I'll introduce my sister to you. Just as she was about to go out, Fixia, who was full of bad intentions, turned her head and gave a sly smile. FKU. Li Xian started to criticize directly. This BCH is so petty that she is deliberately trying to sow discord between him and Uxi. Sure enough, after hearing her words, Uxi was stunned, hugged Li Xian's arm and shook it. Li Xian, what sister? Does she want to introduce her friends to you? Looking at Uxi's clear big eyes, her face became shriveled, as if she had eaten a sour lemon. Li Xian smiled speechlessly, don't take it seriously. Fixia wants me to marry into the Fido family and become a member of the nobility. That was just a joke. Really? Are you going to marry him then? Uxi followed up with further questions. Li Xian rolled his eyes and said, I am a man, what's the big deal about getting married? I will definitely get married in the future. Who to marry? Uxi continued to ask, looking at him with dry eyes. Li Xian raised his eyebrows and smiled strangely, marry someone with a good temper, a gentle personality, who obeys me in everything, who never refutes me and is 100% obedient. The most important thing is that she works very hard, practices diligently and never slacks off, being able to fight in the Douluo and cook in the kitchen. Blah blah, Li Xian said a lot. He glanced at Uxi's serious little face and smiled in his heart. Is this considered BBA? Next, Li Xian tested the combination of soul skills and at the same time, trained with Uxi. Try to combine their attacks together and attack in a natural and appropriate way. Uxi's first soul skill is very special. It is not a single skill, but more like a hunting combination skill. Li Xian divided it into 3 parts. The first is a side charge, twisting the body to explode and speed up on the spot. The second is touch, which can be used for both attack and grab. When it comes to the third step, there will be a second sideways burst of speed, and you can choose to distance yourself or throw your opponent out. This combination of skills is Uxi's first soul skill, Charm Walk. Apart from anything else, Li Xian felt that the name was quite appropriate. After all, soul masters knew their own skills best. 3 days have passed since we returned from the Star Forest. Relying on dual cultivation, both of them recovered quickly, and after another 2 days, they were able to attend classes normally. Life gradually returned to a dull yet fulfilling state. Li Xian would use his time to go to the blacksmith shop to practice his blacksmithing skills, and would also hang out in the library to study soul guides and martial spirits. The soul guide has been lost, and Li Xian feels that the progress is too slow if he studies on his own. He spent more time studying martial spirits, and would also go to the spirit hall to find Master Ma and look up the various martial spirit information collected by the spirit hall. Companion martial soul is not like twin martial souls. Li Xian has not found a similar case in the vast records. On the contrary, twin martial souls have appeared twice. The first one happened too long ago and there are no detailed records, while the second one died during training. When he was absorbing the spirit ring for his second martial soul, his body could not bear it and he exploded and died. Li Xian knew that Tang San also had twin martial souls, but unlike his situation, Tang San could release the 2 martial souls at will without his body being affected. As for Li Xian himself, his martial soul has always been dominated by the Qirong Tong Tianju, and it is extremely difficult to control it. He looked through the materials and tried some exercises, but they didn't have much effect. This gave him a headache. If he could control the dominant mode of the 2 martial souls at will, then he could take Uxi with him and try to use the second martial soul fusion technique. Li Xian also wondered if the strange dominant relationship might be related to the proportion of the martial spirits of his 2 kinds of immortal herbs. After all, the Qingxiu stringy moon vine, as the root system, nourished the Qirong Tongtian chrysanthemum at the top. If he cultivates the Qingxiu stringy moon vine and increases its proportion in the martial spirit, will the dominant relationship change? The martial soul form can be changed. This brings us to the case known as the awakening of the martial soul. Chapter 49. Soul awakening refers to a special case in which individual soul masters raise the upper limit of their soul through special opportunities. Even in the spirit hall's existing records, the number of times this happened is only in the single digits. Usually, it has little to do with the soul master's own efforts, but mainly depends on luck. For example, an ordinary chrysanthemum, after being bathed in fairy herbs, can evolve into a wonderful chrysanthemum. For example, 2 unrelated martial spirits miraculously merged after suffering a fatal attack. All of these can be called martial soul awakening. It's just that the probability of it happening is so low that martial soul awakening has become one of the top 10 goals pursued by many ordinary soul masters. And its ranking is just behind the 100,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone. Li Xian closed the book in front of him when he thought of this, and he almost wanted to laugh. The conditions for awakening the martial soul are extremely harsh. It seems too difficult to achieve the dominant martial soul through awakening the martial soul. Of course, if we can really find the Dugu family's medicinal field. I have the impression that there is such a place, but I can't remember the name clearly. Having said that, if one were to find an immortal herb like the Kingsu Xianyutang, then awakening the martial soul would be possible. In short, his idea has the potential to be realized, but he can only try it out after waiting for an opportunity to appear. Moreover, Li Xian felt that even if he did nothing, after his level was upgraded in the future, he would be able to control the dominant role of Qirong Tongtianju in his martial soul with his powerful soul power. Apart from anything else, he did it that day when he slept with Yuexi in his arms. Li Xian left the library and came to the spirit hall with ease. Now, he also had his own office in the spirit hall. All experiments on Tang Sec's hidden weapons and soul guides were completed here. It can also be said that this was a small workshop specially provided for him by Mishano. Li Xian was interested in these things, and as an elder, he wanted to support it. If Li Xian can really make something of himself in the combination of soul guides and hidden weapons, he can be considered the mentor who helps realize his dream. Arriving at his office, Li Xian took off his school uniform jacket, put it aside, put on an apron and started knocking on the clock. There are many delicate parts hanging on the wall. In addition, on a simple machine tool, the first generation of the continuous fire sleeve crossbow has also been made. Li Xian was installing the core crossbow arm on the sleeve crossbow. The center of the crossbow arm was inlaid with a blue gem coil, which was the core magic array inherent in the soul guide that Li Xian had already engraved. Soul guides are very sophisticated in terms of manufacturing technology and weapon uses. The core magic array can convert soul power into power, and change it into corresponding kinetic energy according to different uses. For example, a crossbow is a long-range soul guide, and the kinetic energy required is the driving force to launch the hidden weapon. For melee combat soul guides such as tang swords and spears, the core magic array provides sharpness and piercing power. The space soul guide used for storage is even more sophisticated, and even requires the mastery of space soul patterns. The core magic array is a square space. Of course, there are other categories of soul guides, such as fixed equipment, defense, assistance, and flight. Only after Li Xian really started to delve into it did he realize the breadth of soul guides. The crossbow arrow that Li Xian was experimenting with at this time had the simplest core magic array engraved on it, and the materials used were also the not-so-precious 100-year-old soul beast crystal cores. He activated his martial spirit, an emerald green and golden purple light covered his body surface. After taking some personal safety measures, Li Xian picked up the assembled continuous fire sleeve crossbow, came to a fixed location, and began his first attempt. Experimental record, 1 time. After making a stroke on the diary on the wall, Li Xian put on his protective goggles and began to load his exaggerated sleeve crossbow. There is no other way to make the bursting sleeve crossbow so big. He had no idea what a rapid-fire sleeve crossbow looked like, having never seen one before. In addition, he was not familiar with the core formation of the soul guide device, so he assembled it according to his imagination and ended up with this weird look. Hey, give it some strength. Aim at the target and take a deep breath. Li Xian's right index finger slowly touched the handle that could be bent, and then he mobilized his own soul power to activate the core magic circle inside. So far, no accidents have occurred. After all, the testing of the core magic array has been completed separately. With the existence of the magic circle, his rapid-fire sleeve crossbow did not need crossbow wings and springs at all, which also made him make the rapid-fire sleeve crossbow faster. Ready, fire. It only takes a moment to launch a hidden weapon. As the handle made a slight sound, a blue light flashed in the center of the crossbow arm of the rapid-fire sleeve crossbow. The soul power flowed into the engraved soul pattern through the core magic circle, and a huge driving force came out, hitting the thimble hard and pushing the fixed arrow out. Call out. No explosion. The core magic array has been taken care of, so this kind of accident will certainly not happen. Li Xian's eyes flickered, he put down the crossbow in his arms, looked at the pierced wall 10 meters away, and then his gaze fell on the intact target 2 meters away. A burst of excitement. Awkward self-deprecation. The first launch was successful, but the accuracy was a little lacking. Used in team battles, an arrow is fired, but before the enemy is defeated, one of our own people is killed first. Li Xian clicked his tongue, slightly dissatisfied. After prying open the crossbow arm of the rapid-fire sleeve crossbow on the table and opening it, he found that the core array pattern inside was smoking, and the soul pattern engraved earlier was also damaged. The material is not good, so it becomes disposable. The most important core array pattern on the soul guide must be made of fine materials or rare items. Li Xian's wallet is only enough for him to buy a 100-year-old soul beast crystal core, let alone the excellent metal embryo. The production of hidden weapons has just stopped at the stage of quenching and shaping the iron. If Li Xian wants to forge such good iron, it will be difficult to accomplish it even if he is given tons of excellent materials. I envy Xiao San. She made a living from this in her previous life and has memorized the smelting techniques by heart. Li Xian first recorded the results of the experiment on the wall, and then his martial soul entered his body and he went to rest on the bench next to him. In his mind, he quietly started Plan B, buying some 10-year soul beast crystal cores, and then selling them after deciding on them. Make a lot of money from it. It would take several years for his smelting technique to reach perfection, so it would be better to hire a good blacksmith to forge him a piece of excellent metal. Sometimes, people don't need to force themselves to do something. They just need to master the core technology of engraving magic arrays, and then hand over the peripheral production to others to complete. Hehe, this is an excellent idea. Instead of wasting that time, it is better to use it to improve your soul power. A side job should be treated as a side job. It shouldn't be a waste of time. Knock, Knock. There were 2 knocks on the door, and outside the office, Ma Xiaonu's voice came, Li Xian, what are you doing in there? Why is there a big hole in the wall of the spirit hall, and the tiles outside have fallen off? Ah! Li Xian was stunned. From his perspective, there was only a small hole in the wall. Moreover, during the process of adjusting the continuous fire sleeve crossbow, he tested the power of the arrows and found that even if they could penetrate the wall, they would not be able to fly very far. Is the recoil that strong? Wait a minute, Master Ma. After packing up, he hurried out. Soon, the 2 arrived outside the spirit hall, stood on the street, and looked up at the wall on the 2nd floor of the spirit hall. A large, irregular hole can be clearly seen. Li Xian scratched his head and said, Master Ma, how much is the repair cost? I'll pay for it. You kid. Ma Xianou's injury in the Star Forest has healed, and only his forehead is bandaged. He had been silently supporting Li Xian's tinkering with the soul guide, but now he realized that he couldn't continue to indulge him. What if he demolishes the spirit hall one day? I don't want you to pay for the repairs. You have to move your office outside. The spirit hall won't tolerate you messing around. As the head of the spirit hall, he only manages the spirit hall branch in Notting City, and the house is not Matthew's personal property. All right. Seeing that he had caused trouble, Li Xian did not refute. Ma Xiaonou had been very good to him. With his hands behind his back, Ma Xiaonou walked back panting, and Li Xian followed him. Master Ma, is there any vacant place where I can move out? Please give me a way. After a brief silence, Ma Xiaonou stretched out his hand and patted Li Xian's forehead, let's go to my house. No one has lived in that house for a long time. It will be cleaner if someone takes care of it. Don't demolish it. Matthew No is a native of Nottingham. When the Soul Masters reach the end of their road, they will think of ways to make a profit for themselves. He has a lot of properties. Li Xian heard that at his age, he still has a lover who is 20 years younger than him. Therefore, it is normal and reasonable to have more families to cheat on. Thank you, Master Ma, you are truly my dear master. Li Xian chuckled and shamelessly clasped his hands together. Haha, I'm very happy that you can say that. If my descendants had your talent, I would wake up laughing in my dreams. Come with me, I have something to discuss with you. Okay. A few minutes later. In Ma Xianou's office, after finishing the tasks at hand, Ma Xiaonou handed a stack of documents to Li Xian. Looking at the eye-catching red head, I read it out unconsciously. Registration form for the core competition for internal members of the Wuhan branch hall in Notting City, Fasno province. As soon as Li Xian read this, he heard Ma Xianou's voice. Fill this out. There are 2 more to come. You can skip the introduction. Core competition. Li Xian muttered to himself, and immediately thought of the reminder given to him by Fixia. He said that Mission and the Dolan family wanted to take revenge on him, and would definitely send people to attack him during the Spirit Hall's discipleship competition. Li Xian remembered this incident very clearly, and he also knew about the Wuhan teaching competition. But Li Xian was still considering whether to participate, when Ma Xiaonou approached him so quickly. Putting the form down, Li Xian frowned and asked, Master Ma, is it necessary to participate in this core competition? Ma Xiaonou said slowly, are you worried about your young age? It's okay. There is no age limit for the competition. Anyone who meets the spirit power requirements can participate. As for danger, there is no need to worry. The competition is still in the preliminary stage and it will take at least 2 years of screening. Lao Su and I have done background checks on you. With your abilities, you can basically walk all over the place in the Fasno province. The competition matches will also give you opponents of similar age. You don't have to worry about your soul power. Li Xian frowned but did not refute. What he was worried about was not the age issue, but what if Mission and the Dolan family were deliberately trying to do something bad and use underhanded tricks on him? After all, it is difficult to guard against villains, and poisoning and hidden arrows are all possible. He needs to ensure his own safety. When he becomes a Soul King or Soul Emperor in the future, he will naturally no longer be afraid of these things. Master Ma, I'm just worried that someone is plotting against me from behind. What should I do? Chapter 50. In front of Ma Xiaonou, Li Xian directly expressed his concerns, and there was no need to hide these from Ma Xiaonou. Doing something bad. Ma Xiaonou's pupils twitched as he thought of something. Oh no. Lao Su and I didn't think of this. You are really smart, Li Xian. Ma Xiaonou immediately stood up and found the list of known people in the Fasno area from the shelf. Why didn't he think of that? Dolan, who died in the Star Forest, had had friction with Li Xian. The 2 major families suffered a setback and lost face, so how could they give up? If they want to deal with Li Xian, they will definitely start with competitive matching. Matthew hurriedly looked through the personnel information, looking for the personnel information of Dolan and Mission's family, with a changeable look in his eyes. On the other side, seeing Ma Xiaonou's reaction, Li Xian's heart sank, realizing that this matter was inevitable. Because, the carelessness of Matthew and Dean Su just proved that Fixia's information was accurate. As a child of the nobility, she understood too well the ways of the noble secret fighting, and also understood what means the Dolan family would take to seek revenge. So, she came here specially that day just to convey this message, but due to her proud personality, she didn't express it clearly. Li Xian remembered that she had given him a special warning before she left. Fixia thinks a lot. Li Xian did not blame Ma Xiaonou and Dean Su for their carelessness. In fact, if he had no contact with Fixia, no one would have noticed this potential threat. It is easy for Fishia to think of this from the perspective of the nobility. She even inquired about possible competitions held by the Spirit Hall, and anticipated this danger from the perspective of the Dolan family's conspiracy. After all, Li Xian is a member of the Spirit Hall. The Dolan family doesn't dare to take direct action, but it is very likely that they will send someone to plot against him. She's so nice to me. Li Xian couldn't help but feel moved when he thought of this. If it weren't for Fishia's reminder, there would have been a real possibility of being ambushed this time. After all, this competition was held inside the Spirit Hall, and no one could have imagined that the opponent would attack secretly with a purpose. Ma Xianyou's face was gloomy. Sure enough, there are people from the Mission and Dolan families. Moreover, judging from their spiritual power levels, they are not commensurate with their young ages. Having said that, Ma Xianyou couldn't help but clench his fists. Master Ma, is this martial arts competition really that important? The competition doesn't end with just one match. There are multiple rounds of screening in each division. Just arranging the preliminary battles will take 1 to 2 years. Each small division and large division has corresponding rewards for good rankings. It is said that the one who advances to the next round with the highest points in the Fast No division will be rewarded with a unique soul beast of the best age, and the Spirit Hall will send professionals to help hunt it. Yet, Li Xian's heart moved. It was Ma Xianyou and Dean Su who were thinking about him, because the two elders were no longer able to help with the hunting of the next spirit ring. Even if he entered Tiandu Royal Academy without identity and status, the teachers would not pay too much attention to him. They only let him participate in this competition for their own future considerations. Ma Xianyou sat down, threw the list of players on the table, and said in a deep voice, "There will be some monsters in every competition. Although you are also a monster, you are still very young. In this regional competition, Lao Su and I just want to let you hone your skills. After all, there are not many such actual combat opportunities. Of course, it would be better if you can get a higher score to qualify. But we forgot about the Dolan family. Oh, let me think about it. I can't let you go if there's any danger." Ma Xianyou even thought of using the tokens of the two elders in the Elder Hall to deter this matter, but he hesitated again. The nobles were deliberately seeking revenge and sent a soul master without any foot to attack Li Xian. How could he prevent it? Conspiracy is the most troublesome thing. You know your opponent might attack you, but you can't imagine how he will attack you. You may not even be able to find any evidence after the attack. There is a death quota in the competition, and one of the forms Li Xian needs to sign is a voluntary competition form, and he will bear the responsibility for any casualties. Looking at Matthew's gloomy and angry expression, Li Xian lowered his eyelids and thought carefully. His eyes suddenly flickered, and he asked, "Master Ma, tell me, if I forge an identity, can I participate in this competition?" Ma Xianyou was stunned for a moment. That's cheating, the punishment will be severe. You think of a solution. Li Xian smiled and rubbed his hands like a little bee. No matter what, Ma Xianyou is the person in charge of a sub-temple. All the names of the sub-district competitions must go through him. How difficult is it to forge an identity? After hearing Li Xian's clever idea, Ma Xianyou thought about it, and his gloomy face suddenly lit up. Giving this kid a fake identity can help him avoid danger. Moreover, if the Spirit Hall's upper echelons blame him, the two elder orders in his hands. Thinking of this, Ma Xianyou sat up straight. Let me think about it. Cheating has happened in previous competitions, but the consequences of being caught are very serious. It's not as simple as you think. Li Xian nodded, understood. As long as Master Ma doesn't say it's not possible, then it is feasible. When he said he was considering it, Li Xian guessed that he was finalizing the candidate for replacement. There are many people who have signed up for the Spirit Hall. After excluding the internal personnel, there are a lot of students in the Junior Spirit Academy. If you don't want to go, just forge your identity. As for the identity test, as long as he passes the registration stage, who knows what Li Xian looks like. The martial spirit of Cassia Grass is inherently mutated and unclear. It is not difficult to find a weapon spirit of the same type. As for soul power, I said that I increased by 20 levels in one day, which is just enough to register. Do you agree? You have no evidence to prove that I am wrong. Among Mission and the Dolan family, only Mission has seen what Li Xian looks like. If they want to target him, they can only lock on through the names on the list. Taking a step back, even if they knew my appearance, but the name didn't match, would the killer dare to do it? If you fail, it will be no small matter. So Li Xian thought that as long as Ma Xianyou packaged his identity well enough, he didn't need to worry at all. Unless he meets Mission in a duel, the probability of that happening is too small, and Mission is not good enough. Ma Xianyou knocked on the table and suddenly raised his head. No, Li Xian, I can help you forge your identity, but what about your spirit ring? Li Xian, your first spirit ring is a 10,000-year spirit ring, and your second is a 1,000-year spirit ring. I have searched the entire Douluo Continent and only yours is the one. If you take action, won't that mean you are exposed? Li Xian was stunned for a moment. Master Ma, is there any way to hide the spirit ring? He actually forgot about this. Ma Xianyou frowned and thought, it seems, there are some secret techniques that can block the aura of the spirit ring. However, when fighting, you need to distract yourself to activate the secret technique. This is very dangerous and not suitable for use in actual combat. Then can't I just fight quickly and decisively? Li Xian smiled, revealing his white teeth. Upon hearing this, Ma Xianyou shut up. After a moment, he chuckled, it has to be you, kid. He was not worried about Li Xian being frustrated in the battle. After doing some background checks and knowing that the potential threats were all in the provincial capital, Ma Xiaoyunyo suddenly felt that Li Xian's idea was not wrong. So there's hope. Li Xian smiled. Well, you go back first, I'll think about the identity issue. Matthew's mind also became clear. With this kid's ability, it's not easy to conceal his spirit ring and kill his opponent instantly. As long as you avoid the threat of being ambushed, the competition will be safe. Okay. Since Mashino agreed, Li Xian doesn't have to worry about anything. As the head of the Wuhan branch hall, to be able to climb to this position, his brains and means are not simple. Li Xian put the matter behind him for the moment, returned to the office and started packing his things. Mashino gave him the address of the house, and Li Xian planned to take a batch of things over to take a look first. If it's not far away, you can just bring your own things. Many parts were stuffed into the box at once. Li Xian found the groom in charge of shipping inside the spirit hall and gave him the address to ask him to help deliver the parts. Not every spirit hall worker is qualified to use internal vehicles and horses, and Li Xian is obviously not one of them. Returning to the spirit hall was like going home for him. Everyone knew about his relationship with Ma Shinyo and called him Master Ma. Now, people inside the spirit hall were secretly saying that Li Xian was Ma Shinyo's grandson. With this unclear identity in mind, the groom hurriedly took the box and immediately took Li Xian away. 10 minutes later, the carriage arrived at the Third Ring Street area of A Nottingham. After getting off the car, we found an independent two-story villa with a courtyard. It is not far from the primary Soul Academy, and Matthew must have considered this aspect. The house looked very new and was estimated to have been built no more than 5 years ago. I wonder which lover Matthew had built this house for. Li Xian even saw a baby carriage in the yard. After thanking the groom, Li Xian carried the box into the building. It was cleaner than expected, the room was cool, the sofa and other furniture were covered with a layer of white cloth, and all living facilities were available. Li Xian walked up the stairs to the second floor, and then saw 2 bedrooms, a study and a bathroom. Mashino had to work anywhere, and Li Xian was looking for an office. The excess items were moved to the empty bedroom next door, and the office was used to make soul guides. I took a look at the working atmosphere. From the south window, I could see an empty park and pond, and there were 2 pine trees planted outside the north window. The atmosphere is quiet and comfortable. You can bring Yuexi here to stay next time. Compared to the college dormitory, this place obviously feels like home. Changing the living environment occasionally can cleanse the soul. Of course, these are just idle thoughts. After a quick packing, Li Xian immediately called a carriage and moved all his things from the spirit hall over. Half a day later, I came back here and broke through the wall between the bedroom and the study, using one for storing tools and the other for work. Looking out the window at the park in the distance, I felt secretly happy. From now on, this will be his weapons workshop. When I returned to the Soul Temple, it was already dark. Li Xian took the big bag of crystal cores he bought on the road and went straight back to the dormitory. He didn't even have time to eat when he got home. He poured the crystal cores on the table and started to determine their age. Hearing the noise, Yuexi came out in her pajamas, grabbing the corner of the door with her little hand. You're back. I haven't seen you for a day. Hush. Li Xian remained silent, sat cross-legged on the sofa, and fiddled with it for a while. He opened his eyes, threw the crystal core in his hand aside, and then touched the next one. Yuexi saw a flash of light in Li Xian's palm. The crystal core that he held and threw aside was sparkling and releasing a strong soul power. Walked quietly to the side, squatted and watched. It's amazing what he's doing. Change successfully, critical hit, change period X10 hey. Li Xian suddenly opened his eyes and looked at a soul beast crystal core in his hand, which had expanded several times in size. It was a dark red oval crystal. As it was fixed successfully, a ball of blood rolled inside, and the crystal core actually became hot in his hand. Changed to X10, which means 10,000 years. It changed from a 10-year-old crystal core to a 10,000-year-old soul beast crystal core. After adjusting the price by more than 10 yuan, a critical hit finally occurred, and Li Xian was extremely surprised. Things like crystal cores have violent internal soul power and cannot be directly absorbed by the human body. In this age when soul masters are disappearing, not many people need crystal cores anymore. Only some pharmacies, weapon shops, or antique shops need these things. Of course, nobles will also use them to make metals to show their special status. Although the market has become smaller, it does not mean that the price of crystal cores is low. In fact, when a soul beast has cultivated for 10,000 years, the power in its body condenses into soul rings and soul bones, and it rarely produces crystal cores. Scarcity makes things valuable. Most of the crystal cores circulating on the market are hundreds of years old, followed by those that are 1,000 or 2,000 years old. Li Xian had also ordered a large number of 1,000-year crystal cores, which could be sold for a lot of gold soul coins, but the 10,000-year crystal core in his hand was worth even more. Profitable. At this time, Li Xian noticed Yuexi squatting beside him with a curious look on her face. Hey, was she the one next to him just now, which is why she attacked so hard? Looking at that innocent and lovely appearance, Li Xian's heart moved. After the fusion of soul power, will it have any effect on the fixed age? Moonlit evening. Come over. Oh. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.